Hey everyone. Welcome back to another video. This is the first part of What If Naruto was written by Jiraiya the Gallant. This story was written by the author of Escape to Kumo and Kami's Experiment, Mr. BJ Takush. Show him some love in the comments below. I will pin a comment from him. Now, I will warn you guys that I will not edit out any lemons for this one, as they are an integral part of the story, so if you don't like stories that contain lemons, I suggest either clicking off or skipping them. Summary: what if instead of Kishimoto, the Naruto story was written by Kishimoto's character, Jiraiya the Toad Sanin? Join the legendary, perverse and gallant tale of Uzumaki Naruto. Watch him discover his bloodline and use his power to conquer all obstacles on his path to pursue the most beautiful romance buried in a harem of all time. As always, huge thanks to all of my Patreons. Making these videos would be impossible without you guys' support, especially with all the restrictions YouTube places on my type of content. As always, the rest of the story is already out over there for you guys, along with about 40 other different stories you can enjoy. Also, feel free to send me any messages over there if you have any questions or even if you just want to chat. Link to all of that will be in the description. Anyways, everyone, enjoy the video. A ninja's life is not measured by how he lived, but rather what they managed to accomplish before their death. Jiraiya, aka me. I am the man who has no enemies in the north, south, east and west, not even in the heavens, for I am the Toad Sanin. White-haired toad tamer, even a crying baby would stare in awe, for I am Jiraiya the Gallant, wooer of women and scourge of men. When I gave that intro to my third student and protagonist of this story, he nearly cried from inspiration. Okay, I do not wish to start my tale off with a lie. He grunted at me and walked away from me. Alas! Even my most challenging, and therefore greatest, student, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, came around to appreciate the ways of Jiraiya the Gallant. This book is the story of my student's accomplishments, the rocky path to peace and the conquest of some of the most beautiful and powerful kunoichi in the elemental nations. As I sit in my study, it is my hope that this book becomes my bestseller. It is my hope that my treasured readers, and super perverts, will cry, laugh, love and triumph alongside my heroic stud of a student. His legacy has touched every soul in the elemental nations, and nearly every nation bears stories of his triumphs. If you don't believe me, simply find the most beautiful lady in your nation and ask them of Naruto. They will surely be able to tell you their own unique, heart-wrenching and panty-dropping tales of Naruto. Before we begin the story, I feel the need to address my many failures. I admit my sins and accept responsibility for them. Naruto has forgiven this old man, and he has given his express permission to share the gallant story of a boy that grew into a man that saved the world. Before you burn the book for my many sins, please read to the end to see how I redeemed myself in his eyes and earned his forgiveness as I accompanied him and guided him on his path to save the world. A sad start. A cute raven-haired girl with coal-black eyes was walking down the street after training with her cousin, Shisui, who had already managed to graduate from the academy. It was quite the accomplishment, in today's day and age, to graduate from Konoha's Shinobi Academy early. Shisui was only 11 and he had already graduated, which gave the ravenette hope for her own future. She was 8 years old, and she would be attending the academy in 2 years. Itachi nearly tripped over her feet in exhaustion as she trudged her way to her favorite store that had the widest selection of Pocky. The thought of Pocky invigorated the young girl and nearly made her forget her exhaustion. Her father always pushed her too far in her training, especially after she unlocked her Sharingan last year. Now, she was tired, sore and bordering on chakra exhaustion, but the thought of the delicious Pocky was enough to motivate her. As the cute little girl was salivating at the thought of Pocky, she heard a clattering in the alleyway followed by the shouts of a man. It was coming from just up ahead, and the Uchiha girl was curious, so she took a look down the alley. What she saw horrified her. A man in a storekeeper apron was using the lid of a trash can to beat on a small, crumpled mass that was curled into the fetal position in the alleyway. She heard the boy's whimpers of pain, and that was enough to spur her into action. Her family oversaw policing of the village, after all. "Sir! Please stop," Itachi shouted in the commanding Uchiha tone that her father taught her to use. The man stopped with the trash can lid overhead, ready to strike the boy once more. He turned to look at who addressed him, and his facial features softened. "Good morning, Lady Itachi Uchiha, how can I help you today?" Itachi's stoic face frowned as she looked at the man. "For starters, could you tell me why you are beating a child?" She placed her tiny hands on her hips in an imitation of her mother. The man scoffed, glanced at the whimpering boy and then turned back to Itachi. "This boy was stealing out of my trash. I was simply teaching him a lesson that stealing is wrong." "Stealing?" Itachi asked incredulously, which was really cute coming out of her tiny personage. "Stealing something that you have already thrown away?" Her stern gaze, or perhaps the clan she represented, intimidated the man. This boy stole food scraps. He isn't welcome around my store, and he knows that. The man said in a huff. Itachi held up a hand and cut the man off. Let me stop you there. If you do not wish for my father to hear of this, then I suggest you return to your store. I will take charge of the boy. The man bowed to Itachi. Yes, little lady. He turned to walk back into his store, but he scowled at the boy and gave him one parting kick before he walked back into his store. Itachi ran over to the boy who was still in the fetal position, and she saw that his clothes were worn and pretty much rags. He was also incredibly dirty and smelly, but that wasn't what caught Itachi's eye. She was watching wounds close in front of her eye. The big gash from the trash can lid over his left eye was glowing faintly and healing. Before she even touched the boy, the wound had healed over completely and didn't even leave a scar in its wake. Itachi shelved that thought and reached down to ruffle the boy's hair. Hey little guy, my name is Itachi, what's yours? The blonde-haired boy had stunning azure eyes that crackled with life in their endless depths. He peeked out from behind his arms that he was using to shield his face, and he gave a wary glance to the girl. He seemed to sense that she meant him no harm, so he spoke wearily to the girl.
I am Naruto, Uzumaki Naruto.
Itachi gave the boy a soft and understanding smile. Well, Naruto, do you want to come with me and get some Pocky? Maybe after that you can come with me and take a shower at my home? Naruto's eyes glistened in hope. It was so rare for this innocent child to be treated with kindness, so when it was shown to him it was incredibly hard for him to refuse. Really? He couldn't stop the excitement from cracking through his weariness and into his voice. Itachi let her soft smile grow and she held out a hand to help Naruto up. Really? So, Naruto, why are you out here alone? Naruto's smile cracked and he frowned as he accepted the hand up. I don't know. I got kicked out of the orphanage a while ago and I have just been living on the streets to get by, you know? Itachi was startled by the casual way he said that, and she shook her head in the negative. No, I don't know. Naruto, that shouldn't have happened. Naruto shrugged nonchalantly. People don't really like me in the village. They didn't like me in the orphanage either. I have nowhere else to go, so. Itachi pulled the little boy into her arms protectively, completely disregarding the filth and stench. Alright, Naruto. Let's go get some Pocky, then I'm going to bring you to my home. Naruto's eyes sparkled as he looked up at the older girl. Thank you, Itachi-chan. As Itachi started walking towards her destination, she cocked an eye, which was much more expressive than most Uchiha. Chan? I am older than you. How old are you, anyway? Naruto scratched the back of his neck sheepishly and he gave her such a heartwarming smile that Itachi blushed a bit. Sorry. I thought it was polite to put Chan on the end of a girl's name. Nobody ever teaches me. And I am 5, I think. Itachi thought the boy was so cute, earnest and expressive, unlike her spoiled little brother. Okay. Itachi started before looking at the boy more scrupulously. You are pretty tall for a 5-year-old. Although, you are too skinny. Naruto looked down to the ground. I don't get to eat every day, and when I do, I have to fight off dogs and rats, he chuckled wryly, which haunted Itachi's young soul. And villagers too, he added. To the untainted innocence of a child, this was completely unacceptable. She took Naruto into her favorite Pocky store and her analytical eyes noticed the glare that the shopkeeper gave Naruto. She paid more attention to the looks she, or more precisely, Naruto was receiving as they walked through the village towards the Uchiha compound. It was their new compound that was positioned on the edge of the village, which was something her father bickered about non-stop recently. Itachi and Naruto continued through the gates of the Uchiha compound, where she checked Naruto in as her guests. The guards protested mildly, but Itachi gave them a firm look and used her power as the heir of the clan head. She didn't like to overuse her position, but this was one occasion that we would gladly put it to use. The guards relented and she walked hand in hand with Naruto, which drew firm and analytical gazes from the Uchiha adults and cocked heads from the younger generation. Kasama, I am home, and I brought a guest. Itachi called out in a soft voice as she crossed the threshold into the home and removed her shoes. She smiled when Naruto followed her example. And I have a guest. In the kitchen, sweetheart. Who is the guest? Mikoto's melodic voice called back. His name is Naruto. Itachi answered as she walked Naruto towards the kitchen. They heard the clatter of a kitchen utensil and silence from her mother. When the children entered the kitchen, Mikoto clasped her hands over her mouth with the ladle still in hand. Her eyes widened when she saw the state of Naruto's clothing and her eyes darkened in remorse and suppressed rage. She put the ladle down on the counter and knelt in front of Naruto after plastering a motherly smile on her face. This was the son of her best friend and she had been made to stay away from him this whole time. She and Fugaku had fought tooth and nail to get the boy out of the orphanage, but they had lost that fight. And Naruto Mikoto stuttered softly, What happened to you? Why aren't you in the orphanage? Naruto's hair shadowed his eyes, and his eyes were fixed on the ground. Uchi. Naruto took a deep and steadying breath and looked up into Mikoto's charcoal orbs.
Uchiha-sama, I was kicked out the orphanage on my 4th birthday.
Naruto's confidence faded, and his eyes became haunted, and he looked back down to the ground. Mikoto looked expectantly at Itachi, who gave her a full recount of her experience with Naruto. Itachi could tell that her mother was upset, and she was struggling to restrain her rage. She saw her mother take a deep breath before she enveloped Naruto in a hug. The boy's eyes widened, and he began weeping openly into her shoulder as he was pulled into a hug by an adult for possibly the first time in his life. It was clear that all the child wanted was a little bit of love. After a minute of a heart-swelling, tender hug, Mikoto pushed the boy away softly and kept her arms on his shoulders to lock eyes with him. Naruto, you can stay here for now. You are safe here. Itachi-chan will show you where the bath is, and when you are done, we will get you some fresh clothes and some food. Tears fell unbidden out of Naruto's azure orbs and they glimmered through the droplets of salt water, which caused Mikoto to start crying as well. Naruto pulled her back into a hug thinking that may make her feel better. The boy was caught off guard when the beautiful woman began crying harder before his head was smashed into her bust. Mikoto was thinking about how bad the village failed the son of her best friend, and she was crying out the last of her weakness so that she could properly channel this rage later. Itachi walked Naruto up to the bathroom and prepared the bath for the young boy. As he removed his shredded t-shirt and shorts, without any shame or decency, she blushed and turned around. However, Itachi had eidetic memory and the starved body with the prominent ribs stuck in her memory. As she heard the water slosh, she turned around and offered the boy a sincere smile. Would you let me wash your back? Itachi asked softly with a small blush on her cheeks. It is tough to reach that spot without help. Naruto shrunk into the water and started blowing bubbles nervously. He nodded his head shyly. Itachi-san, why are you being so nice to me? Itachi continued scrubbing his back, because nobody deserves to be treated the way you have been treated. I don't know what's going on, but it is not very nice. And Itachi-chan will do just fine. Yeah, Naruto mumbled. The adults and the old orphanage lady always call me a demon spawn, murderer. Itachi frowned at the new information as her little mind worked overtime to figure out the reason for such foul treatment of a child. Well, Naruto, what do you like to do? At Naruto's confused look, Itachi elaborated. What do you like to do for fun? Naruto frowned. Well, I like good leftovers. I go to the playground sometimes, but the adults don't let their kids play with me. Now the kids pick on me whenever they see me. Naruto shook off the sad atmosphere and pushed his fake smile on his face. What do you like to do for fun, Itachi-chan? Itachi was surprised by the sudden change in demeanor, but she could sense that it was fake. That thought only saddened Itachi further. Well, I am training to be a ninja. I train every day and I hope to graduate from the academy early like my cousin. Naruto splashed water out of the tub as he turned excitedly towards Itachi. You are going to be a ninja? That is so cool. Itachi cocked her head. You want to be a ninja? Naruto nodded enthusiastically. You bet I do, Dada-bio. Itachi giggled at the genuine enthusiasm and verbal tick. Hee hee, you're funny. Have you started training yet? Naruto frowned. No, nobody will play ninja with me, and nobody will train me. I mean, they all hate me. Itachi frowned once again. Her face was getting sore from the rapid transitions between joy and depression. She shook off the feeling and offered a solution that would impact her own life more than she could ever have expected. Well, do you want to train with me? Naruto's head was a blur of up and down movement as his smile shone brightly. Yes. The excited shout broke Mikoto out of her musings and she looked up the stairs fondly. She wouldn't back down this time, she would help that boy. Fugaku Uchiha was entering his home after a long day as the police chief. Every day he was made to deal with low-life civilians, idiotic shinobi and some downright evil and stupid people. He sighed in contentment as he removed his ninja sandals and he rose and walked into his home. I am home, my love, he said stoically, which made the loving name feel almost hollow. Dinner will be ready soon, dear. We have a guest. Mikoto called back. Fugaku's right eyebrow rose as he entered his dining room and saw his son and daughter sitting at the table with a blonde boy that he recognized. When the recognition clicked, Fugaku recoiled. This boy should not be in his home. Not because he didn't want him there, but because he had been forbidden from taking the boy in by the council. Maintaining his stoic visage, he sat down at the table with his children and guest. He could tell that Sasuke wasn't happy about the boy's presence or use of his clothes. "Welcome to my home." Fugaku addressed the blonde boy dressed in his son's clothes. Naruto startled a bit, but he remembered his manners and bowed to the man. "Thank you for having me, Uchiha-sama." Fugaku nodded stiffly to the boy and turned to Itachi. "How was your training today?" Itachi inclined her head. "It was good, father. I was able to fulfill your assigned tasks within the assigned time. I was able to use the great fireball jutsu 5 times today." Fugaku let a smile tug at the edges of his lips. "Good. And you, Sasuke, what did you do today?" His stoic tone was unflinching and cold, which contrasted so sharply with Mikoto's warm words. Sasuke bowed. "I did the workout and practiced my kunai and shuriken jutsu." Fugaku nodded. "Now, Naruto, how did you end up in my home?" Before Naruto could answer, Mikoto brought food in and placed it on the table. As the family ate, Mikoto and Itachi filled Fugaku in on what they had been able to squeeze out of Naruto. He was enraged by the orphanage and disappointed in his police force. He knew, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that his police force had seen the boy. It would be impossible for them to miss him for 10 months. The thought further enraged Fugaku. The boy had been living alone on the streets for 10 fucking months. Fugaku's chakra flared, and a murderous aura began to spread before Mikoto calmed him down. He kept his anger contained for the remainder of the dinner and he did his best to make the young blonde feel welcome. This would be a tomorrow problem and he knew that his wife would have words. Of course, Fugaku didn't even have to wait a minute after putting the children to bed for Mikoto to share those words with him. "Those evil, decrepit motherfuckers," Mikoto hissed within the privacy of Fugaku's study. "I am going to rip them limb from limb for what they have done to Kushina's and Minato's son." Fugaku frowned but didn't reprimand his wife. "I don't disagree with you. I will schedule an appointment with the Hokage tomorrow." Mikoto scowled. "That spineless monkey will just cower to the council again. That evil, one-eyed bastard will never let us care for Naruto and the civilian council would sooner kill him themselves than let us raise him in a proper home." Fugaku's frown deepened because he knew his wife was right. "My love, our clan is already under enough pressure, and it is because of Danzo that we will not be able to force their hand." "That evil bastard," Mikoto hissed. "We know that he is the one responsible for our fallen reputation and forced relocation." Fugaku sighed and rubbed his eyes wearily. "You are right, my love. We do not have enough pull on the council to oppose him and the civilian council simultaneously. There were too many reports of the Sharingan being imprinted on the Kyuubi's eyes." Mikoto stomped her foot and her Sharingan flared to life. "And we have done everything we can to be cleared of suspicion. There is only one Uchiha in history that has ever been capable of controlling the Kyuubi and he died decades ago." Fugaku held his hands up defensively to his wife. She was always so passionate when they were in private. "You and I are in agreement on this front. All we can do is work to gain back our lost trust and honor, even if it wasn't our fault." Mikoto calmed down as her husband's tone softened. "I am sorry, dear. I know it is not your fault. It is just when I see what they have done to that child it just makes everything go red." Fugaku pulled Mikoto into a hug. "Even if the bastards forbid it, we will find a way to support him." The next day, Fugaku and Mikoto walked into the Hokage's office together during their scheduled time. They were both in combat mode and not ready to take any bullshit. The morning they shared with the young blonde had hardened their resolve and they were going to make sure that the boy is taken care of. Mikoto spotted the Sandaime, third, Hokage and she saw the weariness on his face. She could care less, the old monkey should have appointed a new Hokage rather than resuming the position. "Ah, Fugaku, and Mikoto, it is good to see you again. To what do I owe the pleasure of your company?" Hiruzen said as he forced the grandfatherly smile and tone into his address. Mikoto deferred to Fugaku and the Uchiha patriarch spoke. "Yesterday, my daughter Itachi found Naruto Uzumaki being beaten in an alley by a shop owner. She intervened and brought him to my home." Hiruzen slammed his hands to the desk and interrupted. "Naruto? What was he doing on the streets?" Mikoto scowled and spoke out of turn, but her husband allowed it. "That damned orphanage kicked him out on his 4th birthday. He has been living alone on the streets for the past 10 months. Hiruzen's eyes widened, and he had the decency to look ashamed. "And he is at your home now?" Fugaku nodded and took over for his wife. "Yes, he is. The boy is extremely malnourished and from what we have squeezed out from him, he has had a terrible life." Hiruzen cocked an eyebrow and asked for an explanation, which Mikoto was more than happy to provide. He said that he slept in a closet at the orphanage, only got fed once every other day, got beaten regularly and that is only what we have gotten out of the boy. Hiruzen sighed wearily. "Very well. I will send a shinobi to escort him back to the orphanage." Hiruzen was cut off by 2 flares of chakra that were saturated with enough killing intent to make Hiruzen, the god of shinobi, flinch. Fugaku growled at his village leader. No. His voice was so firm and menacing, that Hiruzen gulped. That boy cannot be left in the care of any civilians. I would ask you to leave him in the care of the Uchiha, but I already know that you are too weak to stand up to the elders and civilians. Fugaku's firm tone was derisive and full of loathing. Hiruzen was only willing to take so much battering before he forced himself to harden his emotions. He stood up and engaged in a stare down against the 2 Uchiha. I only tolerate your insubordination for Naruto's sake. You will not address me in such a manner again. HN. Fugaku and Mikoto countered in the usual Uchiha manner simultaneously. Hiruzen sighed, what would you have me do? Your clan cannot raise the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Mikoto growled like a panther before she snapped and cut him off. Don't you dare refer to him in that way. You used to see him as a boy. As the son of Minato and Kushina, who both gave their lives for the sake of this village. Hiruzen held up his hands at his mistake. He was spending too much time around the Elder Council. My mistake, you are right. However, the point remains, the council will never let you raise the child. Fugaku stepped forward, you can use the orphan stipend and buy the boy an apartment. Plus, I know Minato and Kushina had enough in their savings to support the child. We cannot use those funds. Hiruzen protested. Most of the council does not know that he is Minato and Kushina's son. If we use those funds, then enemies could appear out of the shadows, and he will be in more danger. Mikoto stomped her foot hard enough to send shudders through the room. He is in danger already, she shouted, completely irate with her Sharingan blazing. He gotten beaten by a mob on his 4th birthday, and according to the child he had been beaten weekly if not daily. Fugaku spoke up before the Hokage could. My wife is right. Your plan to obscure his past has put him at more danger since his Kyuubi status was revealed. If things continue this way, he will not make it to his teens. Hiruzen sighed wearily, we will have to notify the council. Grow a fucking spine, Mikoto spat venomously. You are the Hokage. Grow a fucking spine. My wife is being crass right now, but she is right. You do not need to notify the council of anything. Get the boy an apartment and we will help him acclimate, Fugaku said after forcibly calming himself. Hiruzen looked at the 2 silently for a couple minutes, knowing full well that they were right. Finally, he broke eye contact and sighed. Minato's old apartment is vacant. I will place him in there. We can get him on the orphan stipend, but I will not pull money from the Uzumaki or Namikaze accounts until it is time for him to know about his parents. Mikoto scowled but Fugaku nodded, very well. That will be all, Hokage-sama. When the elders and civilian council find out about this, I will back you up. Hiruzen nodded, grateful for the support. That will do. Care for Naruto today and I will have the apartment prepared by tomorrow. Later that night, Mikoto sat down in Fugaku's study and penned a letter to Jiraiya. It was a little-known fact, but Mikoto was one of Jiraiya's Icha consultant. She reviewed his scripts and performed the spelling and grammar checks. That was how she knew how to contact the spy master of Konoha. He knew that Jiraiya wouldn't tolerate the plan once he heard of Naruto's treatment. She also knew that Jiraiya would be able to better support Naruto off the radar than Hiruzen would. Notes from Jiraiya the Gallant, my godson is a lucky boy, and it was that letter from Mikoto that brought me back to reality. Before that, I simply trusted my sensei, the Hokage, to do the right thing in my absence. It was the deal I made with him. If I take care of the spy network and write Icha, then he would care for my godson and make sure he is okay. Needless to say, I was pissed when I found out about his treatment. Let me add, that Itachi girl was an absolute blessing on the boy. The first time I stopped back in town, I saw them training alone together. I know they were only kids, but I called it there and then that they would end up together. That being said, I never expected that they would have such a wild, unique and thrilling journey together. Time skip, 4 years later, Itachi was forced to duck backwards as a foot swung over her head and she lashed out with a straight kick from her declined position. Naruto huffed as air was forcibly expelled from his chest. He rolled backwards with the momentum of the blow and rolled sideways to avoid a dropkick that Itachi threw with terrifying force. When his azure orb saw the spiderweb cracks in the ground, he gulped and kipped back up to his feet. Naruto was forced to pull out 2 kunai to block the accurately thrown shuriken of Itachi, but he couldn't block and dodge them all and took a shuriken to his right thigh. He winced in pain, but he forced himself to continue, knowing that Itachi would never let that be the end of the fight or his pain. He parried a right straight and made the common mistake of looking into Itachi's 2 Tomo Sharingan eyes. Shisui laughed as Naruto's body crashed to the ground. The kid is still horrible at countering genjutsu. Itachi huffed and pulled the shuriken out of Naruto's thigh. She marveled once more at the boy's astonishing healing rate. My genjutsu are better than most. He can counter low-rank genjutsu, but out-ocular jutsu are still too much. Shisui clicked his teeth, damn 12-year-old prodigy. It took me until last year to get good with my ocular genjutsu and I am still not as good as you. Itachi shrugged, not my problem. She reached down and pulsed chakra into Naruto, who had a goofy and pleased look on his face. Plus, I know his weakness. He probably chose to stay in the genjutsu. Damn right I did, Naruto said. Ramen baths are awesome. It is such a great and revolutionary idea. Shisui looked to Itachi, who explained. I used Uchiha style, Land of Dreams. It puts the opponent into a sleep-like state and lets them see their best and wildest dreams. Naruto nodded enthusiastically. Last time, she let me stay in it for like 10 minutes and I was able to eat half a bathtub of ramen. Shisui shook his head and chuckled. She usually just tortures me. If she put me in a room full of women, then I would probably stay in. Shisui grabbed the newly emerging bump on his head as Itachi huffed. Pervert. That is why I torture you. If I put you in a brothel, then I would get nothing out of our training. Shisui chuckled nervously, but his chuckling turned to full-blown laughter at Naruto's question. What is a brothel and why would it make Shisui happy? Itachi buried her head in her hands and Shisui held his hands up and said, I ain't touching that one. I am not the one to give the kid the talk. Leave. Itachi muttered. I will do it. An hour later, a blushing Naruto and an exhausted-looking Itachi walked out of the training ground they had been using for the last 4 years. No preteen should ever have to give the talk to a 9-year-old ever again. It strained every bit of Itachi's stoicism and professionalism. That aside, Itachi had been going to the academy for the last 2 years, but she just passed the early graduation test and would be graduating soon. Because of that, she really needed to have a talk with Naruto. Hey, Ruto, you know how I graduated, right? Itachi began hesitantly as they walked back to the village. Naruto nodded. Yeah, it is super cool that you graduated early. It is pretty obvious why though. Itachi let out a deep breath. Ruto, I am going to be a shinobi now, which means that we won't be able to train like this anymore. Naruto paused mid-stride as the implication caught up with him and he remained frozen. Itachi stopped and turned around to address him. Ruto. Naruto wiped a tear away and he locked eyes with Itachi. She was already 5 feet tall, and she was turning into a beautiful young girl. Naruto locked eyes and unlocked the deep obsidian depths of Itachi's eyes and link with her soul. It will be okay, Kai. I will keep training and getting stronger. Will you still be able to give me scrolls and stuff? Itachi let out a soft smile and pulled him into a hug. Naruto was only 9, but he looked somewhere between 11 and 12. Through some unorthodox experimentation, Itachi determined that it was either the Kyuubi or Naruto's bloodline. They both knew about the Kyuubi by now, which was an interesting day in memory. Flashback. 1 year ago, Itachi was working with Naruto and Shisui on some chakra control exercises. Shisui started joining the training sessions sporadically shortly after they started. Shisui always liked sticking it to the man and he had been present in more than one council meeting that was full of depravity and bullshit concerning Naruto. Therefore, when he found out that Itachi was training with him on top of her Uchiha training, he was more than willing to help out. Thus, Shisui thought that teaching him the Shadow Clone Jutsu would be a good idea. What gave Shisui that idea? Well, the 8-year-old Naruto had about a standard Jonin's worth of chakra, and he had seen how Naruto pulled chakra out of the seal when he was low on chakra. Therefore, he decided to see if the kid could pull off the Shadow Clone Jutsu. He was more than enthusiastic to learn a jutsu that Itachi didn't know yet. The young blonde boy was practicing the jutsu when he suddenly summoned 10 shadow clones around him that looked around cluelessly. Shisui panicked when he saw the boy's chakra deplete and then Shisui watched red chakra envelop the boy's chakra circulatory system. With Naruto's natural chakra empty, the seal overpulled on the Kyuubi's chakra in order to fill the void left by Naruto's chakra and the shadow clones puffed out of existence. Naruto opened his eyes and realized that he was lying down on a floor in water that was covering half of his face. He skittered to his feet and looked around in panic. He was in a long hallway that had pipes running along the top of the hallway. On the left, he saw the pipes glowing with a cool blue chakra. On the right, the pipes were exuding an overwhelming heat and glowing a burning red. Shaking himself out of his musings, he felt pulled down the hallway, as if he knew where he needed to go. After a while, the young blonde boy arrived in a massive chamber and saw that the black half of the chamber was shaded in black and completely dark. For reasons unknown, the child walked towards the darkness, as if needing to know what lay in its depths. After the first few steps, massive golden bars appeared and blocked off the blackness. He looked at the bars that extended up taller than his eyes could see. He looked left and right and saw that he couldn't see the ends of the bars. Then his eyes were drawn to a piece of paper that had the word seal made out of much smaller kanji. Suddenly, lights shone from above in the cage and illuminated a massive fox head. Well, he thought it was a fox, but the ears didn't seem right to the young boy. Naruto gawked at the orange fox head and stood rooted in place as he took in the massive form. It was this sight that greeted the fox when it cracked one of its massive eyes open. The eye was completely colored a blood red and there was a slit running down the middle of it. Kurama was not happy about any of this. She had been trapped in two hosts for the last 85 years, and when she had finally gained freedom, she was immediately put under a genjutsu by the cursed Sharingan eye. She had memories of her rampage through Konoha, but it felt more like a lucid dream than anything. Then, the blonde mortal that rides toads showed up and ripped her damn soul in half. Damn death god literally ripped her in half. Who the hell thought that was an acceptable thing to do? Kurama had spent the last 8 years napping, regaining her energy. Minato had taken all of her yang chakra and sealed it in the death god, and that put her in a mighty bad mood. Restoring that quantity of yang chakra would take much longer than 8 years, and it made her mighty tired. Thus, Kurama was not happy to feel the pull on her chakra, and she was even less happy to see the brat that stole her chakra appear in her filthy cage. Ningen, what are you doing here? The Kyuubi growled. Naruto was snapped out of his astonishment as he looked at the fox bunny in the cage. He was startled that the big fox could talk, but he responded without thinking. I don't know. I was training and then I ended up in these sewers. I followed them and found you. Who are you? The fox snarled at the boy. It was so pointless talking to humans, even more pointless when it was human children. If you can't figure that out, then it isn't worth talking to you. Now leave me, I need to nap. Naruto looked around aimlessly before looking into the violent eye of the fox. He used his brain power and lessons from Itachi to form a calculated guess. Are you my mom? The kitsune's other eye snapped open in shock and she glared down at the human child. No. Naruto shrugged. Well, there goes that guess. I think you are the Kyuubi, and the villagers call me demon or demon spawn, so I thought you may be my mom or something. The Kyuubi looked down on the child torn between anger and amusement. It was actually a funny deduction. She may have to look through the child's memories to understand how he came to that thought. Stupid mortal monkeys will always be ignorant. You were right on your second guess, Ningen. I am the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Naruto nodded and went into a thinking pose, before his azure orb snapped open and he asked his next question. Are you hiding under Konoha? No. The Kyuubi said with a flare of killing intent, which made the boy shiver. She was hoping he would fall to his knees, but then again, if she were forced to have a jailer then she may as well have a strong jailer. We are in the seal, Ningen. Naruto cocked his head to the side. The seal? Kyuubi-sama, if you could tell me about this, I would owe you one. Nobody in my village will tell me anything, except Itachi, Shisui and Auntie Mikoto. The Kyuubi growled lowly before answering. She would really need to review her jailer's memories. Do you know what it means to owe me one? Demons take contracts and agreements seriously. Naruto nodded and reaffirmed, I will owe you one. I can count the people that have been nice to me on one hand, and I live in a village of thousands. If you agree to be nice and reasonable, then I will owe you one. The Kyuubi let out a throaty chuckle. Okay, tiny Ningen. I will tell you this and then you will leave me to nap. We are in a seal that resides on your stomach. This sewer is the representation of your mind, and these bars are the representation of the seal constraining me. Naruto thought about that and decided not to doubt the kitsune. Okay, so we are in me, and this is kind of like my mind? The Kyuubi nodded and let out a snort of hot air from her nostril that scattered the blonde locks on his head. So, am I a demon like the villagers say? The kitsune huffed once more. No. I was sealed in you when you were a baby. On my birthday, right? Naruto asked to confirm. The Kyuubi nodded slightly. Okay, I guess that makes sense. I guess. So, what do I owe you? The Kyuubi cocked its head to the side. What did it want? Find a way to change your mindscape. Until you can do that, do not speak to me again. Naruto nodded. Fair. How do I get out? The Kyuubi flared its chakra and abruptly ejected the boy from the mindscape. She made a note to review the boy's memories when she woke up from her nap. Outside, Naruto awoke to see Itachi and Shisui fretting over him as he lay up next to a tree on their training ground. When Naruto told them what happened, Shisui confirmed Naruto's experience and Itachi's thoughts. She had suspected for a while, but nobody, not even her parents, would tell her why Naruto was hated. It was interesting to hear about the interaction, Especially since nobody mentioned the Kyuubi being sentient or reasonable. Itachi was further shocked when Naruto said that he thought the Kyuubi was female. When she asked why, he couldn't give a good answer and he just said it was a feeling. End of flashback. Snapping out of her revelry, Itachi looked back towards Naruto. Yeah, Ruto, I will still give you training material. Just remember not to tell anybody where you got your training. Naruto waved her off with his trademark smile on his face. I know. The bastards on the council would make it hard for the Uchiha if they found out what you did for me. Itachi nodded. Ichirakus? Is that even a question? Naruto countered cheekily while handing an open packet of Pocky with one chocolate-flavored stick hanging up. Itachi chuckled. Naruto was the only one who could consistently make her laugh. She grabbed a stick of Pocky and continued the conversation as they walked. She was sad when she saw Naruto activate his transformation. So, any luck on transforming the mindscape? Naruto nodded. I am close. I snuck into the Yamanka's house and grabbed a couple scrolls. Itachi frowned at him. Did you ask them first? Naruto nodded. I asked Mr. Yamanaka and he said that he can't give over clan secrets. Itachi clicked her teeth. Okay, make sure not to get caught. Not even my parents or Jiraiya could help you if you got caught. Naruto gave her a cheeky grin. I know. You have done so much for me that I would never get y'all in trouble. Do you know when Jiraiya will stop in next? Itachi shook her head. Mom is the one that contacts him. You know he is looking for the traitor, Orochimaru. PSH, he has been looking for that guy forever. I need Fuinjutsu level 3. I am already done with level 2. I don't know why the guy won't just give me more than one level at a time. Itachi ruffled his hair. The sealing arts are dangerous, Naruto. Especially when you are so young. Naruto shrugged. Yeah, well, it is so natural and fun to learn. Naruto transitioned into an older man with silver hair that was roughly his same height. Since when were 9-year-olds able to be 5 feet tall? Didn't you know that I am the greatest explosive tags provider in Konoha? Itachi chuckled once more and shook her head. I don't know how you double the power of explosive tags, but I know that I will be buying my tags from you. Naruto transitioned back to his teenage transformation. Yeah, well, you're going to be a Genin. Are you excited? Itachi nodded. Yes, I need to make the clan proud. I am the only early graduate in years, which brings prestige to my clan. Naruto frowned at the subtext. Still having clan issues? Itachi sighed. Yes, and things are only getting worse. The old cripple? Naruto asked. That old cripple is in charge of Anbu, Ruto. Itachi countered. Bastards are bastards. Naruto answered. Maybe I can go ask my Gigi to fire him. He made finger quotes when he said Gigi. He had stopped trusting the Hokage a long time ago. Itachi sighed. Naruto, you need to listen to the Hokage. There is a lot going on behind the scenes. Right is right and wrong is wrong, Naruto said confidently. I know the world isn't black and white, but you can't say someone is your surrogate grandson and lie to them repeatedly. Oh, and any grandpa that lets their so-called grandson get beaten and treated like shit is no grandpa to me. Itachi swung an arm over Naruto's shoulder. Let's not talk about old people. I want to enjoy our day together. Villagers were now looking at the man that the Uchiha princess was cuddling into. The rumor mill about the Uchiha princess boyfriend was ongoing and the two were giving another round of hot gossip fresh off the press. Naruto shrugged. Well, think you can make Jonin and be my Jonin sensei? He bumped her in the hip and made her giggle. I am only 3 years older than you, Ruto. She bumped him back. And you will graduate 5 years before me. There is no way they will let the demon boy graduate early. Naruto tickled her sides and made her giggle aloud. Yeah, I guess we will see. That is a long way away. Itachi answered noncommittally. Anbu has already approached me and said that they want me when I become a Chunin. Naruto whined at that. Then I would never be able to see you. Itachi raised an eye at him. She knew that he was very attached to her, and she was willing to admit that the feeling was mutual. She was never so alive as when she was with Naruto. We will find a way, I promise. The two would continue their friendship for the next year and change. Itachi enjoyed training with Naruto in between her Genin team and missions. Her progress in her kunoichi training was amazing and Fugaku knew it was because of Naruto, so he allowed her to train with him in place of official clan training. On occasion, he would join the two with Mikoto in their training ground. If the village was so prejudiced against the boy, then he would have been an amazing ninja already. Jiraiya's notes? See? I am not a totally shitty godfather. I was still managing my spy network, but after hearing about the Gaki's childhood, I started to get more involved. I would stop in and spend some time with the kid every couple months when I came back to report. It was fun working with the kid because he absorbed everything so quickly and he was hungry for information. As he grew up, I noticed that he was maturing far faster than his peers. I mean, the kid was 9 and looked like he was 12. It motivated me because I like to think that I have an eye for talent. I knew that this kid was going to be a ladies' man and he was already thawing the heart of the Uchiha girl. Let me tell you, for a 12-year-old, that girl was something else. She was stoic and cold to everyone, but when I spied on their training, she was giggly, smiling and absolutely radiant. Academy days, Naruto was informed by the Sandaime Hokage that he was enrolled in the academy 2 months before his 10th birthday. He was expecting it, but it was still a drag. He hadn't even met Shikamaru yet and he was already stealing his lines. Naruto used a transformation to acquire everything he needed from the village, but that didn't stop the bastards from breaking into his apartment and trashing the place. Graffiti with phrases like "Die Demon," "Demon Brat," "You don't belong here" and many other degrading markings were a constant. Naruto gave up on trying to keep the place clean and just dealt with it. He opened the creaky door and walked down the hallway that had trash and ramen cups. He walked to the end of the hallway and placed his palm over a light switch. The wall parted and he was allowed entry into the apartments behind his own. Jiraiya had created the seal and his hallway seal was the only way to get into these 2 apartments. He threw the 2 grocery bags on the table and began loading their contents into the fridge. He saw a note on the fridge and pulled it down to read it. "Hey Agaki, I am back in town, and I am gone for some research. I have heard you are joining the academy. Let's get together for some ramen and training this weekend. I won't be able to come back for a while after this. Your godfather." Naruto chuckled and finished loading his fridge before he cooked up a simple dinner. He sighed as he was eating alone without his ever-present friend and companion. Itachi had joined Anbu 2 months back and he missed her something fierce. She was the light that kept the darkness at bay and all he wanted to know was that she was okay. Hell, he was 10 years old, it wasn't anything sexual, but it was absolutely about the companionship. A deeper companionship than most people are ever blessed to feel in their entire lives. After studying the Fuinjutsu that was sealed into the note, Naruto went to sleep excited to see the old pervert when he woke up. The next day, Naruto went for his early morning run around Konoha and as he passed the park, he was joined by a yawning super pervert that was running backwards with a cheeky grin on his face. Naruto scoffed and poured more energy into the run, which turned it into a sprint. Naruto darted down the path and didn't slow down until he was on the hill overlooking the village. As he panted, the big old man with white hair just patted his back while laughing heartily. "You are 1,000 years too young to beat me in a race, Gaki," Jiraiya said boisterously while laughing. Naruto stood up from him and placed his arms over his head. "Good morning, Kyofu. I got your note in the next Fuinjutsu book. Thanks for that. If you are going to be gone for a while, can I get up to level 6? Jiraiya ruffled his hair. "Look, Gaki, things start getting pretty dangerous and I am not comfortable leaving you unsupervised. Plus, I only have up to level 8, so what's the rush?" Naruto pushed the man's hand off of his head and huffed in agitation. "Well, I can test all new seals on shadow clones. I tell you what though, I won't pressure you if you tell me who my parents are." Jiraiya frowned and gave a stern look to Naruto. "Look, Gaki, I told you that I am not allowed to tell you. That is the Hokage's call." Naruto put his hands on his hips and matched Jiraiya's gaze. "And I am telling you that I can keep a secret. What right do old fools have to keep that information away from me?" Jiraiya sighed and rubbed his eyes. "Gaki, your parents had a lot of enemies." Yeah, I know," Naruto said while waving him off. "And I am telling you that is a bullshit excuse. It basically just says that you don't trust me with that information." Jiraiya just shook his head. "Naruto, I am not going to tell you that you are wrong, but it is sensei's call. He said when you make Chunin you can know." Naruto clicked his teeth. "Whatever, I am so sick of this same old argument. You have been hanging around the Uchiha princess too much, Gaki." This caused Naruto to lower his head and frown. "What's wrong? She is in Anbu now and I haven't seen her in a couple months." His voice sounded weak and depressed. Jiraiya ruffled his hair. "You will have plenty of time when you are older. Even I think a kid your age doing adult stuff is weird." Naruto slugged Jiraiya in the gut, but Jiraiya was able to stop the knee to the testicles. "It isn't even like that. She is my best friend." Jiraiya slung an arm over his godson's shoulder and looked out over the village. "Look, Gaki, you can make new friends at the academy. Just imagine, you can get your own fan club." Jiraiya's voice faded out as his daydream set in. Naruto elbowed Jiraiya in the gut to break him out of his perverted dreams. "Earth to Uro Senin." Jiraiya shook off the perverted thoughts. "I tell you what. I will give you the next 2 levels of Fuinjutsu, but you also need to learn Injutsu." "Injutsu?" Naruto asked while cocking his head. The seductive arts. I need you to be my muse, Gaki, and as your godfather it is my duty to prepare you, Jiraiya said with his chest puffed out. I master this in jutsu and you will give me more levels of Fuinjutsu? Naruto asked with a cocked eyebrow. Yup. Now, let's go get some sparring and training in. I want to see what you have learned. Jiraiya darted off towards a secluded training field with Naruto hot on his heels. 2 weeks later, Naruto had finished his morning workout, showered, eaten and gotten into his outfit. He went with the outfit that Itachi picked out for him in the hopes that Itachi would see him and know he was thinking of her. She bought him white, baggy cargo pants that he taped at the ankles. His black weight bands held his pants tucked in and his black shinobi sandals. His blank tank top exposed lithe, well-toned arms that tapered into black bands on his wrists. It was a nice summer day, so he went with the sleeveless, burnt orange hoodie with the Uzumaki swirl on the center of his back. Naruto ambled up to the academy with his black backpack on and he dropped the transformation as he crossed the gates that entered into the academy. He sighed as the usual stares and glares greeted him from the front and he could feel more of them on his back. The one thing that made his morning was the smile and wink from Mikoto Uchiha who was dropping Sasuke off at the academy. He smiled and winked back before he put a hop in his step as he walked into the halls of boredom, higher education, of course. Naruto walked into his classroom that would be his place of education for the next few years. He took a seat in the back of the room next to the window and he looked out the window while longing for freedom. He cast idle gazes at the students that trickled in and noticed that there were multiple clan heirs in his class. There was obviously Sasuke representing the Uchiha clan, who was sitting a row down from him and brooding. An Aburame walked in wearing his high-collared trench coat followed by a blonde girl with obvious traits of the Yamanaka. To his consternation, his musings were broken by the loud squealing of the blonde girl who was accompanied by a pink-haired girl that could obviously reach shrieking levels that would deafen any ninja dog. They ran towards the Uchiha brooder and knocked over the chair and fell in a heap on the Uchiha boy's lap. Both of them blushed furiously before they panicked and skittered off his lap. That was when a feral boy with red markings on his cheek burst out laughing with a white ninkin in training on his head, obviously an Inuzuka. Don't be troublesome, Kiba. An obviously lazy boy with a pineapple haircut muttered. Crunch. Munch. The chubby red-haired boy followed the lazy ass in while munching on barbecue potato chips. He was followed by a mouse of a girl with bluish-black hair that refused to make eye contact with anyone. Her eyes gave her away as a Hyuga. The rest of the class trickled in and broke off into groups. The girls cast glances at Sasuke who refused to acknowledge any of them. The boys were talking about whatever boys talk about and none of it was interesting to Naruto. Naruto's attention snapped to the tree as his senses pinged a presence and he saw a smaller Anbu in the tree with a weasel mask. His mood immediately brightened and a genuine, gigawatt smile cracked his face open. He saw the Anbu take her mask off and wink at him, which alleviated the weight from Naruto's heart that he had been carrying for months. For the rest of the class, he felt Itachi sitting there in the tree and he had the distinct feeling that she was there to watch over him. That was how Naruto grew to understand his sensing ability. He could care less about what his teacher, Iruka Umino, or his assistant, Mizuki, had to say. He would keep his eyes closed and spread his chakra wide enough to feel Itachi. As he felt her, he could feel her chakra and he got some other unfamiliar feelings as well. Finally, it was time for lunch and Naruto disappeared instantly and appeared on the branch above Itachi. Heya, Weasel, how have you been? I haven't seen you in a while, Naruto said cheerily. Weasel sighed, I knew I shouldn't have taught you the shunshine. Ruto, you know Anbu aren't supposed to interact with those they are surveilling. Naruto waved her off, I missed you, Chi. Like really badly. Plus, I need to talk to you about my new ability. Go ahead, Itachi said doing a poor job of hiding her interest. Well, I didn't feel like listening so I was spreading my chakra around and I could sense you. After a while, it was like a map was in my mind and I could sense the whole academy. I could feel your chakra, it was slow but content. I also realized that I could feel all of the students when I was focusing. Your brother's chakra is so agitated. Naruto rambled on. This was mind-blowing to Itachi. This had the markings of a prolific sensor all over it and she knew that she would need to share this information with Jiraiya and the Hokage. It could possibly be one of his bloodlines. That's amazing, Naruto. So, you are telling me that there are no other Anbu in the area? Naruto nodded, yup. At least not now. There were a couple here earlier. There will be more here to watch the spars, Itachi said blandly. I don't know why anyone would care about academy spars, Naruto laughed, I don't know either. So, do you still want me to hide my abilities? Just enough to avoid suspicion. You can be the best in your class, but don't show off too much, Itachi said firmly. The Hokage knows about your training with Jiraiya, so we can use that as an excuse. Naruto shrugged, well, I mean I know a couple fire jutsu, but I already know not to use them. You taught me basic kenjutsu, but that is nothing special. Really, I just have better chakra control than I should, better shuriken and kunai jutsu, better speed and strength and then fuinjutsu. So, Ruto, you don't know how far ahead of the other students you are, including my brother, Itachi cautioned. Naruto sighed, fine, I will tone it down. So, are you my detail now? Itachi nodded, I will rotate with Inu-senpai. So, can we train together? I can make privacy barriers now. Nobody has to know. Naruto asked hopefully. I don't think you can keep up with me anymore, Itachi said in a playful tone, which earned a pout from Naruto. But, I think we can do it until I get caught. So, we just can't get caught. That's easy enough, Naruto said cheerily. So, how did you get on my detail anyways? Itachi giggled for the first time since she joined Anbu. Well, evidently Shisui and Jiraiya bribed the Hokage. Naruto laughed at that, I believe it. Probably some better version of Icha. I can't believe our Hokage reads that stuff. Itachi blushed under her mask, she had been reading it too after the recommendation from her mother. It is not so bad. When you are older, you should give it a read. Naruto looked at her incredulously, really? You would be okay with that? Itachi shrugged, just don't become a super pervert. If you keep it under control and in private, I don't see anything wrong with it. Naruto elbowed Itachi, well, look at you. Naruto paused here and got a confused look on his face. What is a female pervert called? A nympho. Itachi answered plainly. Well, looks like it is time for me to get back. It was awesome seeing you again, Chi. Naruto beamed a smile that ripped straight through the Anbu mask and made Itachi's heartbeat quicken. An hour later, Itachi watched the pathetic spars between the first-year academy students that were followed by shuriken and kunai throwing. In the spars, Itachi shook her head as her Anbu compatriots and other jonin placed money on the matches. When it was time for Naruto's spar, Itachi groaned when he was paired up against Naruto. She saw the sadistic look on Mizuki's face and instantly recognized that he was a Kyuubi hater. She wasn't surprised, but it weighed heavily on her. You can do it, Sasuke-kun. A horde of fangirls squealed in pitches that threatened to deafen Itachi. HN. Sasuke's grunt returned the cheer. So, Naruto, haven't seen you in a while. Naruto shrugged, I've been busy. How is your training going? Sasuke grunted, why don't you fight me and find out? He said in a taunt. Now, make the seal of conflict before you start the spar. Iruka ordered as he stood in between the boys. The two joined their pointer and middle fingers in the seal before the walk back to their starting points. Naruto gave a smirk to Sasuke, who returned it with one of his own. Itachi watched on and she knew the outcome of this fight and the effect it would have on her little brother. Her father hadn't stopped by to train Naruto in over a year, but she hoped her father would understand why and how Naruto beat Sasuke. The two clashed together and Itachi saw Sasuke wince as they traded blows. Naruto's blows were heavy due to the 15 pounds that he was wearing on each wrist. That was the downside of using weights instead of a fuinjutsu option, and it was simultaneously an advantage and disadvantage. After they traded a couple punches, Sasuke broke contact and flipped backwards to reset the fight. Sasuke fell into a beginner rendition of the interceptor fist and waited in his defensive posture for Naruto to strike. You have gotten much better, Sasuke. Naruto complimented as he slowly fell into the taijutsu style that Jiraiya taught him. Jiraiya had given Naruto the Uzumaki style, whirlpool fist taijutsu style, and trained him on the kata for that last year. That had made Naruto ask if he was a real Uzumaki, since the Sandaime had told him that it was an orphan's name to honor one of the previous heroes of the Third Great Shinobi War. Of course, Naruto tried looking into this, but he was unable to find any information on the Uzumaki woman or clan. Sasuke grunted, HNN, and his brow furrowed. It wasn't good enough for Itachi One-chan to pay attention to me. Naruto suppressed the chuckle. I am sure she is watching over you, Naruto said cryptically before he lunged forward. His weights on his legs were 30 pounds and they really slowed down his adolescent body. Naruto struck out in a jab that Sasuke parried to the side, and Sasuke stepped into Naruto's guard and tried to perform a takedown. Naruto countered by jumping and spreading his legs out behind him in a move that was called sprawling. This put his center of gravity on top of Sasuke and his childish body struggled to deal with the extra weight. Naruto took advantage of the staggering of Sasuke and looped his arm into an inverse choke hold, and Sasuke's head was now tucked under Naruto's right arm with Naruto's forearm blocking off his airway. Sasuke's mind turned hazy as Naruto tightened the hold just enough to make sure Sasuke couldn't escape. Sasuke lashed out with desperate punches at Naruto's abdomen to free himself from the hold, but he was unable to put any weight behind the blows. They crashed off his abdomen to minimal effect, and Iruka called the match. Enough. Winner, Naruto Uzumaki, Iruka shouted to break the fight up. Please form the seal of reconciliation. Naruto held out 2 fingers to form the seal, and Sasuke had scoffed at the 2 fingers. The boy was never good at losing. Sasuke walked back into the ranks of his classmates while his new fangirls did their best to comfort him. Naturally, they only upset the Uchiha boy more than they helped him. Naruto lowered his hand with a sad shake of his head, and he was able to feel the flicker in Itachi's chakra that he had paid attention to throughout the fight. He would need to practice this new sensory ability and develop it further. Hokage's office, first day of the academy year, Hiruzen had tuned in with his crystal ball to watch the academy spars. He watched the demonstration, and he could tell that his Anbu guard was watching as well. As he watched Naruto's fight against Sasuke, he couldn't suppress the sigh of frustration and remorse. He had tried to remain close to the child, but ever since the Uchiha found the boy, things hadn't been the same. Sure, one could say that was a good thing. Sure, the boy had obviously gotten stronger, and he was connected with his godfather. Sure, this hadn't been discovered by the elders or other members of the council. However, that was all about to change now that Naruto's strength was now known. Hiruzen couldn't stop the pang of trepidation and the surge of regret that swelled in his heart. Cat, Hiruzen said gruffly, and a cat-masked Anbu appeared kneeling in front of her Hokage. Bring me Uzumaki Naruto once the academy is over. Weasel should be watching over him. It will be done, Hokage-sama, Cat said before disappearing in a sunshine. Hiruzen sighed and returned to his paperwork, but he couldn't even focus on that task for 15 minutes before 3 elders let themselves into his office. Hiruzen hid the weariness in his eyes and hardened his visage into that of the Sandaime Hokage. He looked at Shimura Danzo, his old rival, that walked with a cane and had his head wrapped in bandages that hid his missing right eye. He was followed on his left by Koharu Utatane, Hiruzen's old female teammate. On his right, Homura Mitokoto, Hiruzen's other Jinan teammate and old friend. To what do I owe the pleasure of your company, elders? Hiruzen opened cordially. Danzo's one visible eye narrowed the slightest bit. It has come to our attention that the Kyuubi Jinchuriki has bested his peers in taijutsu as well as kunai and shuriken. Danzo left it open at that, as if expecting Hiruzen to explain. Hiruzen placed the pipe in the corner of his mouth and took a couple drags as he eyed the trio. Once he waited almost a full minute, Koharu spoke up. Hiruzen, it is not natural for that boy to be ahead of the clan children. We wish to know where he got his training. Ah, yes, that, Hiruzen said as he took another puff. Well, Jiraiya has been visiting the boy whenever he reports. He has given the boy lessons and scrolls, as is his right as the boy's godfather. Why have we not heard of this before? Homura asked in the uniquely annoying way that only old men could pull off. Hiruzen blew out a dense cloud of smoke and eyed his old friends while letting the smoke spread around the room. It was his favorite stall tactic to help him gain the edge in any trade. Why would I bother the elders of my village with such trivial information? Danzo clicked his cane on the floor. Enough games, Hiruzen, he said firmly with his eye now visibly narrowed. He is the village's weapon. Hiruzen's flare of killing intent cut Danzo off mid-sentence. He is a child, and he was alone and abused for his whole life. Do not think I am so old that I don't know it was you that released his Jinchuriki status to the village. When I petitioned the council for a caretaker after his expulsion from the orphanage, you 3 didn't care. When I petitioned for a safe place for the child to stay, you 3 released his address to the civilian council. Do not pretend to care about the boy. While Danzo stood unflappable, Koharu and Homura took a small step back from the intimidating rant of an old, yet powerful, man. Danzo spoke, completely unaffected by the display. I did what was necessary to turn the boy into an asset of the village. Hiruzen's ki flared further, and the Anbu guard was now positioning themselves to intervene. Lady Mito and Kushina both said that love is necessary to counter the immense rage and hatred of the beast. Rather than allow the boy happiness, you have isolated him, beaten him, denied him the basic happiness of a child. Now that he has shown potential, you question me for allowing his godfather to interact with him? Hiruzen was shouting loudly now, and his aura was beginning to shake even Danzo. Get the fuck out of my office, you disgust me. The 3 protested lightly, but they were forced to relent and follow his orders. As the office door slammed shut, his head fell into his hands. He was too old for this shit and the job had already taken too much from him. His wife, his oldest son, his daughter, his successor and countless shinobi that died at his orders. These thoughts obstructed his mental pathways and made it impossible for him to think clearly and commit himself to the ever-growing pile of paperwork that stacked upon his desk. His was snapped back to reality and broken from his musings by 3 firm knocks on his door. After recomposing himself, the Sandaime called for them to enter and he plastered an old man's smile on his face. He saw the fake smile of the child that was reported to him by Jiraiya, Itachi and many others. It seems that the child still didn't trust him. "Heya, old man, you called for me," Naruto said cheerily with his arms linked behind his head. Hiruzen soaked in the boy's appearance and his keen gaze soaked in many factors. 1. The boy's body was bigger than anyone his age and he was no longer malnourished. 2. His muscles were defined, and he held himself like a shinobi, which was exceedingly rare for a first-year academy student. 3. The warm azure orbs were obscured by a film of cynicism that analyzed him in equal intensity that he was analyzing the boy. Hiruzen re-engaged the happy old man mode and smiled at the falsely cheery boy. "Ho ho, yes, I did. I asked you here to inquire about your training, Naruto-kun. It appears like you have gotten more than some simple training from my student." Naruto's happy act fell. "I will counter with the same offer as last time, old man. You tell me about my parents and I will tell you what you want to know." Hiruzen had moved past the "I don't know your parents" act and moved on to "he couldn't tell him since he was older." Hiruzen knew this was the main obstacle between him and the boy, but he could reveal such information yet. He sighed wearily and rubbed his eyes. "Naruto-kun, my boy, you know I can't tell you that information yet. Then this will end the same as all of our previous conversation, Hokage-sama. I will not trust you until you choose to trust me," Naruto said defiantly, which made Weasel and Cat shift around nervously. Hiruzen hardened his visage. "I am you Hokage, Naruto. I can order you to tell me. I am not yet a shinobi and I am not bound by such orders. You are free to try using a Yamanaka again, but I am sure that Inoiki-san probably doesn't want to lose another clan member." Naruto countered defiantly. Hiruzen winced at that. He was very surprised when his desperate clandestine operation failed and the boy confronted him about it. "Naruto, if you were more honest with me and didn't hide yourself from my scrying crystal, then maybe I would trust you more." Naruto scoffed, which was weird coming from an almost 10-year-old. "Trust is a two-way street, Hokage-sama. The way I see it is that I have more right to know the requested information that you do. You are holding many secrets from me that I definitely have the right to know. You not telling me only tells me that you refuse to trust me with such information." Hiruzen couldn't repress the sigh again. He had this conversation with Jiraiya and the boy was just as obstinate as his mother. "Very well, I will drop this for now. How did your first day at the academy go? Did you make any friends?" "No, and it sucked," Naruto answered simply while he ignored the imploring look from the Hokage for more information. "Well, it looked like you bested your peers in the combat arts. Why did it suck?" Hiruzen poked for more information. "My teachers and the rest of my class are either indifferent or biased like the rest of the villagers," Naruto answered blandly. "Did you try to make friends?" "No." "Why not?" "Because I felt like it would be a waste of time and effort. I can feel them, and I know it would be unsuccessful," Naruto answered. Sigh. "Very well, Naruto-kun, you may return to your home. Weasel and Cat please stay." Hiruzen ended the meeting. After Naruto left, Hiruzen looked to Weasel. "Report." Weasel knelt and spoke in a professional voice. "Naruto sensed me and confronted me during the lunch break. He knew about his previous Anbu detail, and he seemed pleased that I was his new Anbu. He shared with me that he has a sensory ability and the way he described it made it seem more like a Kekai Genkai than a standard sensory ability." Hiruzen puffed on his pipe and nodded. "The Uzumaki were adept sensors due to the density of their chakra. Care to elaborate?" "He said that he could sense the whole academy grounds as if it were a map. He shared with me that he knew that I was the only Anbu on the academy grounds. He told me that he could feel my chakra, as well as the chakra of the other teachers and students, and he described it to me." Hiruzen's eyes were closed, and his eyes snapped open when he identified the ability. "The Eye of Kagura, that is what the Uzumaki clan called it. It was the best sensory ability ever recorded and Lady Mito was the last known wielder of it. To think that he could possess two of the Uzumaki's abilities." The Anbu waited in silence for their leader to continue. "You said that you had a good relationship with the boy, so he was able to identify you?" Weasel nodded. "Yes, Hokage-sama. He immediately identified me when I took up my post and he shared that with me when he talked to me." Hiruzen nodded. "And you hold the boy's trust?" Weasel nodded with hesitation. "Then, I need you to monitor the boy for me. I need to know where he is getting training from and any other information that he shares with you. Weasel was torn between duty and friendship. She would be more inclined to spy on her own clan than on Naruto. He just held that special position in her heart and she sincerely didn't want to betray that trust. Itachi fell back on her Anbu training and bowed while kneeling. Yes, Hokage-sama. Jiraiya's commentary: for those of you that aren't familiar with ninja life, I know that my sensei's treatment of Naruto seems unfair. I know that most of my readers will find the Hokage's actions despicable. In fact, the longer I have had time to reflect on it, the more I agree with you. The position of Kage is a position of military dictatorship, and that position means that the Kage need to be in the know. When information is denied to them, they tend to bristle and act aggressively to defend their village and people. It is a requirement of the position. I can tell you that my sensei was a good man, and he often sacrificed his personal pleasure and goals for the sake of Konoha. My sensei loved that village with everything he had, and he was more than happy to give his life for the village. He loved the boy and his father as well, but in his own mind, he was protecting my student by withholding that information from him. Hindsight is 20/20 as they sway, and my sensei's actions haunted him for the end of his life. To move past the depressing stuff, when my student shared his story with me, I was instantly drawn to young Itachi. That girl was something special, and hearing about how she supported Naruto through his childhood made my heart swell with love and gratitude. I can tell you that Naruto was, is and will always be the only man that could make Itachi feel that way. Well, that is all the gallant commentary I can provide on this chapter. For my more adult-inclined readers, I promise that it is worth the wait, and you won't have to wait too much longer. Deal with a demon. It took Naruto almost 2 years to figure out how to configure his mind and alter his mindscape. The Yamanaka clan had caught on that someone was breaking into their clan vault and archives, but they had no leads on who it could be. There were no missing items or scrolls, but the clan knew that somebody had been entering unauthorized. The protective seals they used notified them of this, but they didn't inhibit the intruder or prevent his entry. Thus, the Yamanaka clan informed the Hokage, and an Anbu detail was posted around the premises. Naruto didn't need to return to the Yamanaka clan at all. He had gotten what he came for, and his clones rapidly copied the scrolls he needed. It was interesting for him to discover how their mind transfer jutsu worked, and he also discovered some of the advanced interrogation techniques as well. They weren't what he was originally looking for, but he copied them and studied them, nonetheless. After his 10th visit into the vault, he finally found the Intermediate Mind Diver's Guide that instructed Yamanakas on how to interact with and forcibly alter a person's mindscape. The alterations were minor, but they were necessary to access the memories. Without this technique, they would float around like ghosts in the mindscape with being able to interact. Naruto went into his seal and practiced this in the long hallway of his mindscape. He created decorations first, then he formatted his memories into doors, and finally he was able to make the hallway disappear. With that down, Naruto entered the Kyuubi's chamber and stood ready to address the Kitsune. For Kyuubi's part, she had reviewed the boy's memories after their first meeting, and she was disgusted with what she saw. Her previous 2 containers were hidden, and they were both mature when she was sealed into them. Also, the previous seals were much more restrictive and inhumane than the current seal. Kyuubi growled at the memory of being staked to a floating orb that burned hot whenever the Kyuubi got upset. That was in Kushina, and she had been unable to move or anything for 12 years. Plus, the redhead only came into the seal a couple times to take power and chakra from the Kyuubi. Thinking about her past treatment only served to enrage the Kitsune Bijou. She resented her enslavement to Madara's Sharingan, Hashirama's Makuten, Mito's seal, Kushina's adamantine chains, another cursed eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, and now her current host. The last one upset her, but not nearly as much as the others. She had processed her thoughts on the matter, and she decided to wait for the boy to approach her once more. She looked down on Naruto, who had grown a bit since she last saw him. She knew it was a combination of his blood and her chakra, but that could wait. She also knew that it was his blood that actually allowed her to heal faster and restore her yin half. She was surprised when she realized that, and she had confirmed it when she analyzed the chakra flow in the seal. To think that the boy actually healed her, it merited further thought. She was broken from her musings by Naruto's childish voice. Kyuubi-sama, I have finally learned enough to pay with my end of the deal. The Kyuubi looked at the boy with an analytical gaze. Very well, Ningen. What are you waiting for? Naruto shuffled nervously. Well, I wanted to know what you wanted? I mean, you are a fox, so do you want a forest? The Kyuubi scoffed. No, Ningen, I do not wish for a forest. Well then, what do you want? I will do my best. Naruto replied sheepishly. The Kyuubi had been thinking about this for a while, and she thought that she would tease the boy a bit. I wish for the mindscape to imitate Konoha, and I want as many people in it as you can make. Naruto nodded and didn't think about why the Kyuubi wanted Konoha. He closed his eyes and focused as hard as he could on his mental image of Konoha. The first thing to appear was the Hokage monument, since it was the clearest image in Naruto's mind. Then the training ground he used with Itachi and Shisui, the Hokage Tower, the Uchiha compound, the library, the parks, and the rest of Konoha came into being over the next hour. Piece by piece, Naruto created Konoha in his mind from memory. The Kyuubi watched the landscape change around her, and her bars kept her from decimating the newly emerging village. She watched the child focus on the task at hand, and she nurtured a begrudging respect for the child. She had been alive for a millennium since her father died, and she had never interacted with a human child like this. It was still too early to believe that he was the one their father spoke of, but it was still a thought that bounced around the kitsune's mind. She watched the boy fall to a knee as most of Konoha was erected in front of her, and she spoke. "Enough, child, that is enough for today. I will call your debt settled." Naruto transitioned from a knee to a sitting position, and he looked up with fearless eyes through the bars and into Kurama's eyes. She saw the child's soul and his longing for companionship. It wasn't specific to her, but it was as if the boy's deepest wish was to be close to somebody, anybody. The Kyuubi resonated with that feeling, especially after her century of imprisonment and the hundreds of years of isolation that preceded it. Before Kurama could react, the cage that spanned the horizon vanished and morphed into a ring on her finger. The Kyuubi idly noted which finger the ring was on and shook her head. Must be a coincidence. She looked at the boy once more and spoke. "This was more than I ever thought you would do for me. You have my gratitude." Naruto shrugged and yawned. "It was the least I could do. After I talked to you, I started studying a lot, and I learned about Fuinjutsu and mind techniques." The Kyuubi nodded. "Indeed. Now that you are in here again, I can review your memories once more." Naruto cocked his head to the side and rested his forearms on his knees. "You mean you can't do that normally?" "No. Only when we interact." The Kyuubi answered. Naruto adopted a thinking pose before kipping to his feet. He cautiously approached the giant kitsune and walked up to her left paw where the ring resided. "Will you trust me? I want to try something." The Kyuubi nodded, and she watched as Naruto climbed onto her paw and he began tampering with the ring. She watched him take the rectangular jewel and fold it into a hexagonal pattern. He nodded to himself and placed the ruby back into the ring in the hexagonal pattern, and the Kyuubi instantly felt an influx of memories and sensory information. It startled her greatly to once again feel the outside world. "What did you do?" the Kyuubi asked with its eyes closed, which let her feel the outside world. "I altered the seal to share my senses with you. I learned how to link minds thanks to the Yamanaka scrolls, and I know enough about seals to make a small alteration in the consciousness interface." "Did it work?" Naruto asked. The Kyuubi nodded. "Yes, it is most appreciated. Seems like I now owe you a favor." Naruto waved the giant fox off. "Nah, it was just the right thing to do. I had a lot of time to think about how terrible it would be to be stuck in a sewer all alone." Naruto shivered. "I didn't like those thoughts." The Kyuubi chuckled, which rumbled the ground Naruto was sitting on. "Regardless, I owe you a favor and I will pay it forward. I do not know human jutsus, as you call them. They are a perversion of my father's teachings, and I never had any need for them. That being said, I did enjoy the art of kenjutsu, and I gathered some of the best blades from around the world in my freedom." Naruto held up a hand. "I will take training and stories as payment, Kyuubi-sama. I wish to hear of your travels and all of the experiences you had. I want to know what is out there." Naruto's childlike innocence shone through here, and it reached the Kyuubi. The Kyuubi huffed. "Very well, but first, do not call me Kyuubi. It is a title, like your Hokage. Then what should I call you?" "Kurama will be just fine. It was the name given to me by my father, and you are the first mortal I have ever told it to." Naruto's eyes widened at the information, and he bowed his head to the kitsune beauty. "Thank you, Kurama. It is nice to meet you." Kurama nodded. "Now, that will be all for today. We will speak again later. For now, I wish to play with the new mindscape you built for me." Naruto nodded and focused on pulling himself out of the seal. Those Yamanaka knew a lot about the mind, and the information he pilfered from them was super useful. Jiraiya the Gallant's commentary. "I bet that surprised ya, huh? I mean, when I found out the Kyuubi was a female I nearly lost it. When the kid, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let's just say that the kitsune is full of surprises, and she plays an equally big part in my godson's life as young Itachi. I realize as I write this book that I still don't have much screen time yet. Probably my own fault. Let's get to one of the memories that includes me. I did quite a bit behind the scenes for the kid, and most of it came in the form of being a crap umbrella for the gaki. It still infuriates me to this day when I think about the village council and other evil bastards that went after my godson. What I haven't covered here is that Naruto was attacked nearly 40 times between his 5th and 11th birthday. Those were the times he wasn't able to get away, and those were the times that he woke up in the hospital. Each one of those memories burned me like a branding iron, and I had to threaten the Hokage, council, shinobi, Yami, Shinigami and Kami herself to leave the kid alone and give him a flipping break. Wrath of Jiraiya the Gallant. 6 months into Naruto's first year at the academy, Hiruzen, Jiraiya, Weasel and Dog were ordered in front of the village council. Fugaku shuffled nervously in his seat when he saw his daughter present in the itinerary for the council meeting. He knew it could only mean one thing, and he wasn't looking forward to the screeches of the civilian council. He looked at his Anbu daughter standing fearlessly in front of the council, and he enjoyed the swell of pride and love that puffed his chest out. It was enough for him to momentarily forget the Uchiha clan elders that had made his life miserable for the past year. Hiruzen sat in his chair and spoke to the council after looking around. All are present. I now ask, for what reason was this council summoned? Danzo's eye flicked to Mizuki Haruno, daughter of Sakura Haruno, and the pink-haired woman stood and addressed the council. It has been reported to me that She flinched at the spike in ki from multiple sources and continued. That the Uzumaki brat is much stronger than his classmates. This is unacceptable, and I have summoned this council to find out how it is possible. Hiruzen sighed. You waste our time for these petty reasons. It is not a waste of time, Danzo said firmly, and instantly garnered the support of the civilian council. The boy is a weapon, and an untamed weapon is a threat to the village. Jiraiya's ki sparked and he growled at Danzo, you leave the boy alone. He didn't ask to be its container. He didn't ask for any of this. Yet, you bastards think it is okay to abuse the boy. The demon has no right to live in our village. Am I, a fat merchant, said with contempt. Hiruzen stood up and slammed his hands on the desk. This is the last warning for all members of this council. My law is still in effect, and the next person to refer to Naruto in such a manner will be subjected to the fullest extent of the law. The civilians cowed, but Homura spoke. Hokage-sama, the boy's strength and skill exceed normal standards. He is on the level of Itachi, Uchiha and other prodigies that graduated early. It is clear that he is getting help from somewhere, and the council has the right to know. It could be a security threat if the boy is receiving training from a foreign operative. Danzo added to throw fuel on the fire. Jiraiya growled, I helped the boy when I returned to the village to report to sensei. He is a prodigy and he soaks up everything I teach him. Why would the Honorable Toad Sanin teach a boy like that? Why not train the Uchiha prodigy or other clan heirs? This question made Jiraiya crack his knuckles, and it made Danzo's lone eye widen. He might have made a connection that would prove useful. Jiraiya's ki flared once more until Hiruzen calmed him down. I am free to train whoever I please. I was an orphan, much like the boy, and my student gave his life to seal the Kyuubi into the child. I am sick of you ignoramuses calling the boy a demon. He is the prison into which the Kyuubi is sealed. I check the seal every time I can, and it is holding up just fine. If he is not the demon itself, then it is clear that the demon is influencing the boy. Otherwise, he would never be able to outperform the other clan heirs. Kanichi shouted. He was the head of the Konoha Bank. He cannot be allowed to continue training. If he gets any stronger, then the whole village will be at risk, Mizuki shouted. Enough, Hiruzen roared, and his chakra shattered the desk in front of him, the chair behind him, and it cratered the floor. The boy is being trained by my student and monitored by the Anbu. The boy needs to know how to control his chakra in order to keep the beast at bay. An untrained Jinchuriki will be helpless to restrain the beast if it attempts to rampage. But Hokage-sama, if we kill the boy, then the Kyuubi will die. The civilian shouted. No, Jiraiya roared and joined Hiruzen in cratering the ground under him with chakra pressure alone. If you kill the boy, then the Bijou will reform. When it reforms, it will destroy this village, and I would be more than happy to let it. The council looked aghast at that statement. It was Inoki Yamanaka that asked the next question. Why does the boy mean so much to you? Shikaku actually raised his head from the table and his eyes widened as the links formed in his mind. Don't be troublesome, Inoki. Jiraiya-sama has always been passionate about his students. Jiraiya's growl was echoing around the chamber. You don't need to know that. My student sacrificed his life for this ungrateful village, and all he ever asked was for the boy to be seen as a hero. You all spit on that dying wish. I have interacted with the child, and he is amazing. If you stopped persecuting him, then maybe he would actually have a reason to protect this damn place. Hyashi Hyuga shook off the rampaging emotions and directed his attention to the Anbu that may actually be able to tell them something useful. Dog-san and Weasel-san, You are on the boy's protective detail. What can you tell us about his training? Is he getting assistance from outside sources? Dog stepped forward, not wanting to expose his junior to this pressure. The boy attends the academy and then trains on his own. He learns from scrolls or when Jiraiya-sama is present. He watches other shinobi and imitates them. He is spying on our active duty shinobi? Homura said in mock outrage. Hiruzen fielded the question. I have given him access to the training ground since he can't train in peace anywhere else. I see no problem in aiding the development of a future shinobi of the leaf. Except you and Jiraiya have admitted that the boy has no ties to Konoha. He is a flight risk. I propose that the boy is submitted to my training program so that I may instill loyalty to the village in him, Danzo said calmly, drawing all the ire of Naruto's defenders to himself. Danzo's statement quieted the civilian council and it is clear that they would support him. Denied, Hiruzen said firmly. Over my dead body. Jiraiya added passionately. That would be unwise. Shikaku added, which surprised members of the shinobi council. Danzo growled, then when the weapon turns itself on this village, you only have yourself to blame, Hiruzen. This caused a stir in the council. That is Hokage-sama to you, Danzo. I trust you no further than I could throw you. This public admission of skepticism of one of the village elders was a big deal. Koharu cleared her throat and asked another question to take the focus off of Danzo. He needed to sink back into the shadows for now. Weasel, what can you tell us from your observation of the boy? He is exceptionally talented and has nobody except Jiraiya-sama. Weasel kept the answer short. Does the child interact with either of you? Homura asked. Dog stepped forward and fielded this question because he knew about Weasel's private training with the boy. He knows when we are around. His sensory abilities make it impossible to hide from him. Despite this, we maintain our posts. Sensory abilities? Have you analyzed this at all, Hokage-sama? Sume asked as the leader of the Hunter Ninja Corps. Hiruzen sighed, not wanting to share this information. I do not know how, but Naruto displays traits known to the Uzumaki clan. His sensory ability matches the eye of Kagura that Lady Mito possessed, and his blood has the healing attributes possessed by previous Uzumaki. I thought the boy was an orphan? How would he possess bloodlines of a deceased clan? Did the demon grant him these abilities? Tamakiko asked. He was the civilian in charge of food supply for the village. While the clan heads were each making the connections now with widened eyes, Hiruzen fielded the question. He was an orphan recovered from the Kyuubi attack. His parentage is yet unknown. His abilities suggest he is a true Uzumaki. The clan heads didn't know how to feel about the Hokage hiding this information. If their suspicions were correct, and they were, then the Hokage had played a dangerous and unnecessary game with the boy's safety. Before the meeting could continue, there was a knock on the council chamber's door. This was unusual and the council could only be interrupted in the case of emergency. The Hokage called for the person to enter and a lion-masked Anbu knelt in front of the council. Report, Hiruzen said firmly with a sinking feeling in his gut. Uzumaki Naruto was attacked by a mob of civilians and a couple Chunin shinobi. There are multiple casualties, and the boy is critically injured and being taken to Anbu Hospital per your standing orders, Hokage-sama. Lion reported professionally. The civilian council stood to their feet and started screaming. Jiraiya, Weasel and Dog were already out the door and on the way to the hospital. After nearly 5 minutes of shouting, the Hokage managed to quiet the council so that questions could be answered. How many casualties and who? The Hokage asked. Most of the casualties were the shinobi attacking the boy. Some civilians were caught in the crossfire, but a total is yet unknown. Anbu teams are on site as well as Jonin that responded to the disturbance. Lion answered. Are you telling me an academy student bested multiple Chunin shinobi? Huza Akimichi asked incredulously. Lion shifted nervously. There was some of the Kyuubi's chakra present in the area. The boy appears to have used a multi-shadow clone jutsu to defend himself. Hiruzen couldn't stop the screams from the civilian council, and he called his Anbu to place swords at their necks to shut them up for the rest of the meeting. I will hear no more about executing the boy. It is clear that his life was in danger, and he was acting in self-defense. Were you able to confirm that, Lion? Lion remained kneeling and nodded. After interrogating some of the witnesses, we confirmed that the boy was cornered. He had multiple stab wounds from shinobi tools and when we arrived, he had a tanto through his chest. So, the demon is dead? Mibuki asked with a hopeful voice that enraged the shinobi side of the council. Now that they suspected who the boy's parents were, they were going to do what they could for him. No. Lion answered flatly. The boy is in critical condition, but his healing factor and the Kyuubi's chakra are keeping him alive. The civilians deflated at this news. Take the surviving shinobi to Aviki and let T and I have at them. No restraints, I do not need them back in my forces, Hiruzen said firmly over the protests of the civilian council. The civilians present will also submit themselves for interrogation, but they will suffer no permanent damage. Go and make it happen. Lion nodded before rising and disappearing from the council chambers. Hiruzen dismissed the council to go and check in on Naruto. He had a terrible feeling that things would only escalate from here and he wasn't looking forward to dealing with it. How right he was. When he showed up in the hospital room, his mind processed the broken body of Uzumaki Naruto, and it was enough to make him wince. There were kunai cuts, shuriken imprints, broken bones, and the hole in his chest was being tended to by the Anbu doctors. They were the only ones that would willingly treat Naruto, which is why he was brought here. Before Hiruzen could take in the full extent of Naruto's injuries, he was grabbed by the collar and cratered into the wall by Jiraiya. This caused everyone in the room to pause, including the doctors. Hiruzen told them to resume their duties calmly before he looked into the enraged eyes of his student. Jiraiya wore the mask of a goof and pervert most of the time, but this was the visage of the battle-hardened warrior that Hiruzen raised himself. He had never seen his student look at him in this way, and it sent a shiver of fear racing down his spine. When Jiraiya spoke, it was just above a growl. "This is on you." Those 4 simple words ripped into the Hokage and shattered his resistance. His face fell and his head hung low at the proclamation of his student. Before Hiruzen spoke, he glanced at the bloody bed holding the boy and he locked sullen eyes with Jiraiya. "I know." The two waited at his bedside for Naruto to wake up. Jiraiya never left, Dog never left, Weasel never left, but the Hokage was forced to resume his duties. When Naruto woke up 2 days later, each person in the room rejoiced internally. They gave him water and helped him sit up in the bed. If they could see under his bandages, they would have seen that all of the wounds were completely healed without leaving scars in less than 2 days. That aside, Naruto began his tale. Flashback, village outskirts between Naruto's training ground and his apartment. Naruto was walking home and conversing with Kurama. He had felt Weasel leave the Overwatch position nearly an hour ago and he shrugged it off. He figured Inu was just taking his time and he thought that he could take care of himself. As he entered the village outskirts, Kurama alerted him that something was wrong. The village was too still, and the streets were deserted. With a flare of his chakra, Naruto broke the genjutsu that he was under. He looked around in a forcible calm and he spread his senses. He didn't like what he felt. He felt a big group of civilians walking towards his position and he didn't have time to count. He then felt 10 distinct chakra signatures posted up on the buildings around him, and something felt very wrong with a couple of them. They felt like walking dead, like they had nothing to live for. They had no excitement in their chakra, despite being ready to spring an ambush. Before he could ponder on that further, he was forced to dodge volleys of kunai from high and low, left and right. He was good, but he wasn't good enough to dodge them all, especially after training for the whole afternoon. Naruto took a couple of shuriken to the back, but he pushed off the pain and ran like his life depended on it. He rounded a corner, ducked a tanto and executed a series of shunshine that led back into the village. Unfortunately, he was up against trained shinobi, and he couldn't lose them that easily like the normal civilian mobs. He noticed that they were on his trail and has chose the venue for his fight. Naruto came to a stop with a tree line to his back and he hid himself and his chakra as best he could. It was enough to give his pursuers pause as they entered the clearing with full confidence that they would kill the demon brat. They each turned to one of the Chunin and Naruto paled when he saw the veins around the white eyes bulge. He knew that he could no longer get away and he didn't feel any of the Anbu patrols nearby. He made a snap decision and launched into his plan. After releasing his weight seals, the clearing filled with puffs of smoke and the 10 shinobi were surrounded by nearly 100 versions of Naruto, each wielding a kunai. The real Naruto tried to run, but he was kicked into the field by a firm blow that came from one of the emotionless shinobi. After kicking Naruto, the shinobi just stood on the branch and watched down on him as the fight began. Kurama roared at him internally and began pushing her chakra into Naruto's system to empower him and help to heal his wounds. The clones were able to keep the Chunin occupied, but once they identified the real Naruto, he was forced into a 4-on-1. They each halted in place when they felt the surge of demonic chakra, and the fierce, red, slitted orbs of Naruto gave each of them pause. He was just a first-year academy student, so they should have nothing to fear, but they each feared the demon. Naruto didn't wait for them to seize the initiative. He launched himself at the one Chunin whose legs were shaking. The Chunin was able to snap himself out of his stupor just in time to shift his body away from a fatal blow. That being said, the kunai buried itself deep into his shoulder and the demonic chakra coating the kunai burned the Chunin from the inside out. Naruto ripped the kunai out while spinning to avoid 2 of the other Chunins carrying the kunai. The distraction cost him, and he roared in pain when a long blade slashed along his back. Naruto rolled and allowed Kurama's chakra to tend to the wound. He recovered from the roll on his back and thrust a kunai up into the chest of a chunin that was descending on him. Blood poured on him from the wound and the chunin coughed up a mouthful of blood onto Naruto's face. He was momentarily stunned by the blood before he felt a stabbing pain to his side. He looked down and saw a kunai buried in between his fifth and sixth rib before he lashed out with a chakra-empowered kick and shattered the chunin's right leg. The chunin screamed and fell to the ground clutching his leg, which left one chunin standing immediately in front of him. His senses felt the chaotic battlefield and the rapidly encroaching mob. He felt the emotionless presence watching him, and that presence was joined by another emotionless one. He spun to avoid a kick from the remaining chunin and counter with a spinning hammer fist that landed on the back of the chunin's head. The chunin went sailing and crashed to the ground in a crumpled heap. Naruto had a second to look around the battlefield and saw that there were 2 chunin remaining and they were finishing off the last of his shadow clones. It was then that the mob closed in on the bloody field and that the 2 emotionless shinobi fell in front of him. Uzumaki Naruto, for the crime of killing Leaf Shinobi, you are to submit yourself for imprisonment and questioning. The emotionless tone let Naruto know that this was undeniably a setup. I will submit myself to the Hokage or dog. Nobody else. Naruto growled back. Unacceptable. The man replied. For your resistance, you are sentenced to death. The man lunged forward with his tanto, and his teammate was right behind him. The tanto penetrated through Naruto's chest and the crowd cheered before Naruto went up in a puff of smoke. It was then that a gurgled scream caused the lead chunin to turn around and his teammate's throat ripped out and Naruto's hand was covered in his blood as a red aura hovered over his skin. The leader engaged in high-speed combat with Naruto that forced Naruto to dodge out of slashes that pressed every bit of his speed and reflexes. He was sent rolling towards the mob by a kick from his opponent. He dodged out of the way of kunai, and he heard the shrieks of civilians that caught those kunai in his stead. He didn't feel sorry for them, but he was now forced to deal with enraged civilians. Naruto dished out blows with his fists, knees, elbows and forehead. He lashed out savagely against the members of the mob that had assorted weapons that had no place on the battlefield. In his haste and distraction, a blade pierced through his back and out the front of his chest. He coughed up a mouthful of blood and nearly buckled from the pain. Kurama urged him to remain conscious and he grabbed the blade with both hands and spun as harshly as he could manage. It ripped the tanto out of the man's hands and surprised him, which is why he wasn't ready for a chakra-covered fist to penetrate his chest. The sharp claws on the end of Naruto's fingertips tore into his heart and shredded the organ in a supremely bloody display. Blood spurted everywhere as the feral Naruto ripped the man's beating heart out of his chest. Naruto then fell to his knees and the last thing he did before losing consciousness was push the blade out of his back. End of flashback. The room was silent as Naruto's story came to an end. They had heard the rest from the Anbu that responded to the chaos. Anbu forced the mob back and saw the beaten form of Naruto with a number of kunai in him. He was crumpled in a puddle of his own blood and the Anbu immediately forced the civilians away. Naruto had one of his eyes destroyed by a kunai and the Anbu nearly panicked before her training kicked in. The Anbu grabbed the child and flashed away while her teammates dealt with the remainders of the mob and casualties. Ruto, Weasel couldn't finish the statement before tears fell from the bottom of the mask and she hugged the boy. Hiruzen's eyes were shadowed, and Jiraiya was shaking in rage. Dog was pacing back and forth because he felt like he failed his sensei. Watching Naruto had given him some relief from his distress and now he felt like a failure again. The room was silent except for Itachi's sobs until Hiruzen finally spoke up. Naruto, I am not saying you did anything wrong, but I need to know. Do you know what you did? Were you in control of your actions? Naruto scoffed and kept rubbing Weasel's back. Do you mean did the Kyuubi take control? Hiruzen winced at the discovery that the boy knew about the Kyuubi. The venom in his tone also didn't help the Hokage. Yes. No, it didn't. She kept me alive. Because of you, she is one of my only friends. Once again, the menace in Naruto's tone made the Hokage flinch. And so help me, old man, if you try to seal me, tamper with my memories or anything like that, I will make you regret it. It was Dog that stepped in here. Naruto, you can't talk to your Hokage like that. Naruto's ice-cold blue eyes tore through Kakashi. Dog-san, if I trusted in his care, I would have been dead a while ago. Despite the best efforts of Uro-Sennin or Weasel or yourself. Naruto. Hiruzen muttered pathetically. Gaki, Jiraiya started, let sensei go. This wasn't his doing. Naruto crossed his arms and pulled Weasel further into himself. Her presence was the only thing keeping him at bay. It was then that a nurse entered the room and told them that she needed to inspect the wounds. One after another, Bandages were removed and those watching gasped as flawless, tan skin greeted them. After the last bandage, Jiraiya whistled and shook his head. That is some healing factor you have, Gaki. Hiruzen looked to the nurse. Did we take any blood for a sample? Yes, Hokage-sama. The nurse answered with a small bow. Hiruzen looked towards Naruto. So, you have spoken with the Kyuubi? Naruto simply nodded with a blank look on his face. Is she responsible for your healing factor? Naruto shrugged. She helps, but she thinks my blood is special. Really special. Kurama added through the mind link. It even helps me heal. And you have a sensory ability also linked to a bloodline? The Hokage asked. Naruto shrugged. How would I know if I have a bloodline if you won't tell me who my parents were? The impassive cold tone once again bit into the old monkey. Is the Kyuubi the one training you? Hiruzen asked, skipping over the barbed question. Say yes, Naruto. It will take suspicion off Itachi-chan. Kurama interjected. Yes, she trains me. Naruto answered. For what reason? The Hokage asked. Are we playing 20 questions? Naruto countered as he shifted in the hospital bed. Naruto, you are not normal. Hiruzen began. No shit. Naruto interrupted him. I have had a bijou sealed in my gut since the day I was born. That pretty much takes normal out of the equation. Hiruzen sighed. Naruto cut him off, honestly fed up with the excuses. Look, old man, the villagers are going to keep hating me, except now they kind of have a reason too. I doubt you have the balls to tell the full story, so, I'm going to be the one blamed for those deaths. I, an 11-year-old, have to deal with their deaths and will bear them with me for the rest of my life. Sensei, Jiraiya followed his godson up. If you don't tell the villagers the full story then I will. Hiruzen sighed wearily and rubbed his eyes. I will make a public address about it. Dark reflections. I am normally a proud man, but I admit to many failures in my life and that night still rocks me to this day. The way my sensei and myself handled my godson's early life haunts me to this day. I was proud that the Gaki could defend himself, but my loathing for my village was at an all-time high. I gave my life, blood, time and talent for my country and they spat on the kid that I considered a disciple and surrogate son. It was one of the darker times of my life and I can only take solace in the fact that I would be there for him in his future times of need. Training Ground 44, end of first year of academy. After the mob incident, things became more difficult for Naruto. Every day he went to the academy was another day being around those filled with either fear or hate. The children that were neutral were few and far between. They, however, were small bright spots on Naruto's dreary days. Naruto sent shadow clones on most days because his shadow clones were more attentive and task-oriented than he was when he was bored. Naruto used that time to better train himself, review Fuinjutsu level 6 that Jiraiya gave him, talk with Kurama and put up with her insane workouts, hang out and train with Itachi on throwing weapons, and finally Naruto practiced the first Injutsu scroll that Jiraiya left. He admitted that getting chakra massages from his clones was fantastic and Itachi appreciated his massages greatly. She rarely stayed away from Naruto when it was her turn to watch over him. They hadn't gotten caught for almost a year and that filled Itachi with confidence. The two were inseparable and they were both coming into their hormones as Naruto approached 12 and Itachi was 15. Itachi didn't hide her feelings from him, and he kept nothing back from her. Under the guise of Injutsu instruction, Itachi was able to crack the personal touch barrier with him and she shared her first kiss with him in gratitude for a great massage. That opened the floodgates and the two often slept in tangled messes on the nights that Itachi was assigned to him. To Jiraiya's dismay, Naruto didn't lose his V card nor did Itachi, but the perverted sage was lucky enough to Naruto appeared in a flock of crows next to Itachi in a clearing in front of a flimsy fence. Naruto wanted to sign the crow contract, but Jiraiya had convinced him not to. He said that when he became a full Konoha shinobi that he would let Naruto sign the Toad contract. That didn't stop Itachi and the crow boss, Korra, from allowing him one summoning crow familiar. Itachi convinced the crow boss that she needed it to communicate with Naruto and Naruto easily passed Korra's test. Itachi guided Naruto into their typical training ground in the Forest of Death that offered them the privacy needed for them to conduct their training. The only person that knew of this spot was some crazy snake lady that was truly obsessed with Naruto's blood. It was creepy, but throughout the last 6 months she appears randomly, slices him with a kunai and licks the blood off before collapsing to the ground in orgasmic bliss. This made Itachi growl and get defensive, but Anko repeatedly shrugged her off and continued her antics. Naruto didn't know how to feel about it. The crazy snake lady was just as sexy as she was terrifying. While Itachi had the refined beauty in spades, Anko, the name of the crazy snake lady, had fiery sexiness in hearts. Thus, Anko would drop in from time to get a taste of Naruto's blood and spar against him. She didn't hold back, and Naruto was sure that he was now immune to the venom of all the snakes in the forest. Today, Itachi and Naruto were lucky enough to have privacy, as Naruto sensed around the forest and informed Itachi that they were alone. Through training, his Eye of Kagura ability could now sense for 2 kilometers. After Naruto's all clear, she removed her mask and began stretching. As they were stretching to warm up, Itachi began the conversation hesitantly.
Ruto, I need to tell you something.
Naruto looked up and transitioned into upper body stretches. What is it, Chi-chan? His electric azure orbs glistened in trust and innocence. Itachi took a deep breath. Today is my last day on your detail. I am being pulled for an important mission and I won't be able to see you for a while. Itachi rushed it out as if speaking the sentence hurt her. Naruto froze for a minute while looking at her. He then continued his stretches and spoke softly. I understand, Chi-chan. Thanks for all you have done for me. Itachi closed the distance and hugged Naruto. It wasn't just a job, Ruto. You are special to me. My new mission is important. Thought. Naruto answered her embrace and pulled her close. I understand. Stop by and see me when you can? Itachi closed her eyes and prayed while embracing him. I will if I can. Naruto separated from the hug and locked eyes with Itachi. Look, in a couple years I will be a shinobi. I will go straight to Chunin, then you can get me on your team. Everything will work out, Chi-chan. Itachi put on her most convincing smile. I look forward to it. Well, if today is our last day of training, then let's get to it, Naruto said enthusiastically. I need to learn your new genjutsu. What did you call it? Itachi giggled. Illusion arts, sensory inversion. Yeah, well, you use your eyes to do it. What hand signs do I need to match it? Naruto asked enthusiastically. Itachi held up her hands in a stop gesture. Your chakra control has gotten much better. Before using this genjutsu, you need to do the waterfall walking and kunai handstand chakra exercises. Is waterfall that different from river walking? Naruto asked with a cocked head. Yup, you are going up and the water is coming down fast and hard. There is a waterfall a ways into the forest. Itachi nodded her head in the direction they needed to go. Naruto shot her a cheeky grin. Race you there. Itachi let an innocent smile spread upon her face as she raced towards the waterfall. As always, this young man was the only one in the world that could make her smile without trying. It took that 10 minutes of bounding off of trees to arrive at the location, and she had enough time to turn around and place her hands on her cocked hips before Naruto dropped into the small clearing. You're the best, I'm the worst. You are beautiful and I am a hideous beast. You are the smartest and I sharpen crayons with my teeth. Naruto's joke was interrupted by Itachi's laughter. So, Chi-chan, what do you want me to do here? That waterfall is big enough for 50 clones. The rest can try kunai handstands. You and I are going to spar. Itachi answered. As Naruto set to the task, he received his ass whooping at Itachi's hands. The beautiful kunoichi smiled down on him as he lay flat on his back. She had him in a full mount with a kunai at his neck, but Naruto could care less. He was locked into a soul lock with her charcoal orbs that danced with mirth and softness that only he ever got to see. It took mere seconds for Naruto's grin to make Itachi drop the kunai, and the two engaged in a lip lock. In Naruto fashion, he broke the kiss and pulled a squealing Itachi into his arms before he jumped into the small pool at the base of the waterfall. Multiple clones got distracted and fell from various heights on the waterfall before they met their watery ends. Itachi sputtered as she surfaced, and the second spar between Naruto and Itachi began. She whooped him up and down once again before dunking him under the water until he tapped out. As he surfaced, he spit a stream of water in Itachi's face and got a squawk of indignance. She splashed water into his face and the two continued their shenanigans while training. It was the best day of either of their lives as they lay, nearly nude, on the bank of the pool. The sun was beginning to set, and the forest was growing dark. The forest was fairly dangerous as night, but the two lay flat on their backs and gazed up into the darkening sky. Are you going to be okay on your new assignment? Naruto asked while running a hand through her hair. She whimpered in comfort. I will be fine, Ruto. When I am old enough, Chi-chan, I am going to marry you, he whispered under his breath. Itachi rolled on her side and placed a hand on his chest. That is mighty bold of you, Ruto-kun. Naruto tilted his head towards her and beamed a gigawatt smile at her. It is the truth. The promise of a lifetime. Itachi leaned over and placed a passionate kiss on the boy that looked like a young man. I will hold you to that, Mr. Jiraiya's comments of gallant pride. My godson was an early bloomer, and his first conquest of the young lady's heart was amazing to listen to. As I sat and talked to them in my golden years, I fell in love with their love story. It was something truly unique and beautiful. It also evolved into the kind of inspiration that only those two could provide for my dear readers. Some of you may think that 11 is too young, but I humbly disagree. This kind of love is a once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing. As we get into this next part, I ask for forgiveness on behalf of my village. So many mistakes were made and so many hearts were broken by said mistakes. Those involved have been held accountable and they are all in the tender care of Kami or the pits of Yami. Steel your resolve, dear reader, for this next installment is heart-wrenching. The Uchiha Massacre, Naruto's 2nd year in academy. For the last year, Itachi had been working with Shisui to monitor the Uchiha clan's unrest. She had been playing a double agent for the Hokage and the village elders. Things weren't looking good, and it was all going to come to a head soon. It was November and the coup was imminent. Best guess had it sometime around the new year when everyone's guard was down. Plans to deal with it prematurely had been made and shattered days later. Itachi's cousin Shisui had the power to stop the coup in its tracks and he was attacked by Danzo. Shisui lost one of his eyes before committing suicide, but he gave Itachi his other eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Before his death, he had told Itachi about the crippled village elder and his dark schemes. Itachi was torn between love of clan and duty to village, and it caused one of the darkest days in Konoha history. Itachi had been called to report to the village elders and Hokage. It had been a long day as she had watched her clan spiral closer and closer to revolution. What started with the Uchiha elders grew into nearly 50 of the Uchiha's strongest shinobi. Her mother had not been involved yet, and Itachi was grateful for that. She shook the thoughts out of her head as she opened the door to the designated meeting place. When she opened the door, she saw 4 figures in the shadows and heard. "Remove your mask, Operative Uchiha." Itachi removed her mask and bowed her head, Operative Weasel responding to summons. "Raise your head, Itachi." She heard a shadow that sounded like the Sandaime say. As soon as she looked up, she knew what felt wrong. She was looking into the Mangekyo Sharingan, abbreviated as MS, of Shisui, and it was in Danzo's right eye. As he spoke, her mind was invaded and her will was overwritten. She tried to fight against it, but the will of the Kodo Amatsukami stopped her from activating her own Sharingan. After a minute, her resistance faded, and she replied to Danzo in a dead voice. "What are your orders, Danzo-sama?" "You will eliminate every Uchiha clan member tonight. You will start with the strongest and you will kill every man, woman and child until the embers of revolution are no more," Danzo said clearly and firmly. "Hi, Danzo-sama." Itachi replied monotonously before standing up and walking away. "The Sharingan will soon be mine. After she executes the Uchiha clan, I will harvest their Sharingan, and I will have the most powerful eyes in existence." The old cripple thought. "With that power, I will be able to usurp that fool Hiruzen and I will subjugate the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Under my rule, Konoha will rule over the elemental nations." Dark chuckling that sounded more ominous than nails on a chalkboard echoed through the room. Itachi appeared on a light pole overlooking her clan's compound while the sun set behind the Hokage mountain of Konoha. Inside, something stirred when she saw her clan, but she had her orders. She started at the police precinct to eliminate the Uchiha police force. She was able to kill almost all of them before the alarm went off. Men, women and children sought shelter in their homes as Itachi slashed her way to a home of the clan elders. She found the old fossil and slaughtered them without a second thought. She winced as blood splattered through the eye hole of her mask and she felt something stir inside her once more. Itachi proceeded to the clan head's home and the feeling inside her began stirring with increased frequency and intensity. It was enough to dizzy her vision and make her shake out her head. Upon entering the door, she saw her father standing protectively in front of her mother and Sasuke with a katana drawn. "So, they sent you," Fugaku said stoically, doing his best to remain composed at the sight of his blood-covered daughter. "It is the will of Danzo-sama. I will complete my mission." Itachi replied, but the image of her brother's terrified face shook her to the core. She immediately put him under a genjutsu with her Sharingan, but her altered mind didn't care that it was one of the cruelest genjutsu in her arsenal. Fugaku scowled, "So you are under that old cripple's control." He launched forward with his katana poised to strike and an intense kenjutsu battle began in the tight space. Fugaku did his best to keep Itachi's blade away from his wife and son. Mikoto was sheltering Sasuke and she had a kunai drawn in a protective pose. She would never be able to take the life of her daughter. She could only defend. After 3 minutes, Fugaku had Itachi's tanto run through his heart and the Uchiha patriarch spit out a mouthful of blood that spattered Itachi's chest. At that moment, Itachi's eyes changed and morphed into her own Mangekyo Sharingan. Her Sharingan was a 3-bladed shuriken with inverse blades. The emergence of her own MS, combined with the shock of seeing her blade in her father, snapped Itachi out of Danzo's control and broke the mind-controlling effects of Koto Amatsukami. She shook her head in defiance of reality and screamed to the heavens out of frustration and pain. The scream exited the house and echoed around the Uchiha compound. It was enough to make the surviving Uchiha hunker down in their shelters in an attempt to ride this out. Back in the clan head's house, Itachi had dropped to her knees, and she was looking in horror at her bloody hands. Tears of remorse fell freely and Mikado raced over and embraced her daughter in a hug. No, 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 Itachi cried. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, Itachi said through her tears. Shh, calm down and tell me what happened, Itachi, Mikado said compassionately as blood covered the front of her apron. Danzo, he put me under his control. He has Shisui Sharingan. Itachi whimpered out. Mikado gasped in horror at the implication. Mikado stood up and got her daughter on her feet. She enclosed her cheeks in her hands. Daughter, you need to go. Run, hide, and when the time is right, I will bring you back. Just ride this out. She implored her daughter while wiping away her tears. Thoughts of Ruto, her family and her village flashed through her mind as her heart cringed in pain once more and her Mangekyo Sharingan spun in a wild and erratic fashion. She was so despondent about leaving behind everything she knew and loved that she would rather die. That thought was crushed in its infancy by the love she held in her heart for Naruto. If she were going to leave, she needed to see him one last time. The thought of being strong for him steadied her feet and allowed her to embrace her mother. I love you, Kachan, Itachi whispered. I love you too, Chi-chan. This wasn't your fault, Mikado whispered back and stroked her daughter's bloody hair. Now, go. Itachi disappeared into the night of the Uchiha compound before Sasuke got the chance to awaken. She blended with the shadows and moved out. That was when she felt them. That was when she saw the emotionless Rudanbu hovering over corpses of the Uchiha and removing their Sharingan. Her MS flared to life and a rage burned within her veins and ignited her chakra. What ensued was the true massacre of the night. 80 Rudanbu were killed in the span of half an hour and the old crippled Danzo was forced to retreat back to his rat hole after Itachi nearly landed a killing blow on him. She took a small amount of satisfaction in that she had taken his left arm off. Now he had a crippled right arm and a nub protruding from his left elbow. It didn't matter that his two loyal pawns evacuated him, Danzo was crippled. Itachi created a shadow clone and took sealing scrolls off of Danzo's Rudanbu. Her clone began sealing the bodies of her fallen clan members into the scrolls and went back towards her home to give the bodies and further information to her mother. After reporting to her mother, her clone went to report what happened to the Hokage. Itachi had another place she needed to go before she put Konoha in the rearview mirror. Itachi walked into Naruto's sealed apartment and made herself known. She slid out of her bloody clothes and went into his shower to rinse the blood and stench of the night off. She only took a shower for a couple minutes before she stepped out of the shower and saw a fresh pile of clothes waiting there for her. She got dressed and walked out of the bathroom and saw Naruto's bedroom door was open and she heard noise coming from the kitchen. Naruto smiled in front of the coffee maker as he poured a steaming cup of coffee for Itachi. Rough mission, huh? The 12-year-old said innocently. Itachi's longing for a life of love with Naruto made her EMS spin to life as her eyes locked onto his stunningly pure azure orbs. Before she even knew what she was doing, the whisper of Tsukiyomi escaped her lips. The scene hadn't changed, but every detail of the night had. Itachi was there in Naruto's apartment to confess her love to him and start their life together right then and there. 70 beautiful years of happiness, love and family filled the minds of the two. In the world of Tsukiyomi, Itachi got to genuinely experience a life of love with the man she knew on an existential level was her soulmate. She never felt more alive nor more secure than when her hand was in his. She could never ask for anything more than his genuine love and affection because it would always be more than enough for her. Itachi lived out her life and after the first couple years she almost forgot that she was in an illusion. The time in Tsukiyomi reinforced Itachi's will to protect Naruto and Konoha and it steeled her for what she needed to do. The illusion didn't break until Naruto died in the loving company of Itachi, their children and grandchildren. It was at that point that Itachi's mind brought her back to the painful reality. It was at that point that Itachi made her decision. She was going to bury the memories of their perfect life together deeper than even the Kyuubi was buried. She would not rob him of a chance to find love. Itachi nearly lost her focus on the illusion as she was suppressing the memories. The amount of love that Naruto carried for her throughout his whole being was warmer than the sun and more beautiful than anything Itachi would ever see again. One thing that Itachi didn't know was what a profound effect that Tsukiyomi life would subconsciously have on Naruto. It primarily instilled a love and hunger for her, despite the overt order to move on. It also helped to anchor Naruto to Konoha, and it made him instinctively protective of the village and the precious people in it. Just as Itachi was. His subconscious would make his thought process more mature, and it would continue to develop and have a profound impact on his life. Once the memories were suppressed, Itachi struggled to maintain her conviction. She wanted to have that life all over again with Naruto, but she knew what she needed to do to protect him and her home. She was strong enough to get through this, and the memories gave her the happiness that would empower her through the struggles to come. Before she let the illusion fade, she emplaced the following memory in Naruto's mind. She then placed a tender kiss on his lips, bit his neck to recover her chakra and energy, and took off into the night. In the memory Itachi implanted, after Naruto asked her about the rough mission, she broke down and tears began streaming from her eyes, which made Naruto put the cup on the counter before he rushed to embrace her. It took him a minute to coax the story out of her, and she had to stop him from releasing Kurama right then and there. She kept him in her embrace and accepted all the pain and hatred that the night created. She didn't want it to taint his light. She would carry this burden for him.
I don't want you to go, Naruto whispered into her neck.
I know, Itachi whispered back while running a hand through his hair. I don't want it either. Let's just go kill Danzo. We can get Shisui's eye and clear your name. Naruto implored. Itachi shook her head and kept stroking his hair. It would do too much damage to the village and my clan. The truth cannot come out, not right now. Naruto looked up with a tear-stricken face. Chi, don't go. Don't leave me.
I will go with you.
His tone was desperate as he clung to her as if she were his life. No, Ruto. She placed a tender kiss on his lips. I want you to live happy. I want you to find a good girl to fall in love with. I want you to find the happiness that you were denied in your childhood. You are strong enough to get through this now. Naruto lunged forward and crashed his lips into Itachi's for a minute. I have found the woman I love. I am going to marry you, remember? A soft smile traced across Itachi's face. Of course. That was the best day of my life. Her face hardened. Ruto, I don't want you to be alone. I want you to share all of that love you have there in your heart with a woman that deserves it. I want you to have what I will never be able to have now. Naruto shook his head in defiance. You are mine and I am yours. If you are mine, then listen to me, please. Itachi's visage cracked when she said please, and it basically forced Naruto to nod in agreement. I will keep in touch with the crows. Use Kario to send me messages and I will use them to watch over you. Naruto nodded weakly. Also, Ruto, now that I am a rogue ninja, I can tell you this. Naruto looked up with a pleading smile. Tell me what, Chi? First, I love you. Second, your parents are Kushina Uzumaki and Minato Namikaze. I hate the fact that the Sandaime held it over your head as if he had the right to do so. Itachi pulled Naruto into a hug as the stunning information of the night overloaded his brain. Your mother was known as the Red Death, and she was the previous Jinchuriki of Kurama. Your father, the Yellow Flash, was obviously the fourth Hokage. Thank you for telling me. Naruto replied softly before shelving that information to give Itachi his full attention. I love you now and always.
I don't know if I can be, but if I can't be with you.
Then I will try to find someone. Itachi ran her thumb across his whiskers, and she smiled when he leaned his head into her touch. Thank you, Ruto. If you can watch out for Kachan and my little brother, I would appreciate it. Naruto maintained eye contact with Itachi and nodded resolutely. Within the seal, Kurama was touched by the scene she was watching silently, and she made Itachi the one Uchiha that was okay in her books. She genuinely respected the kunoichi, and as a woman she couldn't imagine how hard this was for her to do. She closed her eyes and decided that she would help Naruto in Itachi's stead. She knew as a matter of fact that the two would run into each other in the future. Itachi placed one more tender kiss and nibble on Naruto's lips before she left the apartment in a flock of crows. After the nibble, she felt reinvigorated and set off into the night to start her life as a missing nin. That night was one of the most monumental nights in Naruto's life, and it began his blood feud with Danzo. He would never, ever, forgive that crippled old bastard. Finding Itachi became one of his motivating factors to get stronger, and he would do everything he could to make sure she didn't have to be alone for long. Hokage's office, 3 days after the massacre. Hiruzen sighed as he reviewed the final damage reports on his desk while his student hovered over him with his arms crossed in front of his chest and a disappointed frown on his face. The total casualties of the night were 85 Uchiha dead, which was 90% of their fighting force. The older Uchiha, Mikoto Uchiha, and the clan children were spared Itachi's wrath. He had 4 Uchiha in the Anbu, and he would need to release them to train the next generation on clan jutsus. On top of that, there were 112 dead corpses with blank Anbu masks on them. They didn't even have the Konoha symbol nor the knee that Hiruzen knew was on every root shinobi's mask. There was extensive damage done to the Uchiha compound and an extremely enraged Mikoto Uchiha to deal with. Hiruzen had already conceded to all of her demands except one. He would not kill Danzo. To his consternation, there was no physical proof linking to the man, and the masked shinobi cannot be pinned on him. Likewise, the testimony of a rogue kunoichi would not stand up against the elder of his village. That being said, Hiruzen knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that Danzo was responsible for this. If Hiruzen were in his God of Shinobi days rather than his golden years, he would have executed his friend himself. However, now, he needed the root, or what remained of it. Losing 85 Uchiha Shinobi, the whole police force and most active duty Shinobi, was a big blow, and he needed the manpower that root represented. He had found Danzo, stripped him of power and got him to hand over the root shinobi to himself. He only let him keep his 3 bodyguards, and he hadn't seen the old cripple since. That being said, Hiruzen still felt a pit in his stomach when he thought of his old rival and what he had done. "You are going to regret letting him live, sensei." Jiraiya broke the silence while looking disappointedly down at Hiruzen. Hiruzen sighed before taking a drag on his pipe. "Perhaps. At least you will have an agent that can get into that organization you have been hearing bits and pieces about." Jiraiya scoffed. It wasn't worth the price Itachi and Naruto had to pay. "The kid is crushed." Hiruzen rubbed his eyes wearily. "Yeah, it wasn't worth all of these council meetings either. I can't believe that Koharu and Homura are still siding with Danzo." Jiraiya scowled. "Just say the word and I will kill all 3 of those old goats." Hiruzen held up a calming hand. "No, Jiraiya, we still need them." "Yeah, right. We need corrupt bags of bones to lead our village further down the drain." "You need to sack up, sensei," Jiraiya said harshly and got no reply other than another sigh. "Are you ready for the public address tomorrow?" Hiruzen begged his pipe to give him the sweet release it used to by taking a larger than normal drag. He sputtered out coughs of smoke moments later after the potent smoke tickled his lungs. "I will do what needs to be done." Before another question could be asked, there was a knock on the door. Hiruzen told them to enter, and his heart nearly cracked when the tear-stained face of Naruto walked through the door. The boy looked despondent and Hiruzen wanted to comfort him. He wanted to be there for the boy, but every time he tried something, it always backfired. "Gigi, can you ask Yuanbu to leave, please?" Naruto said in a pleading voice. Hiruzen was finally able to see the 12-year-old boy that had been hidden behind rigorous shinobi training. He made a hand sign and there were 4 blurs that exited the Hokage's office. Naruto walked limply around the desk and Hiruzen stood to give the boy a hug. It was finally time for the boy to accept his as his grandfather figure. Once Naruto was in range, his knee snapped up and collided with the bottom of the God of Shinobi's wrinkled old sack. Hiruzen folded like laundry in a monastery, and he heard Naruto whisper something in a menacing tone laced with killing intent. That was for Itachi-chan. The boy growled before a chakra-coated right fist slammed into his left cheek and forced his face into the ground. As the Anbu poured through the door, everyone heard what Naruto said next. "And that was for hiding my parents' identities from me, you old goat." Hiruzen remained crumpled on the floor as his Anbu held Naruto at sword point until the Hokage was able to wave them off. "Stand down," he said with difficulty. "Leave us," he added as he put a hand on his desk to help himself up. The Anbu hesitated to follow those orders, but once the Hokage's head was above the desk, they relented and followed his orders. He was able to sink back into his chair and he kept a hand holding his wounded kibble in bits. Once he recomposed himself, he locked eyes with Naruto and nearly flinched back at the red-slitted orbs that were glaring back at him. He sighed and winced in pain as he adjusted himself painfully in his chair. "Who told you?" Hiruzen asked firmly while Jiraiya remained quiet, simply enjoying the spectacle. "Who do you think, you senile old geezer?" Naruto countered. "Itachi," Hiruzen said after thinking for a couple of seconds. "How much did she tell you?" "Everything." Naruto answered immediately with a harshness in his tone that should be foreign to children. "Naruto. Save the excuses and shove them up your ass on your own time." Naruto cut him off. "Explain how you fucked up so bad that the girl I love had to kill her own fucking clan? In what world is that fucking acceptable?" "Gaki," Jiraiya said as he placed a comforting hand on Naruto's shoulder. "If you know everything, then you know. Danzo will get what's coming to him." Naruto growled. "I am talking about the last year that he had Itachi watching her own clan. Are you that bad at your job that you couldn't figure out a solution? Because in 3 days I thought of hundreds of ideas that could have helped alleviate the friction. No, Kyofu, I will not shut up, I will get this off my chest. You are so inept that you let an old cripple steal the eyes of the one person that could have outright halted the coup, not that it should have even gotten that far. You are so old that you trusted that evil cripple enough to where he put Itachi under his control. You are so weak that you made your most loyal kunoichi go missing nin because you asked her to place the village above herself. Naruto had broken down into a teary mess at the end. Every negative emotion Naruto was feeling was pointing the blame towards the Hokage. Hiruzen's posture had sunk lower and lower throughout Naruto's monologue. It hurt more because it was true and there was nothing Hiruzen, the professor, could say to refute it. I am sorry, Naruto. I know you are. I know you are sorry. I know you didn't plan it this way, but that is the problem. You didn't want it to happen, but your inaction let it happen. You have lost your stride, old man. Naruto finished solemnly. We will handle the fallout and we will put Danzo in check, Gaki. Jiraiya winced at the flare of anger and the glare from the red eyes when he said Danzo's name. You are letting that old fucker live? Naruto growled. Hiruzen sighed once more. There are a lot of things about politics and village power balance that you don't understand, Naruto-kun. I ask you to trust me on this. Trust me, Gaki. I am going to be around for a while to put him in handcuffs and keep him in check. Jiraiya supported his sensei. So, you are going to take back Shisui's Sharingan from him? Naruto asked challengingly. Both of their eyes widened at the thought. Because I don't think the old fuck will simply hand it over. Nobody willing to commit genocide against a founding clan would be willing to hand over such power. The two remained pensive for a while before Jiraiya spoke. Leave it to us, Gaki. Now, what is this about your parents? Naruto chuckled darkly. Well, Itachi said that since she is a missing nin anyways, that she wanted to tell me as a fuck you to the old man here and the elders. My mom is Kushina Uzumaki, the Whirlpool Princess and Red Death. My dad was the Yellow Flash, the fourth Hokage and Jiraiya's student, which explains why he is my godfather. Naruto nodded toward Jiraiya at the end. Hiruzen put his pipe on his desk and buried his hands in his head. Naruto. You weren't supposed to find that out until you were a chunin. Yeah, well, like every other plan you have made since you took the position back up, it was a shitty plan and worse idea. I am sure, that if I didn't have the Kyuubi or Itachi, that you could have kept me stupid enough to accept that. But, Naruto's anger flared up here accompanied by a raise in his tone and volume. Once again, I say, fuck you, old man. You had no right to hide that from me. Naruto's anger flared out of control because of the unsettled emotions flowing freely through him. Jiraiya put both of his hands on Naruto's shoulders to forcibly calm and restrain him. And that is enough. I have let you rip into sensei because he deserved it. Enough is enough and I expect my proud and professional student back. Naruto closed his eyes, took a deep breath and forcibly calmed his emotions. It took 2 full minutes of controlled breathing before Naruto replied, yes, sensei. Good. Jiraiya patted his shoulders with an understanding look before he locked eyes with the Hokage. Well, the kid knows now, and I am happy about that. Your move, sensei. Hiruzen nearly buckled under the weight of both of their stares. It had been a terribly long couple of days, and he was just too tired to resist. Naruto, you said that if I would have told you, then you would have kept it a secret. Is that still the case? So long as the council doesn't steal my parents' stuff and you can give me some small things, then I can accept that, Hokage-sama. Naruto answered professionally. Hiruzen was glad that the boy's anger was restrained now. It was truly intimidating looking at the eyes of the Kyuubi. Good. If you can keep this secret until you turn chunin, then by law you are able to take your inheritance then and the council cannot deny you. Fair. Naruto answered promptly. Can I have access to any scrolls or family jutsu? I don't care about the money, and I know it would be too much to live in the house. I just want a chance to learn my family jutsus. If they had any generic weapons, then that would help with my training as well. Hiruzen seemed to think before he reached into the secret compartment of his desk. After a poof of smoke, Hiruzen pushed a sealed box towards Naruto. It wasn't very big, only big enough to hold some letters and small scrolls. This is what your father left me. As you said, I cannot give you access to the house. The compound has been on complete lockdown and if you enter, then it will become obvious that somebody went in there. Naruto sighed in disappointment. Well, is there no way to sneak in? I would like the Fuinjutsu scrolls, elemental control scrolls and speed techniques my father used. Jiraiya puffed out his chest. Gaki, I can teach you your father's jutsus. Your mom was a water user, and your dad was wind and lightning. Do you know your elements, Naruto? Hiruzen asked with interest. This was a topic that didn't put any pressure on him. Water, lightning and fire. Water is my main, lightning is almost as strong, and I think I added fire after practicing so much with Itachi, Naruto said, dropping that little nugget of information. So, It was Itachi that was training you all along? Hiruzen asked. Naruto shrugged. Itachi, Shisui, Fugaku, Senin and the Kyuubi recently joined the group. Why tell me now? Hiruzen asked wearily. Because they are dead or missing and out of your control or reprimand. Naruto answered blandly. Quite frankly, Hokage-sama, I just don't give a fuck anymore. I am going to do whatever the fuck I want to do because you forced my heart to walk out of the village. You want to punish me? Go ahead, you can't do any worse than what has already been done to me. His tone was defiant and crestfallen at the same time. Hiruzen's heart felt like an elephant just stood on it. He had sworn to the boy's father that he would do what he could to give the boy a good life. He acknowledged that the massacre and Itachi's banishment was a result of his failures and as such, he felt responsible for the boy's current state. I am not going to punish you, Naruto-kun. I am proud of you and how far you have come. If this were a couple years ago, you would have graduated from the academy already. Naruto shrugged that comment off and moved on with the conversation. Did my mom have the Uzumaki clan scrolls? I want to know more about my sensory ability, and I think I have something else going on with my blood. No, Gaki. Jiraiya answered for the Hokage. She had the Konoha version, which was compiled by Lady Mito and your mother. The original is either still in Uzushiagakure or it was lost during the sacking of Uzu. Fine. Why are there no books in the library on the Uzumaki? Why are there no lessons in the academy about a co-founding clan and ally of the Senju? Naruto kept things moving quickly because he honestly wanted to get the required information and get the hell out of here. Hiruzen sighed. The council decreed, after the death of your mother, that we should remove it from our history. They wanted to erase the black mark in our village's history, and I wanted to shelter you from the spies and other parties discovering your identity. Naruto growled, fucking council. Another thing I wish to punch you in the face for, Hokage-sama. I request any knowledge you kept out of reach of the public. I wish to start rebuilding my clan records. Hiruzen nodded. That is something I can do. I ask you to hold off on publicizing the knowledge until you reach Chunin as well. Fine. Naruto answered, since at least he would get his clan history. He could give a fuck less what the ignorant villagers thought. Finally, I would like this in writing. No offense, but you are fucking old. If you die, I want something in hand to force the council's hand. Hiruzen chuckled at the candor and nodded. Very well. I will write up an agreement for you to sign later and then we will let Jiraiya hold onto it. Good enough for me. I will be in my apartment plotting ways to make Danzo suffer. If he does one more fucking thing, I will kill him myself. Naruto parted with a warning and took the box with his parents' wills as he left the Hokage's office. Well, that could have gone better, sensei, Jiraiya said cheekily as the door closed behind Naruto. Hiruzen rubbed the forming bruise on his liver-spotted cheek. Yes, it could have. That boy has been exposed to far too much already. Jiraiya frowned. Yeah, and he is stronger for it, for the most part. Hiruzen sighed. He is stronger, but he harbors no love for the village. Can you blame him? Jiraiya asked candidly. No, but at the same time I cannot have Minato's son and heir as a flight risk. Hiruzen answered. Just leave him to me and give him time to heal. He is very young, but the relationship between him and Itachi was one of the most beautiful and genuine things I had ever seen, Jiraiya said fondly. Will he ever forgive me for that? No. Jiraiya answered plainly. And on that note, I am going to the hot springs to blow off some steam. I will be there for the public address tomorrow. Naruto arrived in his apartment 10 minutes later and he sat down in his study and simply looked at the box for nearly an hour. His mind was so jumbled and his thoughts so scattered that he wasn't sure he could take any more today. He decided to heed Kurama's advice and he went to sleep. It was on days like this that it was good to have a bijou as a friend to forcibly put you to sleep. Jiraiya's additions to this story. The massacre was a terrible tragedy that showed that all evil needs to prosper in the world is for good men to do nothing. My sensei's inaction leading up to that night haunted him for quite a while and it was the final straw for his relationship with my student. All he ever got after that was cold indifference or straightforward professionalism. I did what I could to help the Gaki through it, but I fully admit that it was a shit hand. As for the Tsukiyomi dream, I was shocked beyond belief when I heard that. I didn't find out about it until much later. It had a massive impact on my Gaki even before he learned about it. It made him love Itachi that much more and it served as undeniable proof that her love for my godson was among the strongest things in the world. Upon discovering the subliminal effects of the Tsukiyomi, a lot of things started making just a little more sense. As for the confrontation in the office, I don't know whether to be proud of how my godson handled it or sorry for the sensei that raised me. I was glad that the Gaki finally knew about his heritage, and it really helped him moving forward. That being said, I wouldn't wish the pain Naruto went through on my worst enemy, and it affected him for a long time to come. Getting through the BS, Naruto sighed as he awoke and looked at the calendar. It was the end of his third year at the academy and he was almost 13 now. Since it was the last day of the academy year, he had another assessment test to deal with. Thus, a shadow clone wouldn't suffice. He walked into the classroom that was filled with the faces he had come to know, and he ignored everyone as he walked to the back seat by the window. His clone sat here every day and used the Eye of Kagura in hopes to once more feel Itachi's unique chakra signature. Alas, it wasn't meant to be. Naruto sat through Iruka's lecture, which was a recap of what they learned throughout the year. Naruto knew that he had learned almost nothing useful from the class, but he managed to stay awake through the boring lecture. At lunch, he went and sat in the tree that Itachi always watched his classroom in, and he watched the students of his class act like the teens and pre-teens they were. He felt like he no longer belonged in such company, but that was just how things went when one grew up too fast. Naruto fiddled with his resistance seal and adjusted his weight seals as he sat in the tree and ate his bento. He watched Sasuke imitate him as he sat below a tree and ate his lunch alone. Sasuke had been even more of an isolated brooder since the massacre, and he actively distanced himself from his classmates. Shikamaru laid on his back and watched the clouds while Kyuubi ate an assortment of food beside him. Kiba ran around the training ground with Akamaru, and that actually managed to make Naruto smile. The feral and smelly dog boy wasn't too bad when he wasn't boasting or in your face. Unfortunately, he fancied himself an alpha and hated Naruto for holding the #1 spot in the class. Shino was alright by Naruto. He just kept to himself and his bugs, and Naruto watched him talk to a ladybug that he found in the school's modest garden. That just left the girls of the class, who were all gathered together and gossiping about boys while squealing loudly intermittently. Ino was a natural leader, and she was the ringleader of the posse. She was alright at the kunoichi arts, but she carried a fierce attitude and a modicum of skill to earn her the 2nd place spot among the girls. Sakura was her best friend or rival, it was hard to tell sometimes. She was a loud, abrasive and quite frankly annoying girl with pink hair. She wouldn't be so bad if she ever got out of her fangirling over Sasuke, but Naruto wasn't holding his breath. That just left the little mousy brunette with astounding low confidence. Hinata Hyuga was a nice enough girl and she always kept to herself. Her chakra was the most controlled of the bunch and she was actually skilled as a kunoichi. Unfortunately, her lack of confidence and kind spirit inhibited her use of her skills. Naruto hoped that she would be on his team because he knew that he could actually help shape her into a fine kunoichi. Naruto polished off his bento and sighed as it was already time to return to the classroom. He sighed again when he made eye contact with Ino Yamanaka and she strutted over to him. "Hey, Naruto, how are you?" she asked. It became obvious to Naruto that her dad had told her to engage with him at school after the Chunin incident, and it only redoubled since the Uchiha Massacre. "Fine, Ino, thanks for asking," Naruto replied blandly. He didn't care much to engage with his classmates. "How are you?" Ino offered a small smile. "I'm okay. Just want to get this spar over with and then I can get on with my summer." It was at this point that Naruto noticed all of the girls watching them talk. He nodded to said girls. "You okay talking with me in front of them?" Ino shrugged playfully. "Okay then, well, any plans for the summer?" He followed up his first question. "Well, I have my job in the clan's flower shop, but other than that, not really," she answered casually as they walked back into the classroom. "How about you?" Naruto shrugged, probably just going to hang out and train in the forest. He admitted that it was the forest of death. "Why not hang out with some of the clan kids?" Ino asked, getting on to her main objective of the conversation. Naruto offered a weak smile. "Thanks for the offer, but I would rather focus on my training." Ino pouted at that. She really didn't like being denied. "Why do you train so much?" Naruto's smile faltered and Ino could tell that he clammed up while thinking about something painful. "Let's just say I need to be strong if I want to reach my goals." Ino nodded and patted him on the shoulder. "Good luck at the spars today, I know you will do well." Naruto nodded at that and went to his seat. She saw Ino get ribbed for talking to the demon, murderer or whatever they were calling him these days. He walked through the end of the year assessment test easily, trounced Kiba in a spar and aced the practical portion before he disappeared from the academy in a sunshine. He went to the clearing where he used to train with Itachi in the Forest of Death. Everything he did sent flashes of memories from the years with Itachi crashing into his brain. "Relax, Ruto. Why don't you summon the clones and give them their tasks before coming in to talk to me?" Kurama's soft voice echoed through the mind link. After doing just that, Naruto appeared in the seal and saw Kurama resting atop the bloodstained ruins of Konoha. There were many days that Kurama enjoyed in wanton destruction of the village in his mindscape. Naruto noticed that she tended to do it when he was in a foul mood. He walked over the rubble and onto the nose of the kitsune. He laid back into the indent on Kurama's nose and closed his eyes contentedly. Hey Q, how have you been? Naruto asked sleepily. Kurama huffed, I am not your bed, kid. As you can tell, I have been venting frustration and that is why I called you into the seal. Okay, let's hear it. Naruto answered slowly. Your isolation isn't good for your mental stability. Kurama started softly. Since she left, you have been aimless and depressed. It is time to move on to living your life. Yeah, I guess. Naruto answered blandly. What do you wish to do with your life? What gets you out of bed in the morning? Kurama asked. Naruto shrugged, I really wanted a family with her. Other than that, I never gave it much thought. I mean, I want to be strong. Strong enough to protect those I love. Kurama played on that fire. She knew that emotion and how much the boy valued family. It was one of the things that she appreciated most about him. Then, get something to fight for. If Itachi is out there, then get strong enough to defy everyone and bring her back. If you want me, then get strong enough to earn my respect. If you find another woman, then train now so that you never have to worry about them getting hurt due to your weakness. Kurama didn't realize what she slipped into the middle of that, but Naruto caught it. Strong enough to earn you and your respect? Q, I like you and you are pretty much my only friend, but I ain't into, well, that. Naruto answered playfully. Kurama huffed, don't you know that foxes are masters of illusions? She shook Naruto off her nose, and she would cherish his gobsmacked face forever in her memories as she transitioned to her humanoid kitsune form. She was drop-dead gorgeous as fiery red hair blanketed a face that was nearly angelic, except there was a healthy amount of sexy in there. Red slitted orbs fell into beautiful wide eyes, and she bore whisker marks much like he did. She was dressed in a loose-fitting, red and black kimono that exposed a healthy amount of cleavage. If his training under Jiraiya wasn't in vain, then he would say she is a 34D. The vertical cut in her kimono exposed a long and sensual right leg that had 9, swishing, orange fox tails behind her. Wow, Naruto said while his jaw was on the floor. Kurama giggled, yeah, I can work with wow. Why are you just now showing me this? Naruto asked dreamily. Because I liked you better when you were motivated. If I can motivate you, and you prove yourself worthy of me, then I may be inclined to reciprocate your feelings. You are a good man, Naruto Uzumaki. I genuinely believe that. You have been through a lot for one so young, but that good man is still at the core of your being, Kurama said softly as she closed the distance and rubbed the tears off of his whisker marks.
I just don't know what I am supposed to do.
Sanin left the village like 6 months back and he was the only one helping me through it. Auntie Mikoto has so much on her plate already after that day and I just don't know how to help her. Sasuke is a broody and jealous cuck and I don't really have any other friends. Tears fell freely as Naruto exposed his real self to the sole remaining entity that he trusted implicitly in Konoha. Like I said. Fuck all of that. Focus on being you and getting strong enough to do what you want when you want to do it, Kurama said softly. And if that is not enough, then try to become the first mortal to earn my trust, love and power. I thought you said that you fooled around with mortals before? Naruto countered in an attempt to break out of his sadness. Oh, I have slept with mortal men, but none of them had ever made me love them. Nobody has ever earned my trust or my love, much less my power, Kurama said. Then why offer this challenge to me? I appreciate the motivation, but I don't ever want to treat you like some conquest or prize to be won, Kurama giggled, and you don't understand that is exactly what makes you worthy of this offer. Her tone was sexy and flirty, and Naruto was starting to blush. Okay, Q, I will try. One question though. Kurama nodded and waited for the question. Let's say I earn all 3 from you. If I find Itachi in the future. Kurama cut him off with a finger to his lips and nodded, then I would accept her as well. I have told you already, that mortal earned my respect and trust. Naruto offered a sincere smile, then I accept your challenge. Good, now get out there because the crazy snake lady is approaching, Kurama said playfully. Sure enough, when Naruto returned to reality, he felt the massive bust of Anko Mitarashi pressed into his back and she was already quivering in pleasure as she tasted his blood. Naruto actually enjoyed the sensation as pleasure racked Anko's body and he could smell her fresh release. So, does the blood of young boys just get you off or am I something special? Naruto asked cheekily. Anko smiled and scraped another drop of blood up with her kunai. You are something special, Gaki. She licked the drops of blood off the kunai and quivered once more. So, are you going to be a regular in my forest again? Naruto shrugged, I planned on training here over the summer. That all right with you? Anko placed a cheeky kiss on his cheek. Sure thing, neighbor. Maybe when you earn that Hishiate I will actually show you how much I appreciate your blood. Naruto shivered at her sexy and sultry tone. Well then, I am glad you are willing to wait. I don't know if I could handle you yet. Naruto used his husky tone to reply in kind. Anko laughed, damn straight. I am exquisite. Too bad everybody just sees me as a piece of ass. Naruto immediately noticed the mood change and honored her dropping of the mask by reciprocating. Hurt and pain-filled chocolate eyes stared into the endless azure depths. I understand, Anko. If they don't appreciate how awesome you are, then fuck 'em. Not literally though, because they don't deserve you. Anko transitioned from latching over his shoulders to leaning back to back with him. You understand me, Gaki? So, who was the unlucky bastard this time? Naruto asked as his head leaned back on her shoulder. Aoba. Anko answered plainly. He took me to the damn Jonin bar, got all handsy and shit. Bought me a bunch of drinks and then acted upset when I told him that I didn't want to sleep with him. How many snakes did he earn? Naruto asked again, knowing exactly how such encounters with Anko go. 6. She answered without blinking. Naruto winced, what kind? Well, Hokage said I can't poison his shinobi anymore, so I went with boa constrictors. That'll leave a mark, Naruto said while chuckling. Mind if I ask why you like hanging out with a kid like me? Anko shrugged, you like hanging out in my home. You understand my pain. You are a cool kid, and you are going to grow into a fine man. I don't care if I have to cradle rob a little bit, I want first dibs on you. Her reply was serious and playful at the same time. Naruto chuckled, thanks, sweetheart. Once I get past the snakes, you aren't so bad yourself. Want to try something crazy to get rid of that cursed mark of yours? Anko spun around in a flash and had him pinned on the ground. I thought you weren't ready yet? I thought Jiraiya couldn't reach you the necessary Fuinjutsu. Naruto held up his hands in a plea for silence. It is not Fuinjutsu based. Care for a demonstration? Anko nodded. Cut yourself real deep on your arm. A wound that you wouldn't be able to heal with just chakra. Naruto was surprised that Anko didn't hesitate and she damn near sawed her arm off with her own kunai without blinking. Despite the morbid sight, Naruto couldn't help but laugh at that. At least it showed that she trusted him. He held out his forearm to her. Now, bite me and bite me hard. When you feel my chakra, don't fight it. Anko hesitated for a second, but she trusted the kid enough to grievously wound her arm. What could biting him hurt? Without another thought, Anko bit down on his toned forearm. If Anko could describe what happened next, then her words would fail to do it justice. It was like every orgasm she ever had was just combined into one and it tore through her body with a potent intensity. She erupted from her womanhood in a geyser, but that wasn't the most amazing thing. The wound on her arm healed in front of her eyes as she sucked chakra and blood out of the young man. Within 30 seconds, Anko recovered from her earth-shattering orgasm, and she realized that she was still biting down on the kid's arm. She winced when she saw the teeth marks left behind on his arm and she was surprised to see that they had already healed into a faint scar. She looked expectantly at him now. She really wanted to hear this crazy idea. Naruto shook out the haziness in his vision and gathered his thoughts for a minute. Even for someone with his reserves, that was still a lot of chakra to give in such a short time. Alright, I am thinking that you activate the curse seal and I cut it out of you. It will hurt like a bitch, and you will bleed, but my chakra should push it out of you since your body still recognizes it as a foreign presence. Like it is a virus of something. Anko shook her head, that is simple and crazy simultaneously. Just the kind of plan I like. If it will get this fucking thing off of me, then I am willing to try anything. Naruto shrugged, at worst, I waste a bunch of chakra and blood to heal you. Best case, that hickey from hell is gone. Anko rubbed her neck where the curse mark was. Well, it isn't hurting after I ingested your blood and chakra. Do you have enough in the tank to do it right now? Let's wait till tomorrow. Think you can get me a scalpel, so I am not digging around in your neck with a kunai? Naruto asked. Sure thing, Gaki. I will be here tomorrow morning. I want to get to you before you waste all of your chakra. Anko replied before leaning forward and placing a kiss on his cheek. Thanks for giving me some hope. Anytime. Believe it or not, you helped me too. He replied softly with a blush on his cheeks. How so, Gaki? Anko asked. You were just here, and you were just you. I don't ask for much, Anko-chan. All I want are some genuine friends and well, yeah. That would be enough for now. Naruto answered. Anko got a playfully sadistic grin on her face, and she jiggled her assets in his face. What? So, you don't want Anko-chan as more than a friend? Naruto's face fell and he was suddenly reflective. I decided something today and it is still new for me. I am sure you know that I love and loved Itachi. She asked me to move on over a year ago and I have been unable to do so. But she wouldn't like seeing me as a broody bastard and I quite frankly don't like me as a broody emo. So, I'm going to try to move on. That was what I decided right before you showed up. Anko pulled him into an understanding hug. I don't know the full story, but I do know that you two truly loved each other. It was written all over your faces whenever you were together. I respect your decision and I won't pressure you. That being said, if your plan to remove this fucking mark works, then I am first in line when you get your headband. Deal? Naruto shrugged, I could do worse. Anko slugged him in the shoulder and made him wince. Just kidding, geez. If you want a kid like me, then I won't deny you. A kid? Anko asked incredulously. Dude, you are 13 and you are 5 feet 9 inches and 165 pounds. You are bigger than most jonin. Plus, you don't act like any kid I have ever met. Don't sell yourself short, stud. Naruto laughed, yeah, well, the Kyuubi's chakra and my bloodline combined for an early growth spurt. Anko smiled, yeah, you have told me that before. Get out of here and get some rest, Gaki. I want you fresh for our experiment straight out of the loony bin tomorrow. After a content night's sleep, Naruto woke up and went through his morning paces feeling better than he had felt since he could remember. Maybe after he helped Anko, he would stop by and visit Mikoto to make sure she was doing okay. He was still waiting on a crow from Itachi, but he wouldn't revolve his life around that anymore. After some iron-rich breakfast of eggs and 3 servings of sausage and bacon, Naruto left for the Forest of Death. Anko was waiting there for him when he arrived and she was fidgeting nervously as a beautiful jonin in an obviously new flak jacket stood next to her with her arms crossed. The woman had long, wavy raven-colored hair that was beautiful. However, it was her shining red eyes that stood out and made her truly entrancing. He womanly and shapely figure finished off the seductive visage and it was all Naruto could do not to let his eyes roam. He locked eyes with the kunoichi and nodded before he looked towards Anko and smiled. Good morning Anko, who is your friend? Anko slung an arm over the woman's shoulder, this here is Kurenai Yuhi, my best friend. When I told her of our plan, she insisted on coming. Naruto bowed slightly to the woman, good morning, Yuhi-san. Good morning, Uzumaki-san. The woman replied a little too formally. You are in the same class as Hinata Hyuga, my 2T. Now, mind answering how an academy student thinks he can remove a cursed seal that not even Lord Jiraiya can remove? Naruto shrugged, because maybe the answer isn't Fuinjutsu. From what I can tell, that cursed seal houses 3 components. A portion of the giver's chakra and soul. An enzyme that is activated by said chakra and soul. Finally, a Senjutsu component that I am not as familiar with. I am a Fuinjutsu level 7 sealing adept by Uzumaki standards. I will be a level 8 by the time I leave the academy, which would put me on equal footing to Jiraiya. Plus, my Uzumaki heritage gives me an advantage over the old perv. Kurenai was stunned by the answer. She was a sealing novice level 3 and she thought that she was pretty handy with Fuinjutsu. That is a bold claim, Naruto. Naruto shrugged, I have nothing to prove to you, Yuhi-san. If this helps, I did all of this myself. Naruto removed his shirt and showed off an extremely toned upper body. There was a kitsune tattoo over his heart and there were a matrix of seals spreading all over his body. I added weight and restriction seals to myself with shadow clones. That is a level 6 proficiency test. He tossed his vest to Kurenai to give her a look at the seals on the vest. I etched and weaved seals into my vest on my own. Weaving is level 6 as well and etching is a level 7 skill. Kurenai inspected the vest and tossed it back to him. She couldn't detect any flaw in his work. Well, that is impressive. So, you learned Fuinjutsu from Lord Jiraiya? Naruto nodded. Okay, well if your solution isn't Fuinjutsu based, then what is it? A mixture of mad science and medical theory. I can't use medical chakra due to my tenant. However, my bloodline is powerful and should work. Naruto answered. Worst case scenario is that I got Anko's hopes up just to waste my own time, chakra and blood. Kurenai relented. Fine, but I am watching you, she said firmly. Naruto turned to Anko, okay, so, I brought a mouth guard for you to prevent you from biting your tongue off. Did you bring the scalpel? Yup, what else do you need? Anko asked. Naruto blushed a bit, I need you to take your shirt off. You may need to take your bra off as well if the seal extends under it. He spoke in a sheepish whisper that made Anko giggle, which overpowered Kurenai's protest. Before Naruto knew it, Anko's shirt and bra were off, and his bra was sitting atop his head while Anko cackled loudly in the middle of the field. Naruto tried his hardest to remain professional. Okay, I'm going to remove the evil sealing seal now. Naruto weaved calmly through 32 hand seals and focused the chakra on his right hand. He placed the hand on Anko's mark, and he immediately felt the pulse of unnatural chakra. Okay, Anko, I need you to activate the mark. Anko took a deep breath and squeezed Kurenai's hand before she used her free hand to put the mouth guard in. Naruto watched in fascination as kanji and sealing marks spread across Anko's sexy form. He created a shadow clone to get a view of her back, and he analyzed everything he could see in the seal. It was a roughly strewn together seal, and Naruto could tell it was more biochemistry than it was fuinjutsu. He spent more time analyzing the origin of the mark, and he placed his fingers on it. He searched out where he felt the most corrupted chakra, which should be the foreign presence anchoring it to her body. Okay, Anko, this is going to hurt. Bear with me, sweetheart, Naruto said seriously as he made his cut with the scalpel. The sharp blade cut into the crook of Anko's neck, and Kurenai gasped at the spurt of blood. Naruto pushed through the discomfort and kept his senses on rooting out the evil chakra. He cut as much of it away as he could before he dropped the scalpel and coated his hand in chakra. He pulled on the mass of flesh the size of a golf ball, and Anko screamed through the mouth guard and collapsed to her knees as Naruto pulled. He watched as the flesh pulled away, but there was a purple chakra entity trying to go back into Anko's body. It squirmed and writhed like a snake before Naruto's hand was encompassed in Kurama's chakra, and the chakra snake squealed and flailed in pain. After a minute, it fizzled out of existence and was unable to return to the seal. I got it all, Kurama said proudly through the mind link. Naruto nodded and smiled as his face remained fixed in concentration. He got Anko's attention, and she spit out the mouth guard before she bit into his arm hard. Blood spurted into her mouth, and the orgasmic relief was almost instant as the heights of Anko's pain blended with the pleasure of his blood in a unique combination that only a sadist could appreciate. Anko's legs clamped together as the orgasm surpassed the one from the previous day. Her eyes rolled into the back of her head, and she passed out from the pleasure with her teeth still clamped into Naruto's arm. Anko woke up with Naruto laying next to her and Kurenai hovering over her. It was clear that Naruto had passed out from the experience, and she looked into Kurenai's eyes. Is it gone, Nai-chan? Kurenai smiled down on the snake mistress of Konoha. Yup. I don't know how something that crazy worked, but it did. Why is the Gaki passed out? She followed up the question as her joy bubbled to the surface. You passed out while biting him, and he could stop you from pulling on his chakra. He is in chakra shock from the amount of chakra you took from him. Kurenai answered. It was like watching a miracle in real time, Anko-chan. Anko beamed a face-consuming smile at Kurenai, and she rose and crashed into her open arms. The two shared a passionate and friendly embrace before they settled down and waited for Naruto to wake up. Naruto woke up an hour later and subsequently passed out for another 10 minutes after Anko placed a searing kiss on his lips. The crazy snake lady cackled, and Kurenai shook her head while the boy was unconscious. Naruto woke up once more and touched his lips before he looked at the two of them. Was that a dream? He asked innocently. Nope, Gaki, that was the real deal. And when you graduate, there is a lot more where that came from, she said at her sexiest tone. Naruto blushed profusely and Kurenai protested. Anko. He is still a kid. Do you see that body? Anko countered. Once he gets the Hishiate, he is an adult, and he will be 14. Old enough to kill, old enough to drink, and damn sure old enough to fuck. Anko laughed at the blush on her two friends' faces. She now counted the Gaki as one of the good ones. Why you don't have to do that, Naruto said sheepishly while Kurama giggled within the seal. I know I don't have to, I want to. That being said, we have all summer Gaki. You are getting the Anko boot camp starting tomorrow, Anko said proudly with a little sadism mixed in. Sure thing, sensei. I appreciate it. Naruto answered promptly, maybe he would come to regret his eagerness in the following months. Jiraiya's gallant commentary, can you feel it, dear perverts? Can you feel how my godson is developing into the truest rendition of the gentleman pervert that this world has ever seen? I like to think that I played a big part in that, but I am too humble and gallant to do so. Thus far, it was all the Gaki using my intermittent teachings, and the rest was all him and his amazing personality. The kid is like the light of the sun, everyone is just drawn to his warmth. That being said, I am also proud of him for erasing that cursed seal. That abomination doesn't belong in this world, and it is a crime against humanity. It is true that the kid, at 13 years old, was nearly my equal in fuinjutsu. It was simultaneously inspiring and frustrating. I committed my life to learning the art, and through use of shadow clones and raw talent that brat was almost matching me. Damned Gaki. Visiting the auntie, Naruto winced as he walked back into the village and made his way to the Uchiha compound. He had spent the past 2.5 months in the Forest of Death training with Anko. It was quite the experience, and Naruto was able to accomplish many things over the time. First, he was now absolutely positive that he was immune to every venom in the forest. It was a painful, yet useful, lesson. Second, he gained a lot of flexibility and dodging experience. Third, he learned how to hunt, forage, fish and use the bounties of the forest. Finally, he was able to practice in Jutsu level 2 and he gained inspiration for a new jutsu. Anko's idea of a good time was using the snakes of the forest and her summoned snakes to chase and hunt Naruto through the Forest of Death while he was out doing grocery runs. Grocery runs consisted of hunting big game, harvesting herbs and extracting poisons from various denizens of the forest. The giant leeches actually had a super effective anesthesia that could be harvested and sold to the hospital. Sure, they didn't appreciate it, but Naruto was strong enough to deal with them. The problem became dodging snakes without killing them while he was performing the aforementioned task. Flexibility, dodging and taijutsu were the areas he improved the most on. Without his seals, the said tasks were challenging but doable. When Anko forced him to activate the seals, well, that was when things became challenging if not impossible. Anko's taijutsu style was the embodiment of the three aspects. Her flexibility made her incredibly tough to pin down and land a hit on. Her dodging was graceful and wasted very little movement. Finally, her taijutsu style lashed out like a snake and land quick and debilitating strikes from extremely odd angles. Hunting was an everyday occurrence while he was studying under Anko, and it was a task that was supremely easy for him. That was why Anko added her snakes to the hunt. His Eye of Kagura ability was easily capable of locating and tracking the bigger chakra signatures in the forest. That being said, his blood-based healing ability was also useful because it gave him the durability to take the surprise hits from the denizens of the forest and not die. That may not sound like a lot, but it was an achievement in the Forest of Death. The most embarrassing and interesting lessons that Anko taught Naruto came at night. Within her house in the Forest of Death, Naruto damn near became a man over the summer. Anko saw him studying in jutsu and decided that she was the perfect teacher for the lessons. Through Anko's tutelage, Naruto mastered the chakra massage technique, and he was able to incorporate his three elements into it. Anko fully abused this ability as she received nightly full-body massages from the teenage boy. Cammy, was it hard to keep it down when you were rubbing down such an exquisitely sexy body? Other than massages, Anko helped Naruto perfect his project. The sexy no jutsu, a fancy way of saying the perverted form of Naruto's female transformation, was a technique he developed to surprise the Hokage and his Uro-Sennin. Anko was ecstatic to help in its development and she cackled evilly when she recognized that it was a true transformation rather than a simple illusion. The things she whispered in Naruto's ear when he was in a female form made him blush deeper than Hinata when Naruto accidentally touched her. Anko was a master of seduction, and she used that knowledge to train Naruto on the art of extracting information through seduction. Unfortunately, Naruto was the only available test subject, so he had to resist the seduction enough to actually take something away from it. He shamelessly admitted that he failed that self-assigned task for the first month with Anko. The thing that woman could do with a tickle of her fingers, lick of her tongue and a whisper in his ear were insane and mind-boggling to the teenage boy. The seduction also served another purpose for Anko. She used the opportunity to discover why Itachi was so important to him and she helped him resolve his feelings for her. It was an intense, cathartic and genuine experience between the two and Anko would willingly admit that she was growing further attached to the young man. She was able to resolve some of her own feelings and she trusted him enough to show him her true self, which he readily affirmed and accepted. That meant more for the snake mistress than anything else. Naruto snapped himself back to reality as he entered through the gates of the Uchiha compound without much trouble from the guards. Seems like now that the Uchihas were no longer the strongest clan and Danzo wasn't pulling strings from behind the scene that he was able to freely visit the Uchiha clan. He walked through the streets of the compound and was pleased to see that the clan was recovering from the massacre well as could be expected. Naruto knocked on the door to the clan head's home and he smiled when he saw that it was Mikoto that opened the door to greet him with a genuine smile on her face. She was no longer wearing her apron since she had an Uchiha attendant that took care of the household chores for her. She let Naruto in and led him to her study where she conducted most of her clan business. She sat down behind a stack of paperwork and gestured to the chair for Naruto to take a seat. "Good morning, Naruto, what brings you to my home?" she asked cordially. Naruto shrugged. "I am sorry for not visiting sooner, Auntie. Some things happened and I found myself under the tutelage of Anko for the summer." "Ah," Mikoto said with a smile on her face, "is that why you are limping into my home?" Naruto chuckled. "Yeah, Auntie. Anko is a strict sensei, and she even pushed my healing factor to the limit." Mikoto shook her head and she placed her chin on her hands. I can only imagine. So, to what do I owe the pleasure of your company? Naruto cocked his head and shot a wry smile at her. Can't I come and visit you anymore? Mikoto chuckled before sighing. I am sorry, Ruto. After that day, I just have so much paperwork and so many things to do. Ever try using shadow clones? Naruto asked innocently. How would they help? Mikoto asked while contemplating the answer. They are sentient clones that send their memory to the original. Naruto stopped talking after Mikoto slammed her head on the desk hard enough to shake the ground. She raised her head with a blatant red mark on it. Of course, how did I not think of that? Mikoto formed 2 shadow clones and one of them pulled up a chair behind the desk. Mikoto walked out of the office and waited at the door for Naruto. What are you waiting for, Ruto? Naruto got up and followed Mikoto out into the gardens. He sat down at the end of a dock that overlooked a lake. So, Auntie, how are you holding up? Mikoto sighed. It has been hard, Naruto. Very hard. Naruto pulled Mikoto into a hug and placed his chin on her head. Despite the age difference, he was taller than her now. I know. How can I help? Mikoto leaned into the first tender embrace she had felt in years.
I don't know, Naruto.
It isn't your duty to help me. Who said anything about duty? What if I just want to help? He offered genuinely. Mikoto snuggled further into the warmth of his chest. Well, I could use any help I could get. What do you have to offer? Naruto shrugged. I can help with seals, and am overstocked on poisons, medicinal herbs and anesthetics from the Forest of Death, and I have quite a bit of meat as well. Mikoto hummed in thought. How good are you with seals? Almost equal to Jiraiya. He only has one more level to teach me, then it is all about growing together with him. Mikoto pushed herself away from his body. How? Naruto chuckled sheepishly and adopted his signature pose. Well, I guess you could say that I am my mother and father's son. Mikoto's eyes widened comically. You know? Naruto nodded sadly. I have since that night. Itachi told me before she left. The two each winced at the name as the pain of losing her ripped through both of them. That is actually why I was here.
Earlier this summer, I realized that I need to move on.
Mikoto nodded sadly. I wanted you and her to find happiness together. No. Naruto cut her off. That is not what I mean. I loved and willed always love Itachi. I just realized that I need to get stronger and live my life to the fullest until I see her again. I will get strong enough to get her back and I will bring her home to you, he said passionately, which made tears fall from Mikoto's eyes. I just realized that I can't sit around and mope, and I can't close my heart off to everyone and everything anymore. It was only hurting me. Mikoto nodded sadly and was surprised when Naruto wiped her tears away from her cheeks. Thank you, Ruto. You don't know how much it means to hear you say that. Well, if you want to help, then I think I can requisition a seal. Naruto nodded and waited eagerly. What did you have in mind? After the incident with Danzo, I want to know if it is possible to protect the Sharingan. I want to know if it is possible to prevent what happened to Shisui and then the deceased Uchiha on that night. Mikoto spoke seriously despite the pain seeping into her tone. Naruto adopted a thinking pose and nodded. It will take a while. I need more medical knowledge, but I should be able to do it. It would help if the Hyuga shared their sealing notes with me. Don't even ask them, Mikoto said firmly. They would kill you out of fear that you could undo their cursed caged bird seal. Naruto nodded slowly, caught off guard by the seriousness in her tone. Okay, well, I will get some stuff started and I will consult Jiraiya next time he shows up. What else can I help you with? Nothing, Ruto. Just come around more often. Just seeing you makes me feel better. So, now that you know about your parents, do you want to hear more about them? Naruto smiled fondly at the thought. I would like that very much. I have been too scared to open up their final letters to me. Mikoto took Naruto's hand in her own in a motherly way and she spent the next few hours sharing stories with him as they enjoyed the warm sun by the lakeside. Neither of them noticed or cared when Sasuke returned home. He stared through the back door and glared at Naruto. He wasn't supposed to be here. He was further enraged by the close proximity and casual nature the bastard was talking to his mother with. He stewed in his own rage and jealousy for almost the entire duration of their talk before he made himself scarce when they walked back to the house around dinner time. Throughout the dinner, Sasuke glared at Naruto while he grunted at his mother's questions. He had been out training before he caught the bastard hanging around his mother. He was chastised multiple times about his tone, and it only served to further enrage the boy. He knew that Naruto was close to Itachi and that was the inspiration for his hatred. He couldn't understand why Naruto would side with the traitor. Of course, this was rooted in the fact that Mikoto was forbidden from telling the truth of that night to Sasuke. Luckily for Mikoto, Naruto didn't give a flying fuck about any such decree. It would take years, but eventually Sasuke would find out the truth of the massacre and the tragic love story between Naruto and Itachi. Final year at the academy, Hiruzen Sarutobi, the Sandaime Hokage, couldn't stop the smile from gracing his face. He was watching through his scrying orb, a crystal ball powered by Fuinjutsu that let him peek, check in on, individuals around the village. It helped him to keep an eye on things, and he was once again paying particularly close attention to one Naruto Uzumaki. There were a couple reasons for this, but the main reason was the report from Iruka that he had finally bonded with his classmates. Iruka reported that the boy seemed more friendly and open at the start of the final year. He was still the top of his class, and he was still fairly reserved, but Iruka reported that he had bonded with Ino Yamanaka, Kuji Akimichi, and Shikaku Nara. That let Hiruzen know that the Ino Shikacho clans had definitely figured out Naruto's parentage. Of course, the rest of the council knew that as well by now. It was hard not to when the boy was the whisker-marked version of his father. It didn't help the Hokage hide that fact when Naruto showed up at the academy dressed like the Genin form of his father. The boy was already far more mature than his teenage classmates, and he stood almost a full head over the other males in the class. The standard issue, black cargo pants, white long-sleeve shirt and a custom vest with Fuinjutsu pouches and a big Uzumaki swirl on the back. He grew out his hair and he was the spitting image of his father now, a fact that was leading to rumors spreading around the village. Hiruzen just needed the secret to hold on for another 8 months. By the reports from Anko Mitarashi, Kurenai Yuhi, Mikoto Uchiha and others, the boy was more than ready to be a Chunin already. If his identity could remain in the village until then, Hiruzen succeeded. This worry over his identity leaking was a real concern, and Jiraiya was keeping an ear to the ground to make sure it didn't get out of the village. Speaking of Jiraiya, it had been a long time since Hiruzen had seen his last loyal student this happy. His relationship with Naruto seemed to fill the hole left by the sudden death of Minato. Hiruzen could also detect inspiration garnered from the boy's female relationships buried in the texts of Icha, Forbidden Love. It was easily Jiraiya's best book, and Hiruzen even saw females around the village reading it in public. The tragic love story between a clan heiress and an orphan boy. Their hidden relationship and slow-rolling love. The whole book built to the climax of an intimate session of love-making. All 400 pages of the story served as a prolonged foreplay session that stirred the heart and played with its strings like Beethoven's orchestra. Alas, Icha wasn't why Hiruzen was smiling. He was looking through his crystal ball and watching the boy interact with his peers during the lunch hour. He, or a clone of his, was showing Ino, and Sakura by proxy, a chakra exercise that would help them power up their taijutsu. Then, another Naruto, probably the real one, was sharing different pieces of meat with an intently listening Kuji. The smile on Naruto's face as Kuji ate one particular piece of meat was heartwarming for the old Hokage. Yet another clone was playing a shogi match against the Nara heir. By the look of concentration on the Nara's face, he was most likely giving him a run for his money. Not an easy feat, Hiruzen still lost nearly every match he played against the Nara clan head. Regardless, it was another positive note for the old Hokage. Then there was the fact that Naruto was playing with Akamaru. It looked like the tiny dog was wearing a harness that Hiruzen had never seen on a Ninken, and he would need to look into that. He zoomed in and engaged the listening function of the orb. Akamaru, how does it feel, buddy? Kiba asked. Yip, bark, bark, yip. Akamaru replied as he stumbled under the weight of the harness. Kiba put a hand under his chin and thought, he says it is a little heavy and too hard to move. Naruto nodded, come over here, Akamaru. I will reduce the seals for you. I probably started you a little too high. The little puppy walked over, unable to run with the added weight. So, Naruto, you want me to show this to my mom, right? Kiba asked with a rare concentration and interest for an Inuzuka. Yup. I use a variation of these seals every day on myself. I thought that your Ninken are amazing and they would be able to maximize their combat ability through using these seals. Also, the harness has defensive functions, and it is slash-resistant and has a projectile defense. Naruto answered while fiddling with Akamaru's harness. The dog took a couple steps and then ran back and licked Naruto's face. Cool. Could you come over after school? Kiba asked. Sure. Naruto answered while petting Akamaru's belly. On the other side of the training ground, Sasuke watched Naruto with growing jealousy that was bordering on hatred. He was like him last year and now he was making friends with everyone. Even the Hyuga girl was interacting with a Naruto clone in between feigning spells. Sasuke growled under his breath and stuffed a tomato in his mouth. Damned Uzumaki bastard. Sakura ran over to Sasuke with a beaming smile on her face. Sasuke-kun, do you want to train with us? This chakra exercise is super fun. Sasuke scowled at the pinky. Go away, Sakura. Can't you get a clue? I don't like you and never will. You are weak and always will be. Sakura looked crestfallen and his shoulders slumped as tears prickled at her eyes. Naruto felt the abrupt change in her chakra and his keen senses picked up what Sasuke said to her. Within his seal, Kurama had been enjoying the bright and sunny weather as she rested atop the ruins of Konoha in her fox form. She frowned at the words and couldn't believe that this boy was from the same stock as Itachi-chan. Naruto, go put that kid in his place. No girl deserves to be treated like that. She growled lowly through the mind link. As you wish, milady. Naruto replied in thought before walking over towards Sasuke and shouting. Oi! Team! You shouldn't talk to anyone like that, much less a girl. Sasuke snapped up to his feet and growled at Naruto, stay out of this, orphan. You have no right to dig into my business. Naruto suppressed his rage and put on his kindest smile. Sakura, wanna go back and keep training? You got the first part down and I can show you the second part. You don't need to take that from him. Sakura nodded weakly and walked off to rejoin Ino. Before Naruto could follow her, Sasuke spoke. Fight me. No, Naruto said and turned around to walk away before he felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned his head in a slow and menacing manner while flaring his killing intent like Anko taught him. Remove your hand, team. Not until you fight me. I am sick of watching you strut around like you are suddenly everyone's best friend. Sasuke's statement drew a crowd, and everyone was waiting with bated breath to see how Naruto would respond. Would you rather I remained a broody bastard? Do you even know what I went through as a kid? Do you know how long it has taken me to even give a fuck about making friends in this village? Naruto snarled after ripping his shoulder out of Sasuke's grip. Sasuke scoffed, so what, you murdered a couple of shinobi chumps and a couple villagers. Boo-hoo. You get preferential treatment and training, and it clearly didn't affect you too badly. Hiruzen retreated from the crystal ball. Anbu on me. We are going to the academy. Back at the academy, Naruto was struggling to suppress his rage combined with Kurama's own. The children of the academy gasped at what Sasuke said and the girls, even Sasuke's fan club, were muttering lowly. Naruto's fists were clenched, and blood was dripping onto the grass of the training grounds. A low rumble was emitting from his throat and his killing intent was spreading and intimidating the children. Naruto looked to Sasuke and the Uchiha took a step back as his eyes flickered between azure blue and blood red and slitted. You know nothing about what you speak. I was 11 and I was ambushed on my way home by 10 trained shinobi and a bunch of civilians. Sasuke scoffed before forcing through his fear. You expect me to beat trained Chunin? Yeah right. Naruto shook his head to reel his rage in and stop his eyes from flickering. I care not what you think. You think you had a hard life? You think that you are the only one who suffered? You don't know half of what you think you know. Sasuke growled, I know that you were rescued by my traitor of a sister, and she trained you. I know that you are just a pathetic orphan that my sister pitied. I know that you love a traitor to our village. Sasuke knew from watching Naruto that this would get a rise out of him. As the Chunin sensei arrived to break it up, Naruto blurred into Sasuke and sent a fist flying into his face. The Uchiha heir flew nearly 20 feet and rolled a couple times before slamming into the wall of the academy building. Before Naruto could follow up his opening strike, he was subdued by two Anbu and the Hokage was standing in front of him. That is enough, Naruto, he said firmly in his commanding voice. Naruto initially struggled against the hold, but his situation forced him to regain his composure and he ceased resisting. As you wish, Hokage-sama. Cat, please get Uchiha Sasuke to the infirmary. The Hokage said firmly. The rest of you, we are all fellow shinobi of the leaf and we do not act in such a manner. This got nods out of the stunned Junon crowd. My apologies, Hokage-sama. I was about to intervene when it escalated, Iruka said in a bow. I was watching through my crystal ball, Iruka. I know what happened. That is how we arrived here so quickly. As a note, the academy building was built as an attachment to the base of the Hokage Tower. Hashirama believed that the up-and-coming shinobi should be the closest to the cage and therefore protected first. Iruka bowed deeply, I am sorry your intervention was necessary, Hokage-sama. I will discuss proper etiquette with the two boys in detention. Hiruzen waved him off, that will not be necessary. We will let the boys go with a warning this time. I am sure Lady Mikoto will be far more effective than simply keeping them in a room. As you wish, Hokage-sama, Iruka said in a bow. My apologies, Hokage-sama, Naruto said while dipping his head in apology. He just pushed one too many buttons. I heard, Naruto. Although I missed the final thing he said because I was already en route. Naruto's hair shadowed his eyes, he spoke of Itachi. Hiruzen nodded in understanding with a frown creeping onto his face. I understand. Resume your scheduled classes, Iruka. I believe this issue is handled. That incident led to a schism in the class. The fangirls and Naruto hates versus the few people that Naruto could consider friends. It was also the day that broke up the friendship between Ino and Sakura. Ino's dad took Naruto's side when he heard the story, and Mabuki Haruno was more than happy to trash-talk the demon with her daughter. It stressed Iruka and made things difficult for the last 2 months of his class. One thing that helped Naruto was his backing by the major clans of Konoha. That day, he walked home with Kiba and earned the loyalty of the Inuzuka, which could be added to the Uchiha, Nara, Akimichi, and Yamanaka. It wasn't overt support, but it was enough to keep the elders and the civilian council at bay, which really helped when the civilian council raised a stink about Naruto attacking Sasuke. As Naruto walked into the Inuzuka compound, Kiba finally asked a question that had been bugging him and Akamaru. Hey, Naruto, do you know why you smell so strongly of foxes? Your mom knows the exact reason why, but I can't tell you and she can't either. Suffice to say that I have smelled like this since birth. Naruto answered. Kiba frowned at the lack of explanation, but he shrugged it off and pet Akamaru. Okay then. So, these harnesses, are you sure you can get enough for all of the Ninken? Well, if your clan buys and creates the harnesses, I can put the seals on. I made that one and it took me quite a while because I am not really a seamstress or clothier. Naruto answered. Cool. I think Mom can do that, Kiba said as he opened the door to his home. Oi! Mom, I am home, and we have a guest, Kiba shouted. If we have a guest then don't yell at me, you baka. The voice of a mature woman shouted back. A minute later, a beautiful older woman with spiky hair and a feral appearance appeared from around the corner. When she locked eyes with Naruto, a smile graced her face and Naruto saw enlarged canines that looked like his own. Hey, pup, what brings you here? Naruto smiled and offered a small bow to the woman. Her chakra felt warm and inviting, but strong and challenging at the same time. Good afternoon, Inuzuka-sama. Thank you for your hospitality. Before Tsume could respond and chastise his formality, Kiba interrupted. I brought him because he wanted to show you this cool harness that he made for Akamaru. He said he could make them for all of our Ninken. Tsume looked at the little pup and her partner Kuromaru appeared from behind her and held a conversation with the pup. He then looked up and spoke to Naruto in flawless Japanese. You adjusted these seals specifically for Ninken? Naruto scratched the back of his neck sheepishly and bent down to be on Kuromaru's level. Yup, I know they probably aren't perfect, but I was able to adjust them to Akamaru there after a little trial and error. Kuromaru went back to speaking with Akamaru and Tsume stepped in. What is it you made, pup? She really liked the way the blondie was interacting with her pack. Naruto stood back up and smiled. I started with adjustable weight seals and resistance seals on the rings of the harness that wrap around each leg. This will let your Ninken partners train while playing and running around the village. After that, I added a chakra fiber weave that powers an anti-seal, and it offers protection against kunai. This was my prototype, but they are expensive to make, and it took me a while. Tsume looked critically at the teenage boy, who really looked more like he had already come out on the other side of puberty. Her nose picked up potent pheromones and her feral instincts told her that this pup was strong, which is to be expected from a Jinchuriki. Why did you do this? Naruto shrugged and offered an earnest smile. I saw potential. I used this combination of seals on my uniform, and it has helped me a lot. You could say that it was a family tradition. Naruto winked at Tsume, who nodded in understanding. When I had that thought, I wanted to put my Fuinjutsu mastery to the test and this was as good a chance as any. What do you think, Kuro? Tsume asked her Ninken partner. It is too early to tell, but Akamaru said that just running feels like a workout. Kuromaru shifted his one eye to Naruto. Pup, could you make a harness for me? I will offer myself as a test subject. Naruto nodded. Do you have any harnesses that are your size? I made that out of treated bear fur from the Forest of Death and I don't have much experience. If there is a harness already made, then I will be able to apply the seals much easier. Tsume frowned. We have never put harnesses on our Ninken. They used to limit range of motion and we had other negative experiences in the past. At that moment, another female that was slightly older than Kiba came into the house. Mom, I am home, she shouted before she saw the group gathered in the living room. What is going on? This here is Naruto Uzumaki. He created a harness for Ninken and wanted to see if we were interested in purchasing them from him, Tsume said while looking at Akamaru. Hana zoomed forward and immediately picked up Akamaru to review the harness. Interesting. Did you take Akamaru's measurements for this? Nah, I had to adjust on the fly. I did make it with him in mind because he was the only ninkin I knew. Naruto answered. Hana frowned as she analyzed the fit on the mead-sized pup. Did you calculate the impact on natural growth and development? Akamaru is still growing, and he will grow for another 2 years. Naruto nodded. I made adjustments to the seals from the standard seals I applied to myself. It was a fun experiment for me, and I just wanted to see if my little project would be useful. Hana nodded. If properly done, it would be very useful. Our ninkin can use chakra and this would build their reserves and natural strength. Tsume nodded and held out her hand. The Inuzuka will work with you on this, however, there will be no applying seals without the direct supervision of the Inuzuka. Naruto beamed a smile. Of course, Inuzuka-sama. Tusm waved him off. Tsume will be just fine. Graduation. 2 months later, graduation day finally came, and the standard assessment test was given. It was admittedly a pretty weak test of shinobi potential. An obstacle course, kunai and shuriken throwing, a written test, the 3 basic jutsu test and a taijutsu test against an instructor. Naruto was the fastest with Kiba being second fastest in the obstacle course. He aced the written test after breaking the standard genjutsu on it, which he knew was probably not the actual standard. He performed the 3 academy jutsu as he formed a shadow clone, it performed the sexy no jutsu and then it substituted with Mizuki who was the blown back into the chalkboard with a nosebleed. Finally, he fought against Mizuki for 3 minutes before Mizuki overextended and Naruto got behind him and kicked him on the ass out of the ring. The end result was Naruto leaving the academy building with a hishiate on his right arm above his bicep. This paired up with the Uzumaki swirl that was on a red band on his left arm. He waved and winked to Mikado, who was standing next to a brooding Sasuke, and she returned the greeting. With that done, Naruto was getting ready to leave when Mizuki called out to him. He reluctantly walked over to talk to his sensei around the corner of the academy building. The first thing Naruto noticed was the deceptive and nasty nature of Mizuki's chakra. It was fluctuating so violently that he knew there wasn't a lick of truth in what he was saying. Naruto, as the Rookie of the Year, you have exceeded the standards of the normal test and I have been assigned to take you through the extra test. Extra test? Naruto asked with a cocked eyebrow. Yes, the test we only give to Rookies of the Year. Mizuki lied and Naruto gave him a look that said to get on with it. This test is made to measure your abilities that weren't measured in the academy such as stealth, critical thinking and code breaking. Naruto shrugged, just tell me what I got to do. The sinister feeling in his chakra when Naruto agreed to play along told Naruto everything he needed to know. Thus, an hour later, Naruto found himself in front of the Hokage and he had just finished informing him of his extra mission. Hiruzen listened intently to Naruto's story, and he was astounded that the boy was able to root out a spy. He cleared and assembled his thoughts before replying. Okay, thank you for letting me know, Naruto-kun. Naruto nodded, I am only fulfilling my duty as a new leaf shinobi, Hokage-sama. His voice was perfectly professional and indifferent. Hiruzen bemoaned the fact that a child shouldn't act this way. Well, my boy, I am at an impasse. I do not wish to put you in danger, but I do not wish to miss out on the opportunity to catch a traitor. Naruto nodded, do you have the forbidden scroll here in the office, as he reported? Hiruzen nodded, yes, but you wouldn't have been able to get to it. It is in the Hokage vault. I thought so, Naruto said. So, he either wanted me to get strung up as a traitor or take the forbidden scroll from me if I were able to complete my mission. That is enough of a reason for me to kill him. Hiruzen frowned, my boy, I don't want you to kill him. I want you to bring him in for interrogation. I accept, Naruto said simply. I just need to touch and see the forbidden scroll, then I will have one of my clones transform into it. Ah, yes, the true transformations that I have heard so much about, Hiruzen said cheerily as he opened the Hokage vault. I will make you this offer, when you complete this mission, I will let you select one jutsu, at my discretion, from this scroll. I accept. Naruto answered plainly. Very good. Now, I will need to raise the alarm and there will be many shinobi after you. I will send Kat with you to intervene in case things get out of hand. She is one of my best stealth experts and she will be able to avoid Mizuki's detection. Naruto turned and looked into the corner above the bookcase, directly at Kat. Good to work with you, Kat-san. This startled the Hokage and Anbu in the room. Kat dropped from her post and analyzed Naruto through her mask. How did you know where I was? Didn't Itachi tell you of my ability? I memorized your chakra signature long ago. In fact, I know every Anbu chakra signature by mask and feel. Not even the creepy emotionless Anbu can hide from me, Naruto said nonchalantly. Ah, yeah, that, Cat said. You didn't have that ability when I watched you when you were younger. I learned about it in the academy, and the boring classes were the perfect opportunity to practice developing it. Naruto answered as he analyzed the outside of the forbidden scroll before he formed a shadow clone. The clone nodded and held up the tiger hand sign before it puffed into a replica of the forbidden scroll. How does it look? Can you tell the difference, Hawk-san? Hawk spoke from his position behind the door. With my Byakugan I can tell that it is made of chakra. Without it, I cannot tell the difference. Naruto nodded. I don't think Mizuki is a Hyuga. Cat-san, shall we? I will raise the alarm in 5 minutes. Hiruzen informed one of his newest shinobi. I will be watching in my crystal ball. Whatever floats your boat, Hokage-sama. At least we will all know that the bathhouses are safe for the time being. Before the Hokage could respond, Naruto disappeared in a flutter of leaves, followed shortly by a scowling cat. Phew, that was a close call, Hiruzen said in jest, which earned a chuckle from his remaining Anbu. Naruto was already on the outskirts of the village when the siren went off. He quickened his pace and went to the rendezvous point of the small shed on the outskirts of the village tucked into the massive trees of the forest. He simply reclined against the shed and closed his eyes to have a quick chat with Kurama. Hey Q. Sorry I haven't talked to you much today. Naruto opened cheerily. The giant fox was already transitioning into her humanoid form. Think nothing of it, Ruto-kun. So, what did you want to talk about? I wanted to get a training exercise to do while I'm waiting for the fool. Naruto answered before adding. And I wanted to see your beautiful face before I need to deal with the idiot. Kurama flushed a bit and she winked playfully at Naruto. My, you have grown quite bold. Well, your fire exercises have gone well and there is no water around. How about a lightning control exercise? Naruto nodded. What do you have in mind? Have you completed the circuit control? Kurama asked and Naruto nodded. Through your whole body? She specified. I can do one limb at a time. Naruto answered sheepishly. Beyond that, I lose concentration. Okay, well, form a shadow clone and link hands and feet with it. Practice passing lightning chakra through the circuit and speed up the speed and quantity of chakra. Do that until you can pass it through your whole body in less than a second, Kurama said while tapping her chin. Is that even possible? Naruto asked incredulously. Yes. I recommend start left hand, right foot, left foot, repeat. Having a set circuit that you practice until it is down. Then, edit your pathway and do the exercise again until your body is used to channeling chakra through its circuit. Thanks for the advice. Want some cuddle time tonight? I sleep better when we do. Naruto asked a bit sheepishly. If you can complete the exercise, then sure. Kurama added with a sexy smirk before she poked his forehead and ejected him from the mindscape. Naruto suddenly stood up and Cat watched with a dropped jaw as 200 clones puffed into existence. He issued orders and the clones paired up and linked hands and feet after removing their shinobi sandals. Cat proceeded to watch the boy do a lightning control exercise that she had never heard of. She stifled her laughter when nearly half of the clones suddenly popped in a cloud of smoke and lightning. This proceeded for the following hour. By the end of the hour, the reformed clones were passing visible quantities of lightning chakra between them, and Cat watched the blue chakra pass between their arms down their gut and into the legs before repeating. She would have to recommend this as a chakra control exercise for lightning users. Suddenly, Naruto's head snapped towards the village and the horde of clones disappeared in many puffs of chakra smoke. He looked towards Cat and nodded. Damn, Cat thought, that is practically cheating. She watched the boy get ready as he strapped on the clone that was imitating the forbidden scroll. Moments later, Iruka Umino barged into the clearing and began shouting at Naruto. Naruto! He screamed with his big head jutsu. What do you think you're doing? Naruto waved him off. I am passing a test and fulfilling a mission. It's okay, sensei, Mizuki-sensei gave me the extra test. Iruka paled at Naruto's words, and it distracted him to the point that he missed Mizuki appearing on the tree limb above him. Good job, Naruto. Now, give me the scroll and you will pass your extra test. Don't listen to him, Naruto. Iruka pleaded, which made Naruto grow tired of acting. Naruto pulled the scroll off his back and walked towards Mizuki. Sorry, sensei, I really want to pass the extra test. Mizuki-sensei promised me a cool jutsu if I passed. Naruto, don't, Iruka said as he jumped in between Naruto and Mizuki. Mizuki scowled at Iruka and let loose a brace of shuriken. Naruto acted quickly with his seals disabled and he pushed Iruka out of the way and dodged the shuriken. He looked up calmly at Mizuki. That was not necessary, Mizuki-sensei, he said innocently. I will give you the scroll. As Iruka was laying on the ground looking shocked, Naruto hopped up onto the same tree limb as Mizuki. He handed over the scroll to the Chunin spy. What are you going to do with it, sensei? Naruto asked as the Chunin placed the scroll over his shoulder. Dead kids don't need to know, Mizuki said as he pulled a Fuma shuriken off of his back before a feral smirk worked its way onto his face. Do you know why everyone hates you? Yup. Naruto answered cheekily, which caused Mizuki to sputter. Why, you know why? Mizuki asked. Naruto nodded, yeah, I know. Instead of answering that, could you tell me where you plan to go with that? Could I come along? I don't really like it here. Mizuki smirked fairly as the idea of taking the Jinchuriki to Lord Orochimaru flashed through his mind. If you want to come with me, you need to kill Iruka. I want to know where you are going first. I am not going to trade the leaf for some bumfuck village in the middle of nowhere. Naruto countered childishly. Mizuki clicked his teeth. Fine, if you kill Iruka then you can come with me to Lord Orochimaru. He doesn't like Konoha either. Naruto cocked his head to the side in mock ignorance. Does he belong to a village? Yes, he does. Now, kill Iruka and let's get going. Anbu will be coming soon, Mizuki said while losing patience. Nah, I don't wanna. I heard that guy likes little boys. Naruto answered before he dashed forward on the tree limb and engaged Mizuki. As the look of rage spread across Mizuki's face, the scroll on his back puffed out of existence and Mizuki stumbled forward as a foot crashed into the back of his head. The real Naruto took advantage of the opening and crashed a fist into his face. The dual assault stunned the Chunin and Naruto flipped through 3 hand seals before placing his hand on Mizuki's head. Lightning style, lightning palm, Naruto said as he placed his open palm on Mizuki's forehead. Iruka watched in stunned fascination as the newly graduated Jinan outsmarted a traitor and incapacitated him mercilessly. Mizuki's screams of agony echoed around the forest and sent a shiver of fear down Iruka's spine. Naruto kept channeling chakra until Kat appeared on the branch and put a hand on his shoulder. Naruto reluctantly stopped the flow of lightning chakra and the traitor crumpled like a puppet with his strings cut. Kat caught him before he could fall off the branch, but her head recoiled at the smell of burnt hair and charred flesh. Kat shouldered the traitor who had a burnt palm in the center of his forehead. I hate burn victims. Kat whined. They smell so nasty. Naruto shot a cheeky grin at her and shrugged, I carry Iruka and race you to Anbu HQ? Kat cocked her head, how do you know where Anbu HQ is? Who do you think pranked Inu Taiku for the last year? Naruto countered. Kat's jaw fell in her mask, that was you? Naruto placed a cheeky finger over his lips before he helped Iruka to his feet. To the Chunin teacher's protest, Naruto hoisted him into a fireman's carry. So, are we on? We are on, Gaki. If I win, I am telling Inu Taiku, she teased. If I win, then you have to train me in your sword style. Deal? Naruto asked. Deal, Kat said before she saw a clone tap her on her back and her body froze. Hey! That's not fair. We are shinobi, Kat-san. This world isn't fair, Naruto said as he was darting towards Anbu HQ, knowing that the seal wouldn't hold her for long. Kat flared her chakra for a minute straight and broke the paralysis seal that the boy placed on her. She dashed off towards HQ and prayed that she would be able to catch up. She would never hear the end of it if a newly graduated Jinan beat her in a contest. As she entered the village, she saw the boy about 200 meters ahead of her and she poured chakra into her legs. Naruto playfully answered her chakra by channeling Kurama's chakra to his legs. The kitsune was more than willing to help him in his prank. She was devilishly proud of the boy's little trick. Naruto had enough time to turn around, set Iruka down and plaster a cheeky grin on his face before Kat arrived next to him. The sight of many Anbu gawking at them stopped Kat from ripping into this Jinan. Meet me at Training Ground 13 tomorrow at 6 a.m., she growled through her mask before stomping into Anbu HQ. Naruto chuckled as he took Iruka to the Hokage's office. He reported in mission successful to the astonishment of Iruka, who basically confirmed what Naruto had done. Kat showed up when Naruto was perusing the forbidden scroll looking for a jutsu that would fit his style. After reviewing the list, and having Kurama copy them down, Naruto looked to the Hokage. These are cool and all, but I think I would rather have something else, aside from Kat-san's training, he said while letting his inner child out. Hiruzen glanced at Kat before returning his attention to Naruto. And what would that be? My strongest affinity is water, but there are many weaknesses to that affinity. I wish to access Lord Second's notes on water manipulation. I specifically want to study how he drew water out of the atmosphere. Is that a fair trade? Naruto hoped that this would work. Hiruzen thought about it for a bit before he nodded. That is in the Senju scrolls, which are in the Hokage vault. Technically, Tsunade is the only one allowed to grant access to those. That being said, I can copy that specific technique for you. Will that include the build-up exercises? I just want better control. Naruto asked, which stunned Iruka. Sure, that is reasonable. To think that you would choose that over a forbidden jutsu. That shows quite a bit of foresight, my boy, Hiruzen said pleased as he put his pipe into his mouth. Now, tell me, how would you divide up the Genin teams? Since Iruka is here, I am sure that he would like to hear your thoughts as well. Naruto thought about this and came to an unfortunate realization. There was nearly no way he would get who he wanted. He formed a question to help form his thoughts. What are the standards for building a team? Hiruzen smiled once more at the foresight the boy showed. Compatibility, teamwork potential, assigned task for the team. For instance, we need an assault team, a tracking team and a capture and interrogation team from this year's graduates. Naruto groaned as the implications linked in his mind. Let me guess then, and mind you, this is not my preference. Hiruzen and Iruka nodded. Tracking team has got to be Kiba, Shino, and Hinata, although I think that is limiting their potential. Capture and interrogation goes to Ino Shikacho. Which leaves me with Sasuke and the least useful Kunoichi as assault. Hiruzen nodded with a pleased grin on his face. Yes, that is correct. Your thoughts on that arrangement? Every team makes sense except mine. Naruto answered blandly. Whatever, do what you gotta do. I will only be a Genin for 6 months or so. Confident, aren't we? Iruka challenged. Naruto shrugged. I am sure you heard I beat 10 Chunin single-handedly when I was 11. It isn't much of a promotion. Pretty much just says that you aren't the new guys anymore. Hiruzen chuckled and Iruka looked offended. Naruto. Chunin make up 65% of the shinobi corps. Pretty much made my point for me, sensei, Naruto said while chuckling at Iruka's indignation. You are dismissed, Naruto. I will get you your scrolls tomorrow and I will have Kat deliver them when she trains you. I will get the story out of her, so don't worry. Remember, team selections are on Monday morning. Hiruzen shooed the boy out of his office. What a surprise. Naruto went straight home and crashed. It was a long night, and it was exhausting for the young blonde. He actually had to go to the academy that day. He was then approached by a traitor. He was given a B-rank mission to apprehend said traitor. He did a new chakra control exercise that accumulated nearly 200 hours of exhaustion and then he had to deal with the old monkey. Of course, it was a good day, and he accomplished a couple of things, but that didn't change the fact that it was damned exhausting. Naruto closed his eyes and appeared in the seal. He walked to the one nice house on the edge of the village that wasn't laid to waste. It was a modest, 2-story mansion modeled after the ancient Japanese-style architecture with wooden inlays and rice paper doors. He enjoyed the Uzumaki swirl with the Namikaze crest embedded in the center that hung over the door. He walked into the home he made for Kurama's human form, and he enjoyed the soft aroma of the kitsune and lavender. Well, I guess you earned a night of cuddles, Kurama said coyly as he entered the house. Naruto chuckled tiredly. Yeah, that exercise was fun. I will add it to the routine. Yawn. Are you ready for bed? The redhead smiled at him with a seductive lick of her hips. Well, I suppose a deal is a deal. She stood up and joined the tired representation of Naruto's consciousness as he made his way to the king-size bed in the master bedroom. Kurama didn't know why she cared so much or why she decided to tend to her jailer. She knew everything about him, and she knew the darkness he carried. In the past, she would have exploited that darkness for her own ends, and she had been tempted to try. However, after he worked so hard to change the mindscape for her and asked for nothing in return, she couldn't bring herself to do it. After that it was one pleasant surprise after another when it came to the human boy, and before she knew it, she felt happy to be with him. When she saw how he treated and valued Itachi, even though they were children, it stirred up something in Kurama that had never been present before. After Itachi's departure from the village, she had been crushed by the endless waves of self-loathing, regret, anger and sadness, but it was the loneliness that did her in. She identified so completely with his sense of loneliness that she knew that this human child would be able to understand her. From there, the seeds of affection were sprinkled, and the light of the last year after she had motivated the boy confirmed her suspicions. The light, that is what drew Kurama into Naruto. It was buried under the endless hate of the villagers, the pain of his past and the longing for Itachi. However, once that light was unburdened, it shone so brightly throughout the mindscape. It was brilliant, warm, endless and reserved. It was reserved for those select few that the boy trusted, and Kurama was grateful that she was one of said few. As she cuddled into the sleepy Naruto, she couldn't catch the contented purr that escaped her lips as Naruto pulled her close. Even this representation of him carried the warmth of the sun and the safety of her father's embrace. The kitsune closed her eyes and enjoyed a nap in the safety of his arms with a smile on her lips. If only they could have stayed that way forever. Anko giggled as she bypassed the seals into Naruto's true apartment. She was flattered that the Gaki trusted her enough to add her chakra signature to the seal array. Wait, she thought, he isn't a Gaki anymore. He is a 14-year-old Jonin and he is now completely legal. With that thought in mind, Anko slinked into Naruto's room to give him a thank you present for her latest interrogation victim. Naruto felt the sheets move and he felt the ample bosom pressed into his chest. He pulled the woman further into his embrace, thinking that he was still within the mindscape with Kurama. His mind settled and began slipping back into the land of dreams before he felt something that defied his will to go to sleep. It was a comfortable and warm sensation, but rather than calm his heart, it caused it to pump faster as the sensation became more defined, and Naruto's eyes opened. In the darkness of his room at night, Naruto saw the bobbing under the sheets, and he recognized these sheets as the ones he used in the real world, meaning he was no longer in the mindscape. His head flew back into the pillows, and he closed his eyes to regain enough focus to figure out what the hell was going on. That was when he was able to identify Anko's chakra signature and he didn't know how to feel about it. Well, he felt amazing as his cock was sucked just right by the warm mouth of Anko and the things that woman could do. Oh Kami, Naruto's thoughts blanked as he threw his head back once again. Where was he? Oh yeah, the things that woman could do with her tongue. Naruto found that his hands were already on top of the head that was under the sheets. His hands subconsciously guiding the up and down motion of bliss. This only lasted for a couple of minutes before Naruto released thick ropes of life-giving seed into Anko's mouth. He had done his best to warn her, but he was so wrapped up in his own ecstasy that it came out as a mumble. He heard Anko moan before her body shivered hard enough to shake the whole bed and then she squirted all over the foot of the bed. For Anko's part, she couldn't stop herself from giving Naruto a little thank you gift. She originally just wanted to cuddle with him, but once the thought of waking him up with a BJ surprise entered her mind, well, it was going to happen. Anko enjoyed the feeling of his growing erection in her mouth. Sure, this may be considered rape, but hey, you can't rape the willing and Anko knew that Naruto would be willing. Hell, she had teased him with innuendos as sexual jokes for the last year. She always said that it would be when he earned his hishiate, so that was as good as scheduling this surprise in Anko's mind. When she started the fellatio, it was original to tease the boy and follow through on a promise. That all changed when she got the first lick and taste of his pre-cum. It sent shivers of pleasure down her spine and spurred her forward, onward and deeper into the experience. The intermediate tastes of pre-cum moistened her womanhood and invigorated her in a way that no soldier pill could. Finally, Anko got to the climax, and she couldn't believe what she just experienced in her mouth. Warmth and pleasure shot through every nerve of Anko's body, and it electrified every erogenous zone she had in a way she had never experienced before. Pleasurable white-hot fire rippled through Anko's body and lit her aflame in orgasmic bliss. Her womanhood moistened, clamped, shivered and exploded in the most powerful release of her life. This manifested as orgasmic fluids ripping through the thin barrier of Anko's thong and the rich liquid drenched the base of Naruto's bed. The room was saturated with the smell of her release, and it spurred the two forward. Anko. Naruto panted out in a pleasurable gasp, what are you doing? Anko snaked up from under the covers once her mind cleared from the mind-blowing orgasm. She placed a searing kiss on his lips that joined the two in a union of lust. I told you, Gaki, that once you earned your hishiate, you would be mine. She seductive smile on her lips made Naruto shiver in happiness and lust. Anko, you know I like you but. Naruto began protesting meagerly. Anko suppressed the sadness that wanted to well up in her chest. I know, Ruto. I don't want your love. I want your body and companionship. Naruto didn't know what to feel or say. He would never want to use someone like that. You deserve better than that, Anko-chan. Maybe, Anko said while shrugging it off, but what I want right now is you. Not because I owe you anything, but because I choose you. Why? Naruto asked with genuine sincerity and with his heart exposed to her. Why not? Anko asked softly and seriously. You are the only man to ever know the real me. You are the only man to accept me for me, and I think if you thought about it that you love me for me. Maybe not as a future wife, but at least as a companion. That's the problem, Anko-chan, Naruto said softly while caressing her face. You deserve so much more than that. You are an amazing woman, and I don't want you to feel anything less than fully loved.
The way I am, I don't know if I could give my full self to you.
Anko leaned up and placed a kiss on his lips, And I am telling you that what you do give me is more than I could ever ask for. She pushed him fully onto his back and mounted him. Will you deny me? Within the seal, Kurama had been watching this, torn between understanding and rage. She was upset that Anko interrupted her slumber and cuddle time with Naruto. However, she understood everything that Anko was feeling because she felt much of the same herself. She knew very well that Naruto was in the process of healing, and she didn't know if Naruto would ever fully accept her. The worst part was that she couldn't blame him because she felt the genuine nature of his love for Itachi. It was the purest thing she had ever felt in all of her existence, and she knew it was the core that made Naruto into the man he was, is and will become. Allow it, Ruto. Kurama said softly through the mind link. For I understand her and think of you in the same way. Q. Naruto protested softly and thought. You both deserve so much more than I can offer you. That is for us to decide, Naruto. Kurama countered passionately. We get to choose who we love, and we get to choose whether or not we can accept what you're offering. Naruto projected a kiss on Kurama's forehead before he locked eyes with Anko once more. I will not. If you choose to hold on to what I share with you, then I will deny you nothing. Naruto answered the beautiful, purple-haired snake mistress of Konoha. The same goes for you, Q. Naruto thought before devoting his complete attention to Anko. Anko smiled magnificently down at Naruto, and she pulled the bottom of the white t-shirt up over her head, exposing the magnificent 38DD breasts to the cool night air in Naruto's room. She leaned down and placed a smacker of a kiss on Naruto's lips. Naruto returned the kiss with every bit of training, passion and lust he could muster. The lip lock lasted for an indefinite amount of time as the two tongues danced in a slow two-step at first. The dance intensified into a waltz as they fell into a rhythm with each other, then it escalated into a salsa. Anko had never been so content and turned on in her life. She had waited for this young man for over a year, and she had suppressed her lust for so long. From the day he had removed her curse seal, her simple lust and curiosity had morphed into something resembling love. She poured her soul into the kiss and let her hands roam down Naruto's body as his length let her know that it was rearing to go once more. Her fingernails scratched against the toned chest that belonged to an 18-year-old Olympic athlete as her mind became clouded in lust. Anko nibbled on Naruto's lip just hard enough to get a trickle of blood, and her womanhood clamped in excitement. Her juices dripped from her already saturated panties onto Naruto's chest, and she could tell that her fingers were spurring him forward. When she felt fingertips coated in a mixture of water and fire chakra kneaded her ass cheeks, her excitement escalated into another climax, rocked her world and temporarily paused her ministrations. Her mind was so clouded that she squeaked in surprise when Naruto reversed the position and kissed his way down to her womanhood. Naruto pulled down the soaked purple panties as Anko instinctively hiked her waist up off the bed. The lips of her pussy were light pink, and they glistened as the moonlight reflected off of the moisture of fresh orgasms. He licked his lips and teased Anko by placing soft kisses on the nook of her pelvis and right leg. He placed a featherlight kiss on the delicious bud before kissing the other nook in a slow and teasing fashion. He laughed internally at Anko's growl of frustration, and he didn't resist Anko's hand that gripped his hair and shoved his face into her drenched vagina. Naruto's eyes widened at the wonderful flavor of Anko's pussy. The interior of the vagina was smooth and slightly ribbed, and it tasted wonderfully of strawberries and something else pleasurable that Naruto couldn't quite identify. His tongue tended to its task, and he intermittently nibbled on the exposed butt of Anko's clitoris, which always earned a louder moan of pleasure. It didn't take long for the first release of delicious fluids to grace Naruto's taste buds, but he didn't let Anko off with just one. After 15 minutes of eating Naruto out, Naruto kissed his way up to Anko's lips, making a quick divergence from his path to tend to each budding, nickel-sized nipple that was the same soft pink color of Anko's womanhood. His tongue teased around them, and his teeth nibbled on each bud. Just enough to keep Anko going. He continued his trek to Anko's lips, and the woman had recently recovered her sanity from the pleasure of back-to-back-to-back orgasms. He let Anko know just how much she meant to him with this kiss, and he then rolled off of her and pulled her into him. When Anko whined, he spoke softly. Not tonight, Anko-chan. He kissed her forehead and pulled her deeper into his chest. This is more than enough for our first night together. Anko whimpered more and slapped his chest. No fair, Ruto. I have waited for a full year for you to graduate. I have had no other for that whole time. I know and I appreciate that. Naruto answered softly. I just want my first time to mean more than losing myself to passion. Anko ceased her protest as she listened to the beat of Naruto's heart. Fine, Ruto, but I still have first dibs. A damned proud godfather's notes. To my valued readers, I hope you enjoyed that experience. To the women reading my gallant novel, Naruto did not kiss and tell. No, alas, It was the sexy and terrifying Anko that recounted this night for me and inspired this tale. She said that words couldn't truly do it justice, but I hope this mortal man satisfied you. There are many such encounters to look forward to, but I do not wish for this gallant tale to simply be smut. We have suffered alongside my godson, and this is the first taste of the joys you will experience in this tale. I kid you not, if I were a lesser man, I would have killed my godson out of jealousy. Remember that I write this story after many years and Naruto had the chance to reconcile many of the feelings that plagued him early in his life. I can tell you that Miss Mitarashi never regretted that night to this day though. Team 7 and a weird conversation. After a weekend of training with Kat, lesser known as Yuzuki Yugao, the blade mistress of Onbu, Naruto was happy with the progress he made in the 2 days. Yugao was more than excited to see how fast Naruto progressed through the katas with the aid of 200 clones. It let her focus more on the practical aspects and she came to the decision that Naruto needed a 68-inch katana, which was longer than normal, and far longer than the wakizashi he had been using thus far. He remembered her lecture on how the blade needs to fit the body type and he could suppress his smile when she complimented his speed and stature. All in all, the weekend was a nice retreat and Naruto was happy to meet her boyfriend, Hayate Gecko, on Sunday. The two agreed to train him every now and then when they could make time and it was something that Naruto truly looked forward to. Naruto decided that he enjoyed learning Kenjutsu almost as much as Fuinjutsu, but for completely different reasons. Kenjutsu was strict in its teachings and forgiving in its mistakes. An errant swing only need be followed by another swing with the correct technique to redeem it. Inversely, Fuinjutsu was actually pretty liberal and scattered in its teaching methods while being incredibly punishing in its mistakes. Naruto had lost count of the shadow clones that died horrible deaths from experimental seals in their variation trials. He was grateful for the shadow clones because both arts would take a lifetime to master without them. Naruto slid the door to the classroom open and he instinctively knew that he would abhor the outcome of this day. He ignored the glares of Team Sasuke and walked to the teenagers that had actually proven worthy of the title friend. He beamed a gigawatt smile at Hinata and stifled a giggle as her blush went atomic. He spread the smile to Kuji and Shikamaru and they returned with a lazy wave and a wave with a potato chip in hand. Naruto took his customary seat and waited for things to get started. If his suspicions were correct, then he would be on Sasuke's team. This made him cringe, but it would also help him keep his promise to Itachi. He had tried sporadically for the last couple years, but the duck-butt emo made it difficult. Of course, he thought his sister was responsible for the massacre still and that is an immovable wedge between their friendship. Naruto would need Sasuke to be far more mature and controlled before he was able to share the truth with him. In the Hokage's office, there was a meeting of the new Jonin sensei and the 9 Jonin watched the crystal ball while they got the final confirmation of their teams. Hiruzen cleared his throat and garnered their attention. Now, I would like to hear your final decisions on who you wish to have on your teams. We will start with you, Kurenai. Kurenai shuffled nervously as the newest Jonin in the ranks. I want Hinata Hyuga, Naruto Uzumaki, and Shino Aburame. Hiruzen nodded to his son, Asuma Sarutobi, and the man spoke, I want Ino Shikacho Gen 2. Hiruzen's eyes fixed on the latecomer, Kakashi Hatake. I want Sasuke Uchiha, Naruto Uzumaki and I genuinely don't care. Hiruzen chuckled, well, it appears like we have 2 people that want Naruto. I will allow you to put forward your best arguments. Ladies first. Kurenai cleared her throat before speaking. Well, Naruto is the only one thus far to break Hinata out of her shell. In the last year, he has done more for her than I have done in 4 years. As for Naruto, his sensory ability is the best in the village which makes him a perfect match for the tracking team. She hesitated here, not knowing if she should share this information that Anko told her, but she pushed forward. He also studied Genjutsu under Itachi Uchiha and, according to Anko, he is very good with it. Hiruzen nodded while nibbling idly on his pipe. Good reasoning. Now, Kakashi? Kakashi looked up from a little red book, the newest one in Jiraiya's series. You know the reason I can't say aloud. On top of that, Naruto is a good rival for Sasuke, and he will help him grow stronger once they settle their feelings. Sasuke needs to be humbled and open up and Naruto has that effect on people. Plus, he is the strongest in the class and will fit well on a frontline assault team. The Jonin in the know shuffled nervously and Kurenai protested. Those two hate each other. The class is literally divided because of them. Naruto nearly killed him not long ago. There were mutterings from the Jonin that supported Kurenai's statement. Hiruzen removed the pipe from his mouth and set it down on the desk with a deliberate click. Kurenai, I understand your points. You both made good contributions, but Konoha shinobi under my command need to learn to set aside their grudges for the good of the village. I will let Kakashi have Naruto and Kiba Inuzuka can round out your tracking team. I hate doing this to Naruto, but like every other decision in a fanfic, I have a plan for it. Sit back, relax and enjoy the ride. Sure enough, Naruto hated the outcome of the team placements. He enjoyed the nervous glances that Iruka sent periodically towards Naruto. It seems like Naruto made quite the impression on his sensei. Alas, Naruto couldn't suppress the groan that escaped his throat when his worst fears were confirmed, and he was placed on Sasuke and Sakura's team. His friends gave him pity pats on his back before they walked out of the classroom to join their Jonin sensei. Naruto retreated to the comfort of the mindscape and spent the following 3 hours with Kurama. Naruto reset the mindscape and enjoyed watching the massive fox form of his friend ravage the village as hundreds of his clones ran around screaming. Kurama's feral smirk was all-encompassing as she smashed buildings and clones alike. After 30 minutes of wanton destruction, the fox shrank into her human form and joined Naruto under the shade of a tree he was leaning against. Thanks for that, Ruto-kun, Kurama giggled. Your clones are so much more enjoyable to smash than those mindless drones you created. Naruto shrugged, what can I say? They commit to their roles. Did one of them actually hurt you with that fireball? Kurama growled, it hit me right on the nose. Moreover, I ban your clones from using water jutsu again. I hate the feeling of damp fur. No can do, Naruto teased. If I'm going to use the chakra to summon them, then I'm going to get some training out of this. I still get all of their memories in here. Kurama pouted petulantly, but it gets my fur all wet. It is that or you can make do with the shades. I think that is what I'm going to call the projections of the villagers. Kurama huffed, fine. So, what are your plans for the snake mistress? Naruto sighed, you know I am still unsure, Q. After you said the same thing, well, it was a lot to take in. Ruto, just let it go and have fun. Sex is not the end all be all you make it out to be. Let's play it out, shall we? And we can use you and Anko to make it less awkward, Kurama said in a chiding tone. Play what out? Naruto asked while cocking his head to the side. The worst case scenario, Kurama said blatantly. Let's say that you have sex with Anko, and you guys keep it casual. She clearly wants it and I know that you do too. Okay. Naruto responded cautiously. Worst case scenario is that it blows up in your face when one of you develops real feelings that aren't reciprocated by the other. She then goes off and finds a boyfriend and you go on with your life until you can find Itachi-chan again. Kurama spelled it out and saw Naruto wince.
I don't want to lose her.
I want her as a friend and I think she would be an amazing lover, but every day she spends with me is another day she isn't finding her soul mate, Naruto said quietly. And that is her decision. Naruto, she is a grown woman, and she can make her choices. She won't find a soulmate in this village, other than you. The way you feel when you look into her eyes, how would you describe it? Kurama asked, guiding the boy to a difficult conclusion. Naruto thought a bit and hesitated before responding. Well, I feel like I see her, the real her. Kurama huffed, you are deliberately avoiding using the word soul. You see into her soul and because she knows your pain, she can see into yours. When you look into my eyes, what do you see? Naruto locked gazes with Kurama and his eyes softened and tears began sparkling on his retinas. I see pain, loneliness, and a vindicated hatred, but there is far more under that. Underneath all that is a woman that wants nothing more than to be held, loved and cherished. I see a golden heart and pure existence that is protected by olive walls you erected. His soft voice echoed in Kurama's ears as tender words that reached the core of her being. As he was speaking, their faces were naturally getting closer and closer together. Kurama didn't pull back once the trance was broken. She kept her face inches from his own and her red eyes flickered as they locked onto his azure pools. So deep, they went so deep and contained so much. I see a man with a heart of gold and a will of fire that burns hotter than the sun. Your light reaches all those who aren't blinded by hatred and even then, it still shines through. You hold those precious to you within the protective layer of your heart and you would sooner give your life than betray their trust. That is truly why you feel like sleeping with me and Anko would be a bad thing. You think you would be betraying the love you hold for Itachi, and you refuse to let that love go. Naruto nodded slowly while maintaining eye contact with Kurama. Exactly, he whispered, transfixed by her soft voice and sweet scent. Kurama closed the rest of the minimal distance and placed a tender kiss on her lips. Baka. Naruto kept his eyes closed and lips extended until Kurama called him an idiot. He looked up with genuinely confused azure orbs. What do you mean? Kurama huffed, Naruto, Itachi told you to move on because she wanted you to be happy. I have no doubt that you will see her again but get over it and move on. Think of it as gaining experience so you can blow Itachi's mind. If that doesn't work, think of it as making as many women as you can happy. If that doesn't work, then I will give you a mission, since you think clearer when you think of things as missions. Naruto cocked his head to the side, now more confused than before. How would that help anything? Kurama huffed, Ruto, how many orgasms did Anko have this weekend? 42. Naruto answered without thinking it through. That is my point. 42 orgasms and you didn't even fuck her. Share that love with the women of the world, Kurama said pointedly. Why? He asked innocently. Naruto, most women don't even get off once in a full session. Most don't have that many orgasms in a lifetime, much less a weekend. I want to desensitize you to sex so that you can understand why Anko, I and others in the future will want you, Kurama said. Why are you so passionate about this? Naruto asked while rubbing Kurama's whiskers with his thumb. Because, Naruto. Her voice softened and she was speaking in a self-conscious whisper. If you can't do this, then there is no chance you would ever share your full self with me. Naruto reeled back at that, and he wanted to protest. Sure, he had only kissed and cuddled Kurama, but he could admit that he kept a wall up. He reflected further and realized that he used the kisses as proof that he was moving on, but he wasn't really. He was guarding the deepest and most important part of his heart from women that genuinely cared about him. What would you have me do? Naruto asked sheepishly. Kurama firmed her resolve and locked eyes with Naruto. Open up. Share the love you have with the world and don't hold back. Go out there and fuck, fornicate and make love. Enjoy your life, and the next time you meet Itachi, do the same to her. Once you do that, then you will know for sure that she is the one for you and not some childhood crush that you idolized and blocked your heart from the small bits of love that you can find in this cesspool of a village. Naruto fell back on extended arms in shock. How would that help? You make the women of the world happy, and the men will follow. I am not saying to treat women like sex toys, but think about the happiness you have given to Anko. Now, imagine giving that happiness to others.
I am not following.
Naruto admitted. I get that you want to sleep with me, and you want me to sleep with Anko. I can wrap my head around that, but why add in people I don't even know? Other than Senin needing inspiration, he added in thought, to break down your walls for good, Naruto. There are people out there that will see you for you. You instinctively push them away to guard your heart. Just try it. Fuck Anko's brains out, come in here and do the same to me. Then, the next woman that asks for it, give it to her good, Kurama said perversely. Once again, I get you want me to lower my walls, but wouldn't it be disrespectful to fuck other women? Naruto was lost in the insanity of the moment. No, not now anyways. When you settle down and get married, then you will have your wives to keep you satiated, Kurama said. Now, it is just practice. Wives? Naruto asked. Kurama shrugged, male foxes impregnate any number of females. It is the natural order of things. Kurama huffed in frustration at this point. Okay, Naruto, here is your mission. Your reward for completion will be access to one tail of my power. Do you accept? This caught Naruto's attention and he sat up in a listening posture. Okay, I will hear it out, and if Anko is okay with it, then I will accept. Kurama nodded, that is acceptable. Your mission is to fuck Anko's brains out, come into the seal and do the same to me, and then you are not allowed to deny a woman until you meet Itachi again. You are not allowed to seek out female conquests, but you will be allowed to reciprocate female flirting, and you cannot say no if they engage. Naruto looked dubious. Okay, and I get to use one tail of power if I play along? Yup. Kurama replied cheerily, seeing that this approach may actually work. Make it 3 and you have a deal. Naruto replied with a cheeky grin on his face. 1 for Anko, 1 for you, and 1 for the unknown number of females that you are forcing onto me. Kurama tapped a slender finger to her lip. You will have to train up to use that much of my chakra, but I will allow it. Also, this seal will limit it, so we will have to find a way around that. Naruto shook his head at the craziness of the conversation. Senin is going to have a field day when he hears about this. Kurama giggled. If it helps him make more good books, then I am all for it. Yeah, that book he made about me and Itachi was pretty good. I am just mad he made them have sex at the end, Naruto said while shaking his head. Ruto, Kurama said, regaining his attention to see the kitsune tapping her lips expectantly. Naruto leaned forward and gave her a kiss. When you see Anko tonight, have her put her hand on the seal. Naruto nodded dumbly and returned to kissing the enchantingly beautiful kitsune. That whole conversation only took 2 hours, and Naruto exited the mindscape when he felt a familiar Jonin-level chakra signature approaching. Sure enough, gravity-defying, spiky silver hair peeked through the door and gathered the team. Sakura's scream deafened everyone within a square mile before Naruto used the sunshine to go to the roof. The introductions were just as annoying as he expected, and Kakashi gave away no new information. They were let go after 15 minutes with their Jonin sensei until the morning the next day for their true Jonin test. Naruto returned to his apartment after a round of training in the Forest of Death. His sweat dampened his shirt and he walked into his apartment while wiping the sweat off of his face with the lower part of his shirt. This gave Anko a full view of the ripped abdominal muscles of Naruto, which immediately made the snake mistress vacate the couch to tend to the muscles. "Hey Anko-chan, do you live here now?" he said cheekily. "Yup." Anko responded immediately. "I like this place better than my old shack in the forest. It has better cuddle pillows." Naruto chuckled at that. "Hey, wanna join me in the bath? There is something we need to talk about." Anko swallowed the girly squeal that wanted to escape from her throat, and she threw on her sexy mask to cover up her true excitement. Ara, Ruto-kun, are you finally going to give me what I wanted?" Naruto shrugged. "No masks in my presence and maybe. You need to talk with someone first." Anko cocked her head to the side in confusion. "Who?" Naruto dipped his head towards his exposed stomach and Anko's eyes widened. "Why? I will let her tell you. Now, are you going to join me in the bath or not?" Naruto asked as he began walking toward the bathroom. Anko followed behind excitedly as she threw her tan trench coat onto the couch. She sloshed into the bath in front of Naruto and leaned back into his lap. As her head rested contentedly on his shoulder, she opened her eyes and realized she was no longer in the bathroom. She was sitting buck naked on the porch of a house that overlooked Konoha. She looked across and saw a stunningly beautiful red-headed woman that matched or surpassed Anko in sexiness, and she was her better in beauty. The kitsune snapped her fingers and Anko was in her normal garb. Naruto relaxed in the bath for Kami knows how long. It was comfortable in the tub with Anko leaning into him. He felt so at peace that he likely fell asleep, but it didn't matter. Anko's startled motion brought him back to the land of the living, and the purple-haired beauty spun around to lock eyes with him while spilling water out of the tub. "I accept," she said simply before she crashed her lips into his. She came at him like a ravenous hyena, and the only thing she would eat was his lust. She loved into him and pulled on his love like the succubus of legend. Naruto cared not, he was willing to give just as good as he received, and he was caught up in the moment. All doubt was left in a faraway place to rot, and Naruto was committed to fulfilling his mission and making Anko happy. That one thought drove him forward: make Anko happy. Jiraiya's gallant rendition of the lemon time. After kissing for a bit, Naruto channeled chakra to his body and lifted Anko out of the water as he stood up. She transitioned naturally as her legs slipped from his grip and positioned herself face down and ass up for Naruto. Her hands were flat on the tiled walls of the bathroom, and she looked over her shoulder at him. The lust in her eyes demanded that she be denied her prize no further. Naruto positioned himself behind her as he remembered some of the lessons from Ninjutsu level 3, which Anko was more than happy to provide for him. He used his right hand with fire chakra to warm up her vagina as he slid 2 fingers into the beautiful pink slit of Anko Mitarashi. The moans of the snake mistress filled Naruto's ears and engorged his cock to its breaking point. Any more blood and it would burst from the anticipation. After prepping the area with his attentive fingers and getting the kunoichi revved up, Naruto placed the head of his cock at the entrance to the heavenly hole. He used his hand to rub the head up and down against the slit in a teasing fashion, and Anko moaned loudly in protest. After 30 seconds of teasing, Naruto centered the head and began pushing in. Anko moaned in pleasure at the girth and length of Naruto's shaft. Her vagina spread and clamped down on the foreign, yet welcome, addition, and she looked down between her legs and gasped. Naruto wasn't even half-sheathed yet and she felt this full. Naruto paused halfway and leaned over Anko. His left hand tended to her nipple and his right thumb and index finger gave her clitoris the attention it desired. When Naruto added water chakra to his fingertips, Anko screamed out loud as her first release of the session exploded onto Naruto's cock. Naruto timed his thrust with Anko's release and the sexy kunoichi's knees gave out due to the power of the orgasm. Naruto caught Anko before she could fall into the water of the tub, and he looped both hands under her knees and guided her to the wall. Now that he was fully sheathed, he pulled out slowly, which made Anko gasp as her breath returned to her and her mind cleared. Just as her mind was clearing, she was pushed roughly against the wall and Naruto began pumping in and out with vigor. The wet slapping of the bathroom mixed in beautiful harmony with Anko's moans, and the snake mistress had her eyes roll into the back of her head once again. The rhythm, pace, intensity and force were just right as Naruto's sword impaled her repeatedly and forced her womanhood up into her stomach. Once Anko grew accustomed to the pace, Naruto stopped her from spinning around by leaning his upper body into hers. Then, He hooked his thumb into Anko's ass and used that additional pleasure to stir her up even more. The new and unexpected stimulus wrenched another orgasm out of Anko, and she screamed in pleasure. Her tongue was hanging loosely from her mouth and her eyes were rolled back and she could no longer think rationally. She was purely operating on autopilot and instinct, but the pleasure of the event stuck with her. All her mind could process was the intense, orgasmic bliss brought on by the rhythmic slapping and vaginal pounding. Naruto felt his cock swell as he was close, and he saw that Anko was pretty much clocked out. He didn't know if that was a good thing, but he would count it as a positive for now until he could get some proper feedback from his lover. He continued thrusting into her as the pulsing in his cock intensified and he could no longer restrain it. He crashed forward with a violent slap and pushed Anko's body flat against the wall with his own. The kunoichi moaned loudly in pleasure as the already tight space was forced to make room for an admittedly sizable quantity of semen. The life-giving milk of mankind forced its way in and filled every spare space within Anko before it began spilling out on the side of Naruto's shaft. The kunoichi had finally lost consciousness due to pleasure overload and Naruto wanted to make sure that she was taken care of. He pulled out of the kunoichi with a wet popping sound and Naruto caught her before she could fall. He guided her into the cool waters of the bath to rinse her off once more and cool her down. Anko didn't regain consciousness for the whole night. She simply slept peacefully cuddled into Naruto and claimed her spot on his chest. She moaned in her dreams, and she fidgeted as he dream-stimulated her physical form. Naruto simply smiled before closing his eyes and going into the mindscape to make good on his second part of the deal. Kurama was more than excited and the fact that Konoha was burning was the proof of that. Sorry, after watching that I needed to vent a little bit. It was so hot. The kitsune beauty said before jumping towards him and claiming her mate. Jiraiya's notes, tuck the boner into waistband, check. Oh, whoops, y'all weren't meant to hear that. Well, my godson finally became a man, and he did it in a way that only he could. I am mighty proud of him for his performance, and I once again thank Anko for sharing the details. It was quite the story, and I lost a fair amount of blood in the production of the high-quality entertainment for my honored readers. Looking back on it, Naruto still couldn't explain why he agreed to Kurama's proposal. He just shrugged and looked blankly at me when I asked him why. He said it didn't matter anymore and I tended to agree with the gaki. It didn't matter anymore. It was just pure and untainted inspiration for my creations. I hope you enjoyed my artistic rendition of their night together. Alright guys, that's it for the video. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe. As always, the rest of the story is already out over on Patreon, link to that will be in the description. Anyways, until next time, peace.